Ever since everyone found out I was the false heir, my classmates were thrilled, not to mock me, but because they'd finally seen what a poor person looks like, and finally had someone who could claim the poverty aid slot. My adoptive parents weren't the bitter, cruel type you'd read about in stories. They didn't throw me out onto the street. When Troy sneered and jabbed at me, nobody paid him any attention. They all came to ask what I planned to do instead. I told them, now that your real son is back, I'll go find my birth parents. I took a sip of hot tea. Victor, my adoptive father, always thought I'd been raised well, clean, sharp, decisive, but blood is blood, and no matter how polished I was, I still wasn't his own. Victor had no reason to ask me to stay. He said plainly, the Harwick family will give you $3 million. After that, your life is your own to figure out. I answered, all right, I'll carry the gratitude in my heart. Victor gave a flat hum of acknowledgement. Pack your things, he said. Liu will drive you. I set down my cups, stood up, and headed upstairs. At the turn of the staircase, Troy's voice came from behind me. Your birth parents are really poor. Too much luggage, and there'll be nowhere to put it. You won't need the luxury stuff either. Don't make a bad first impression. I glanced at Auntie Rose, who was waiting nearby, and said, anything I don't take, throw it out. Troy froze. Throw it all out? Those were limited edition designer pieces, any single one worth a small fortune. How was that any different from burning money? I found that thought amusing. I went straight upstairs, grabbed a small backpack, packed nothing but my documents and phone, left everything else behind, and walked out of the Harwick estate without a second glance. The car dropped me at an old residential complex. I looked up at the unit number, confirmed it was right, and knocked on the iron gate. Through the worn lines of her face, I knew instantly. This was my birth mother. I smiled softly and said, I think I'm your son. Helen froze. We stared at each other through the iron bars. I asked politely, may I come in? Helen snapped back to herself, quickly unlocked the gate and welcomed me in. She poured a glass of warm water and handed it to me, her expression a little stiff and uncertain. I took a sip and gave a brief explanation of the mix-up. Troy is the Harwick family's real son, and I am yours. Ray and Helen had once wondered if this might be possible, but faced with their own flesh and blood standing there so refined and composed, they couldn't help feeling flustered. I had already reviewed the Linden family's records and had a rough picture of everyone. Is there anything you'd like to ask me? This felt nothing like a family reunion. It felt more like a business negotiation. Helen nervously asked what I'd like to eat. I smiled softly. Nothing in particular, I said. Helen glanced at Ray and got to her feet. I'll head to the market then. Call Lyra and Nora. Tell them to come home. Hearing the iron gate clang outside, I got up and stepped out. I met my birth sisters. With a warm, easy smile, I said, I'm Adrian. At the sound of that low, pleasant voice, Nora felt a small flutter in her chest. She met my eyes in disbelief. You don't mind how plain it is here? Nora felt a little more at ease. Dad already told me everything, she said. This is our little sister, Bee. Helen came back from the market and went straight into the kitchen, as if she was trying to avoid talking to me. I sat on the small sofa with Ray. The other three sat cross-legged on the floor. The room felt packed. Ray let out a long sigh. You've seen how it is. All of us squeezed into less than 600 square feet. I'll rent you a place outside and send you a monthly allowance. I met Ray's eyes, calm and steady. Are you saying I'm not welcome to live here? Ray quickly shook his head. Of course not. I just thought you might not be comfortable. With that settled, my mood lifted. If you don't mind, I'll stay here from now on, Nora offered. We'll get you a bigger bed. The guest room sofa is fine for me. I'm planning to renovate the layout a bit anyway. Bee lit up when she heard there'd be a new desk, bouncing on the spot with excitement. Helen carried dishes out from the kitchen. Dinner's ready, she said. On the table sat a pot of rich fish soup and a plate of generously sized steamed shrimp. Bee's eyes lit up. These were her favorites, dishes she only got to eat during holidays. I'd grown up eating the finest food, so this spread didn't move me the way it might have, but the care behind it was impossible to miss. The awkward tension at the table melted away. I'd arrived with nothing but money. I figured I'd head out and pick up a couple of outfits nearby. Bee eagerly volunteered to show me the way, so I took her hand and we headed out. Shopping used to mean a private, very important person suite. Browsing the racks myself was a new experience. I picked out 3 or 4 casual outfits and grabbed a pair of sneakers while I was at it. On the way home, hand in hand with Bee, we passed a candied hawthorn stall. I caught her sneaking glances at the glass display case, then quietly looking away like she knew better than to want it. I bought her a strawberry one. Bee's face broke into pure joy as she held it. She grinned and held it up toward me. Adrian, you have one too. I paused for just a moment. I ruffled Bee's hair. I'm not big on sweets, I told her. Bee counted the strawberries on the skewer. 1 for Nora, 1 for Lyra, 1 for Mom, 1 for Dad. Just enough to go around. I smiled and gave a small laugh, then took her hand and headed back to the complex. From a distance I spotted Lyra rummaging through something. She pulled a doll out of a battered cardboard box. At the sound of my footsteps, she quickly hid it behind her back. She watched me approach, step by step. My expression stayed flat. No need to hide it, I said. I already saw. Lyra lowered her eyes, like a child caught in the act, and slowly brought the doll back out. Troy used to love this doll. He'd hold it every night to fall asleep. I never thought he'd throw even this away. This wasn't the only thing he threw away. I said it flatly, and it landed. I sighed quietly inside. Pain is what makes people wake up. Out loud, I said, if you want it, take it home. She tossed the doll back into the box and gave me a bitter smile. That night, a small electric fan was creaking away in the summer heat. Through the thin, worn windows came the noise of neighbors, voices, shuffling, all of it bleeding through. I woke in the middle of the night to hushed voices. Nora and her parents were whispering just outside. Adrian probably can't sleep on this mattress. He was tossing and turning all night. Let's get him a good mattress. My scholarship comes in next week. I'll cover it then. Their voices were barely above a whisper, but I heard every word. By the time I got dressed and came out, Nora and Ray had already left. I asked asked Helen, "Where did Ray and Nora go?" Helen poured me a glass of warm water. Nora went back to university early. Ray drove her to the train station on his ride-hailing shift. Morning tickets are cheaper. Nora was clearly someone who pushed frugality to its absolute limit, and yet she didn't hesitate to spend money on a softer mattress for me. Something about that sat strangely in my chest. Lyra had left early for her part-time job. Bea was out playing with the neighborhood kids. Helen had gone to the craft workshop for the day. I had the place to myself. At the sound of the door, I got up and opened it. Sienna burst in loaded with tools. "I haven't even eaten breakfast yet," she announced. I walked her through the rooms and told her what I had in mind for the renovation. Sienna's face scrunched into a knot. She looked pained. "Your old mattress alone cost more than $20,000. Now you want me to redo the whole place for $20,000? I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "If it were easy, I wouldn't need you." Once she'd measured every corner of the apartment, a rough layout began to take shape in her mind. We went back to the living room and sat down. Sienna closed her tablet. "You're really staying here? Tired of the fine dining?" I smiled, letting the question hang. "Do you know why the Linden family went bankrupt? I've heard a rumor, something about Nora bumping into the Harwick third daughter's boyfriend at work, and the daughter destroying the Linden family over it. On the surface, yes, but I know the truth better than anyone. Nora wasn't the one who caused it." Suddenly there was noise at the door. Ray rushed in. "Didn't you go out on a ride?" I asked. "Forgot my phone charger, just came back for it." His eyes landed on the person beside me. Ray thought she looked familiar. I took the chance to introduce her. "This is my friend Sienna." I asked her to come look at the layout. Ray went completely still. He had heard of Sienna, a celebrated design prodigy. She had already won numerous awards at a young age. Countless people had tried to pay her to take on their projects. Sienna wouldn't even give them a glance. "I won't interrupt your work," Ray said. "I'll grab the cable and get out of your way." Terrified of holding Sienna up, Ray snatched the cable and hurried out. The two of us didn't linger on small talk. Sienna rushed off to work on the plans. I gathered my documents and stopped by the craft workshop on the way out. 7 or 8 women were busy inside, labeling products and chatting as they worked. I called out from the doorway, "Helen, I'm heading out for some errands. I won't be home for lunch." Helen smiled warmly. "All right, don't be too late tonight." I made my way through the crowded market intersection. A black McLaren sat parked at the side of the road. I pulled open the rear door and got in. The girl beside me had soft, warm features. She'd had her eyes on me from the moment she spotted me in the distance. "You really are heartless," she said. "Something this big, and you're only telling me now?" I curved my lips slightly. "You were abroad. What would telling you sooner have done?" Celine let out a slow, knowing "Oh, so you're upset I wasn't there. Throwing a little tantrum, are we?" I didn't know whether to laugh or protest. "Where did you pick up that CEO energy talk? You went so long without reaching out, I had to keep myself company somehow." I poked her palm with one finger. "Stop joking around. Are you adjusting okay to life with the Linden family?" Celine asked, her voice shifting to something softer. "Honestly, not really. I barely slept last night." I leaned into Celine's shoulder, and at the sound of her low, steady voice, the tension drained out of me. My voice grew quieter. "I've had Sienna come take a look. Renovations can start tomorrow." "As quick as ever," she said. "If you can't sleep, come stay at mine tonight." When I didn't answer, she glanced down and found me already fast asleep. She gave a helpless smile and told the driver to turn up the air conditioning. A citrus scent drifted through the cabin. It always made me feel at ease. I slept on Celine's shoulder for 2 hours. By the time I stirred, the car had long been parked outside the government building. Celine held my hand gently, waiting patiently until I was fully awake. Only then did she walk in beside me. The household registration transfer went quickly. Celine handled every step of the process. Once everything was completed, my residency record was officially moved to the Linden family, permanently stamped into Ray's household registry. We were at an upscale restaurant, cutting through our steaks, when my phone chimed. The Harwick family had transferred $3 million into my account. $3 million to buy your silence? Celine kept her eyes on her steak, her tone edged with a cold half-smile. Unreadable. "I never wanted their money, but taking it means the Harwick family doesn't have to worry about me spreading anything, and I don't have to watch my back for their interference. Everyone stays comfortable." Celine drove me back. The car stopped at the market crossroads as usual. She reached over and ruffled my hair, the tenderness in her eyes almost sickeningly warm. She didn't tell the driver to leave until I had turned and walked into the market. When I got back to the complex, Lyra was just getting off her part-time shift. I washed up quickly and took my seat at the table. I had never had this kind of pickled fish before. The slices were silky and tender, the pickled greens bright and refreshing, the broth sour, spicy, and deeply savory. It was the kind of food that made you want to keep eating. It was the most satisfying meal I'd had in 17 years. I had 2 full bowls of the broth alone. Helen beamed. "Tomorrow I'll learn something new to cook," she said. "Adrian," Lyra said carefully, choosing every word. "I called Central High School today. If you want, there's a spot open, the one Troy left behind." At the mention of changing schools, Helen lowered her eyes and pressed her lips together. "Our situation? We really can't afford to keep you at Crestwood Academy. We're so sorry. I genuinely couldn't understand the Linden family's logic. Not enough money. Sorry. House too small. Sorry. Can't afford a private school. Sorry. There was nothing to be sorry about. What you want, you fight for yourself. Depending on others will never get you anywhere. Even if that person is family." That was the lesson the Harwick household taught me. "Lyra, I appreciate you thinking of it, but I'm staying at Crestwood." Before Helen could voice her worry, I already knew what it was. I raised a hand to stop her. "First in the year at Crestwood Academy gets a full tuition waiver. You don't need to feel sorry for me. What I need, I'll get myself. This is my choice. The consequences are mine to carry, not yours." At that, Helen's eyes went red in an instant. Tears shimmered at the edges but didn't fall. She held them back back and forced a smile, soft and full of relief. Lyra steadied herself. A warm smile returned to her face. If you have a way to stay at Crestwood, we'll back you all the way. Crestwood isn't far from Central High. I'll come pick you up after school from now on. After dinner, Lyra went to wash the dishes. I went back to my room to study. The next morning, after breakfast, everyone headed out for work and school. I had called Celine the night before to borrow a driver for the day. The car was already waiting at the corner. I waved goodbye to Helen. The three of us walked to the corner and got in. Lyra stared at the car. I glanced at the Toyota badge. I had asked Celine to send the cheapest car she had. No one could have guessed it would be a brand new Alphard. For Celine, it probably was cheap. But next to the Linden family's beat-up second-hand car, this thing was absurdly out of place. Is this your friend's car? Lyra could barely believe it. You left the Harwick family, and you still have cars and drivers on call? Are you sure you're not still their heir? My expression stayed calm, unbothered. I was just quietly exasperated at Celine's arrangements. B sat quietly in the back seat. Lyra, send me your work address. Lyra suddenly remembered. The driver started the engine smoothly. I picked up my phone and messaged Celine. Did you just buy this car? She replied, the drive to Central High takes over an hour. I didn't want you to be uncomfortable, and I can use it myself to nap. I stared at the screen and said nothing more, even though I knew perfectly well she had bought it for me. After dropping Lyra off at the restaurant, the car pulled smoothly back onto the road, heading straight for Crestwood Academy. I got home in the evening just as dinner was being set out. The family gathered around the table talking. These past few days had been surreal for the Linden family. First, internationally acclaimed designer Sienna had willingly shown up to renovate their home. Then there was their son, who turned out to be nothing like they expected. I was unruffled no matter what, not because of the Harwick name, but because my confidence had always come from within. After dinner I showered and turned in early. Ray and Helen were left alone in the living room. Helen pressed her lips together and thought for a long moment, as if she had finally made up her mind. We can't keep underestimating Adrian's connections. We're not too old yet. We should make one more push. Ray nodded firmly in agreement. These past 2 days since Adrian came back, I've been thinking a lot too. For this family to have a better life, we can't afford to just settle for where we are. Ride-hailing is hard-earned money. When it comes down to it, you need your own business. Helen sighed, her expression clouding over. But business is tough right now. Ray pulled Helen close, his arm firm around her shoulders. His voice carried a quiet certainty. We did it once before. We can do it again. For now, let's feel out the market. Doing the groundwork first is the safer play. The next morning, Ray took B to school. Crestwood Academy, the most elite private school around, sat just across the road from Central High, where Lyra studied. Lyra and I decided to take the bus together. The bus stop wasn't far from the complex. When we boarded, there were still plenty of seats. Lyra tapped her card twice for the fare, then guided me to a seat in the back. I stared at the transit card clipped to her bag. It was the first time I had ever ridden a public bus, and the first time I had seen one of those cards. Seems pretty handy, I said. Where did you get yours? I'd like to get one to clip on my bag. Lyra was quiet for a moment, then unclipped the card and handed it to me. You have to go to a service center to get one. Use mine for now. Then how will you get around? I asked. You can scan your phone now. It works just as well. Lyra smiled, warm and easy. She had noticed how curious I was about the little card, so she simply unclipped it and gave it to me. I clipped it onto my own bag. More passengers trickled on. At this hour, alongside the students and office workers, there were older folks who'd been up since dawn chasing deals at the morning market. The more people boarded, the tighter the car became. In the summer heat, the air inside barely moved, thick with a sour smell of sweat. Troy had always hated this smell. He absolutely refused to squeeze onto a bus with anyone. Lyra glanced at me sitting beside her, pale and composed. I was leaning quietly against the window, the outside breeze lifting the hair at my temples. Those bright eyes of mine watched the passing world outside with quiet curiosity. Lyra thought, this brother of hers, so unnervingly mature. He actually had quite an endearing side. The driver pushed hard as bus drivers always do. For the sake of students making it on time, they reached the school stop in just 40 minutes. The stop was right at Central High's entrance. Lyra insisted on walking me all the way to Crestwood's gate. We had time to spare, so the two of us strolled over. Luxury cars swept past on the road. Occasionally a window rolled down and someone called out a greeting. Lyra quietly took it in. Adrian's social standing at school was clearly strong. She had worried that once people found out about his background, they might turn on him and make his life difficult. When they reached the grand gates of Crestwood Academy, Lyra felt out of place going any further. I'll come pick you up after school this afternoon. I could see she felt uneasy. I smiled and nodded. A tall figure came sprinting over. The enthusiastic impact of the hug made me sway. Rico threw his arms around my shoulders and held tight, but his eyes had already landed on Lyra standing beside me. I cleared my throat. Rico blinked, then caught up. He recognized her as the Linden family's second daughter. He straightened up instantly and smoothed his clothes. I'm Rico, Adrian's classmate and his current personal bodyguard. I tilted my head. Since when did you become my bodyguard? Rico leaned in and whispered. Miss Celine's orders. She was worried people might give you trouble over the whole false heir thing. He straightened back up and hooked an arm around my shoulder. Grinning at Lyra, he gave her his word. You have nothing to worry about. I'm a Taekwondo black belt. Nobody's touching a single hair on Adrian's head. Lyra looked at the cheerful, bright-eyed young man in front of her and smiled, warm and genuine. Thank you for looking out for Adrian. Rico felt the world bloom around him. He waved her off with a red face. You'd better get to class. He watched Lyra's figure disappear into the distance, still completely starstruck. Does Lyra have a boyfriend? Would you mind if I became her boyfriend? I let out a helpless sigh. You have a fiancé. Are you trying to make Lyra the other woman? Rico let out a dramatic cry toward the sky. I glanced at the watch on my wrist. 15 minutes until the bell. I'm not getting late on your account. I picked up my pace toward the classroom. Rico scrambled to keep up. I heard the Linden family went bankrupt, racked up quite a bit of debt, and now they're in some rundown apartment building. Can you even live somewhere like that? I could just give you that villa of mine. Throw in a full-time driver and housekeeper too. If I were moving anywhere, you'd be the last person I'd let make that call. Rico took offense immediately. If Miss Celine can give you things, why can't I? I'm your ride or die, man. He latched onto my arm and refused to let go. I was exasperated and amused in equal measure. When did this whole group develop a savior complex? Throwing around luxury cars and villas complete with drivers and housekeepers, as if leaving the Harwick family had left me completely helpless. Chatting all the while, the two of us arrived at the classroom door. The moment we stepped inside, the buzzing classroom went dead silent. Every face turned toward me, wide-eyed and blank. Did someone ruin my face? I said. You're all looking at me like you've seen a ghost. At that, everyone exhaled and burst out laughing. Someone called out, "What surgeon would dare touch that face?" Is what happened actually. True. Looks like you've all heard, I said, walking back to my seat without missing a beat. Quinn spotted me and immediately scooted her chair over, dropping her voice. News travels fast in our circle. I have an empty apartment under my name. It's got to be better than where you're staying now. Take it. Live there for a while. Before I could say no, Rico swooped in. He already turned down my villa. Quinn rolled her eyes. She was no match for Rico's sheer energy. The group devolved into cheerful, overlapping banter. Nobody even noticed when Miss Stone walked in. What classified secrets are you all gossiping about? This entire floor can hear you. One look at her expression, and every single person scrambled back to their seat without making another sound. Crestwood Academy was the most elite private school around, its students the children of powerful and wealthy families. But they weren't so different from ordinary students. Equally terrified of strict teachers, equally afraid of getting written up. The outside world assumed elite schools were full of kids coasting through life, doing nothing but showing off. The reality was the opposite. The academic load was heavier here than anywhere else. On top of standard subjects, students studied business management and even equestrianism. Crestwood was founded by the elite, and its standards for student conduct were uncompromising. Any disrespect toward a teacher brought severe consequences. Not just for the student. It could ripple all the way to their family's business. I'll let it go today. It's the first day back. But this is your final year. Stay sharp, stay out of trouble. Are we clear? Yes, Miss Stone, came the chorus. We have a transfer student joining our class this semester, Troy. Everyone please welcome him. The mood in the room shifted immediately. Every pair of eyes swung toward the front. Rico shot me a look. I just smiled, calm and thoroughly amused, giving nothing away. After a few grueling days of etiquette training, Troy had finally picked up something resembling the manner of a young heir. He flashed what he believed was a flawless smile and delivered his introduction at a measured pace. I'm Troy. As a child, I was caught up in a mix-up at birth. I finally found my birth parents. I hope we can all get along well this year. Troy stood there in a tailored casual suit, projecting the image of someone polished and refined, the kind of entrance that might have drawn admiration at Central High, riding the glow of the Harwick name. But this was Crestwood Academy, full of hidden talent, and his little performance didn't register. When he finished, the room stayed silent. Quinn had zero patience for the act. She said, with lazy precision, the real Harwick heir really is something else. Barely back in the fold, and he's already shown the door to Adrian. Troy's eyes flickered sharply. He slipped into the innocent victim routine as naturally as breathing. He lowered his gaze, as if the words cost him something. I thought after 17 years of being raised by them, he'd find it hard to leave. But he asked for $3 million and walked out without looking back. I really don't understand. How can he be so cold? How can you call him cold? The shout rang through the silent room. Troy spun around in alarm and met Rico's eyes blazing, and beside him, me, calm and thoroughly amused. Miss Stone's brow drew tight with displeasure. She stared at Rico, who had slammed the desk and shot to his feet. Sit down. Now. Troy suppressed the flicker of a smirk. He pinched the hem of his jacket, looking for all the world like a wronged victim. My adoptive family situation isn't great financially. The adjustment must have been too much for him. It's natural he'd resent me for it. Miss Stone didn't take Troy's side. This was a school with standards. It was her duty to hold students accountable. Crestwood graduates would one day lead their fields, and no ordinary person taught here. Miss Stone saw through Troy's act in an instant. She simply didn't bother making a scene of it. Let me make one thing clear. Crestwood is not a playground, and tomorrow, wear your uniform. Quiet laughter rippled through the room. Troy nodded, visibly flustered. He hurried off the podium and found an empty seat. When the bell rang, the classroom stirred back to life. Everyone broke into chatter, swapping gossip. Troy looked left and right, completely lost. His classmates were discussing investment circles and market plays. None of it made any sense to him. He had no idea where to fit in. Finally, he fixed his gaze on the middle of the group and said, Adrian, what's that thing hanging on your bag? On Adrian's side, Rico was already poking fun. The former false heir has fallen on hard times. Taking the public bus to school now? Another classmate piled on. Looks like that full scholarship is actually coming in handy now. Oh right, someone said. I almost forgot. The scholarship and the financial aid slot, both going to Adrian now. I wasn't sure whether to laugh or groan. I was just about to get up and head over, when Troy, having heard everything, stepped forward with a look of righteous indignation. That's too much, all of you. Everyone turned to look at him, baffled. These are my friends. I'm easygoing. This is just how we joke around. Nobody asked Troy to make it a whole thing. Rico decided the guy was simply not worth engaging with. I know your birth parents are poor. I know you were used to living like a young heir. Going back to the Linden family must be unbearable. I could put in a good word with my parents. If you apologize properly, I'm sure they'd let you come back. Troy played the part of a genuinely concerned friend. To anyone watching, he was the innocent, kind-hearted one, and I, the false heir, was the ungrateful one who didn't know better. But the room went quiet in a way Troy hadn't expected. Everyone simply stared at him, watching, saying nothing, like they'd spotted something deeply unusual. After a long silence, Rico turned to me with a genuinely puzzled look. Does he not feel embarrassed? Because I'm embarrassed for him. The room burst out laughing. That one landed. I genuinely mean well, Troy pressed on. The Linden family is bankrupt. They can't give you a good life. My parents are good people. They were just angry in the moment. You left without looking back, taking the money and going. But if you apologize to them, I'm sure they'll welcome you back to the Harwick family. I smiled at that. The kind of smile that had no words behind it. I'd spent 17 years in that house. I knew Victor and his wife far better than Troy ever would. They didn't even necessarily care about their own blood. What chance did an adopted son ever have? Getting no response, Troy switched tracks. The renowned designer Sienna is redesigning my room, he announced. News to me, I said, the corner of my mouth lifting. Troy lowered his gaze with a modest smile. I told them it wasn't necessary, but they said they'd neglected me for too long, and they insisted on making it up to me. They're bringing in the best designer to redo everything. Exactly the way I like it. I set my phone face up on the desk and put it on speaker. You really commit to the act, Rico said dryly. A furious voice exploded from the speaker. That is complete nonsense. When did I ever agree to do any design work? Troy, right? I told him to get lost yesterday on the phone. Does he not understand words or is he just slow? He had the nerve to call himself the Harwick heir. Said he'd pay me to shut up and work. Said the Harwick family was not someone I could afford to cross. I don't care about his money. I don't care who he is or what family he's from. Nobody commands me. He's been spreading lies that damage my reputation. Does he think he can afford what that costs me? The voice on the line was sharp as a blade. Rico cut the call without a second thought and shot me a look like he'd just done something heroic. I gave him a thumbs up. Well played. Everyone in that room was sharp. Among their own circle, they all knew exactly how each other's minds worked. They weren't at Crestwood just to study. They were building connections, because the people around them now would be the people they dealt with for the rest of their lives. Cultivating the right relationships now would pay dividends when the time came to take over the family business. Who was the true heir and who was the false one? That didn't matter to them. What mattered was whether a person had value. Anyone who ranked at the top of the year was going to be someone, eventually. This was their opportunity to build that connection. I might no longer carry the Harwick name, but Troy, without the Harwick family behind him, was nothing. Nobody had any particular grudge against Troy to start with. Out of respect for the Harwick influence, they could have been civil. But he couldn't hold himself together, and he had the nerve to come and start something. My silence wasn't patience. It was indifference. I had no interest in wasting energy on someone irrelevant. But if Troy kept pushing, then no one could blame them for how they responded. The air grew heavy and awkward. Troy's face went pale as iron. The corners of his eyes reddened. He looked lost and, honestly, a little pitiful. Where there are people willing to stand up for you, there will always be people who can't stand you. Brad stood up, playing the righteous defender. That's way too far. Is humiliating someone really that entertaining? Troy is just worried about Adrian. The Linden family is bankrupt. He only wanted to help. Is all this really necessary? The room stared back at Brad, everyone knowing exactly what he was really doing. Brad looked outraged on the surface. Inside, he was thrilled. I had outpaced him at every turn, and this was his chance to finally flip the table. With the Linden family now bankrupt, he saw his opening, and he was working it. Play it perfectly, and he could also curry favor with the real Harwick heir in one move. Kill two birds with one stone. Troy looked up, surprised, and struggled to hide his relief as he shot Brad a grateful look. Brad returned it with a warm smile, something like genuine concern flickering in his eyes, as if Troy were actually his friend. At that moment, a knock at the classroom door turned every head in the room. Celine stood in the doorway holding a folder. "What's all the excitement?" she said. Brad froze mid-posture, instantly deflated. Celine didn't spare him a glance. She walked straight toward me. "Just dropping something off," she said simply. She said it casually, but Brad didn't dare make a single sound in response. Everyone else in the room was a future heir in training. But Celine already sat at the same table as their parents' generation. Troy studied her quietly. She was dressed simply and cleanly. Fair skin, strikingly beautiful face, her whole presence effortlessly above the room. On her wrist, a deep red Bodhi bead bracelet. As she passed him, he caught a faint trace of citrus. Troy was genuinely shaken. He had always thought Lyra was the beauty of the Linden family, but standing before this girl, Lyra didn't even come close. And she's dressed so simply, she must just be a delivery girl or something. Yet she looks like that. What Troy didn't know was that the clothes Celine was wearing, paired with her understated accessories, especially that Bodhi bead bracelet, were worth more than a villa in Harborview. Quinn teased. What could possibly be worth Celine making the trip herself? Celine's gaze fell on me, making no effort to hide the warmth she reserved just for me. "I'm Adrian's personal errand girl. Even a single leaf? I'll deliver it myself." The room erupted in teasing laughter. Celine and I didn't flinch, completely at ease, completely open about it. Everyone knew exactly what they were to each other. Childhood friends, growing up side by side, both fully aware of the other's heart. Nothing to hide. They hadn't made it official simply because the timing wasn't right, both choosing to put their careers first for now. Celine set the folder on my desk, and the room immediately crowded around in amazement. Everyone leaned in for a look. "This project proposal is stunning. Adrian never disappoints. Looks like this year's spot is yours." My proposal scored quite a bit higher, I said. I said nothing more, leaning back with the easy confidence of someone who had already won. Troy glanced over from the side. He recognized it. B had made this. "That's the little Linden girl's work, isn't it? A child scribbling, passed off as a serious project proposal. That's pretty disrespectful to everyone else competing. Quinn gave him a flat look. That's a bold thing to say. This is the top-ranked proposal in the evaluation. You're calling this a child scribbling? Troy went silent. I curved my lips. B put real effort into this. She made it especially for me. No empty theory from any of you could match that, I said, and I meant every word of it. Everyone protested, calling me out for playing favorites. Celine, can you please do something about him? Celine tucked both hands into her pockets. She leaned slightly onto my desk. Adrian's always been the one giving me orders. Who am I to manage him? I laughed softly and reached out, hooking my fingers around her bracelet. Troy stepped forward, unbothered by his own ignorance. You're not a student here, right? I get it. Everyone needs to make a living. Celine narrowed her eyes in genuine confusion. She had already suspected Troy wasn't the sharpest, but she hadn't expected him to be this blind. The room went still. Someone had just called Celine a delivery girl. That might be the most absurd thing said all year. Rico was doubled over laughing. You think Celine is a delivery girl? I raised an eyebrow, thoroughly done. I took back every generous thought I'd ever had about Troy's intelligence. He wasn't naive. He was just genuinely, thoroughly dense. Someone who laughed and joked with this circle of wealthy heirs. Someone they all called Celine with that particular kind of respect. Could not possibly be ordinary. Celine glanced down at my hand. Sienna asked me to pass something along. The plans and furniture have been sorted. She wants to know if tomorrow works to start. I kept my voice low. I'll get back to her later. I glanced up and met her eyes. You've wrapped up the acquisition deal. You've got a flight to catch this week, don't you? I let go of her bracelet and gave her arm a gentle poke. Go on then. Don't miss your flight. I'll bring you something back, Celine said, lightly tipping my chin with her finger. Their voices had dropped low enough to form a quiet world of their own, like an invisible wall had risen around them. The others instinctively gave them space, silently eating this up. Rico had his chin propped in his hands. Quinn stared with a slow parade of question marks forming above her head. Is it really okay to be this oblivious to everyone around you? When school let out, the area outside the gates came alive. Street food vendors were setting up, drawing steady crowds. Even the wealthy heirs of Crestwood couldn't resist street food at their age. Among the constant flow of people, Lyra stood out, her presence gentle and quietly striking, like a figure from another era, a quiet melancholy drifting through her features. If Lyra ever starred in a period drama, I thought, she'd break hearts without even trying. Just look at Rico for proof. The moment he spotted Lyra, he forgot how to blink. Then two voices called out at the same time. I followed the sound, and saw Troy, face bright with a wide smile, jogging toward Lyra. The sight of that smile made something inside Lyra pull in two directions at once. She thought of the times she used to go meet him after school, how he'd come running toward her with that same excitement. She had loved him so much, that little brother of hers. When the Linden family first went bankrupt, things had stayed the same for a while. They still rode the bus home together. Sometimes they'd feel like walking instead. Halfway through, Troy would always ask her to carry him, and Lyra would laugh and take him on her back the rest of the way home. Riding on her back, he'd say, "My sister is the best sister in the world. I'm the happiest kid alive." And then it all fell apart. At some point, the smile disappeared. What replaced it was something twisted and ugly. "I'm sick of this bus. I'm done. Carry me back then." "What's wrong with you? You can't even walk a little without giving out. Can't you just buy a bike? No money? Then go get a job." In the end, he threw her away. The same sister he had once called the best in the world. Lyra swallowed. She didn't know how to face him anymore. Troy didn't notice a thing. His smile stayed bright and sweet. "I really miss walking to school with you. It's a shame I transferred to Crestwood. My classmates don't seem to like me much. They only hang out with Adrian." As he spoke, the smile slowly faded. His eyes grew red at the edges, as if Adrian had led the charge against him, and he was the wounded one. Lyra caught the implication. She thought about these past few days with Adrian, and the words to push back nearly came out on their own. Adrian isn't like that. He's not petty. I had spent 17 years in a wealthy household, yet I never once complained the Linden home was too small or that the mattress was too hard. I told Helen her cooking was wonderful. I bought B sweets. I thought of what each family member needed and quietly took care of it. I had been so good, so genuinely, unexpectedly good, that it made Lyra feel guilty. As an older sister, she hadn't been able to do much for me, and yet I was the one looking out for everyone. Troy's expression froze. He had assumed that once I walked out of the Harwick estate and saw that run-down place, every trace of the privileged heir in me would come pouring out. But Lyra actually thought well of me. In just 2 or 3 days, she seemed to have moved on from 17 years with her old brother, and welcomed me in. Hearing Lyra defend me so clearly, Troy went still. I curved my lips. I wasn't aware Troy had been going around collecting sisters. The easy warmth in my eyes shifted, a quiet edge slipping through. "You just enjoy taking things that belong to someone else," I said, "including their sisters." The shadow lifted from Lyra's face all at once. A soft smile returned to her lips, and she didn't give Troy another glance. A brief light passed through my eyes. The corner of my mouth rose in a quiet, unhurried curve. Watching the two of us walk away together, a fierce jealousy rose in Troy's eyes. He watched our backs as we laughed and talked. All of this had once been his. Troy ground his teeth. His fists clenched so tight his nails bit into his palms, and he didn't feel a thing. His breathing grew ragged. Only after our figures had completely vanished did Troy slowly come back to himself. Everything he'd ever wanted. He had it now. The wealth, the glory of the Harwick name. Just a bunch of nobodies, he told himself. He was the real Harwick heir. The moment he saw the Harwick estate, that sprawling, magnificent villa, the resentment drained out of him. He smiled with deep, private satisfaction. Troy snapped at Auntie Rose with all the arrogance of someone who'd been born to it. "What are you standing there for? Go make the tea." Auntie Rose gave a small bow. Yes, young master. Since this young master had arrived, whenever Victor and his wife were out, the household staff walked on eggshells, barely daring to breathe. The slightest thing that displeased him meant a tongue lashing. Wrong tea, replace it. Food not to his liking, back to the kitchen. Adrian had never once lost his temper. At the very least, he had treated them like people. But this new young master threw cups and plates at the slightest provocation, as if they weren't staff at all, just tools he could use however he pleased. Troy's voice came again, sharp and threatening. Auntie Rose snapped back to reality and hurried over with the tea. Troy picked up the cup and took a sip. The next second, he hurled it straight at Auntie Rose. She instinctively stepped back, but not fast enough. The scalding tea poured over the top of her foot. Auntie Rose kept her head down, quietly rubbing the reddened skin. She bent down and picked up the cup. "I'll make a fresh one," she said. The butler had taken in every moment of it. He adjusted his glasses. He stepped forward with measured, unhurried composure. "Young master," he said quietly, "it's time for your etiquette lesson." Troy glared. "What etiquette lesson?" The butler's expression didn't shift. "The homecoming banquet is this weekend. The master and madam have specifically asked that you be on time and that nothing goes wrong at the banquet." Troy shot to his feet. "What is that supposed to mean? Know your place. You're just a paid servant of the Harwick family. You dare give me orders?" The etiquette instructor showed Troy no warmth whatsoever. Ruler in hand, stone-faced, correcting every mistake with blunt severity and no regard for his status. The only reason she could get away with it was that Victor and his wife had her back. The butler gave a composed, unhurried nod. "Both young ladies will be returning for the homecoming banquet." Troy paused. He'd heard the Harwick sisters were not easy to deal with, but regardless, it was his first time meeting his real sisters. He should make a good impression. Once he won them over, he'd be the undisputed son of the Harwick family. Then let's see who would dare look down on him. Troy swallowed his anger and with great reluctance went to his lesson. Unlike the cold, rigid atmosphere of the Harwick estate, the Linden family's small home was full of warmth. The family crowded together cheerfully, reaching across to serve each other food. 2 drumsticks passed back and forth between everyone. The little ones get the drumsticks, the adults get the wingtips, and everyone in between gets the mid-wings. Helen smiled and placed a mid-wing into Lyra's bowl. "The drumsticks went to me and B, 1 each." Lyra seemed happier than usual. Maybe seeing Troy again had finally given her the closure she needed. I looked at the drumstick sitting in my bowl. Something rare and warm stirred in my chest. The Harwick family took dining etiquette very seriously. Seats were kept far apart. Talking at the table was strictly forbidden. So was making any noise at all. Serving food to each other was completely out of the question. And Victor and his wife were rarely home to begin with. Both daughters had been sent abroad to study. Most of the time, I ate alone. The Linden family was nothing like that. They shared whatever was good. They laughed and talked throughout the meal, crammed into that tiny space. And the warmth in the room could not have been more real. Life filled every corner of it. Maybe this was what a real home actually felt like. Helen rubbed her hands together, looking a little sheepish. "You kids are in school, and Ray is out driving. I want to set up a little stall of my own. Do something small. Help take some of the weight off. I'm thinking of getting some goods and selling outside the elementary school. I don't have much experience. I'm not sure if I can make it work." I thought back. Before she married, Helen had been the pampered daughter of her family. She'd help with light chores here and there, but nothing more was expected of her. By the time she married Ray, his business had already gotten off the ground, so she settled into life as a full-time homemaker and had never once gone out to make her own money. After the Linden family went bankrupt, she had wanted to find a proper job, but Troy complained that no one was taking care of the house, and so she stayed, a full-time homemaker once again. Being a homemaker was no easy thing. Every day was full of physical, grinding tasks. By the time everything was done, the day was nearly over. There was no such thing as rest. Watching everyone work so hard, she had agreed to stay home and hold things together from the inside. Now I was here, and everyone was fired up, ready to push once more. Helen wanted to be part of it too. Lyra immediately threw her support behind it. "You've been cooped up doing housework all day with no one to even talk to," Ray agreed. "Getting out there with a stall, that sounds great. Do something that means something. Whether it makes money or not, think of it as getting out of the house and clearing your head." Ray set down his chopsticks and took Helen's hand in both of his. "All these years, you've given so much, and barely done a single thing just for yourself. Everyone deserves to feel like they're building something. If you want to try the stall, go for it." With the whole family firmly behind her, Helen quietly breathed a sigh of relief. Then she looked toward me, the only one who hadn't said a word. I thought it over and answered carefully. "Selling stationery requires a wide range of stock, which means higher upfront costs, and elementary school kids don't have much pocket money. The break-even period could drag on for a long time. School hours near our area are consistent, and the street food stalls nearby do pretty solid business. You might want to consider selling food instead. There are several schools in that area, plenty of customers to go around. The early mornings would be tough. You'd need to be up early to prep fresh ingredients. But to be clear, I'm in favor of the stall idea." Helen smiled like a weight had been lifted off her. "A little hard work never hurt anyone, but all I know how to make is home cooking. I wouldn't know the first thing about fancy street food. Your cooking is better than most restaurants. And we're not going for fancy, that's not the point. Hearty, satisfying breakfast food. That's what sells. There's definitely a market for it. As for what exactly to sell, I'm afraid I don't have much to offer. There are so many street food carts outside school gates. I've never stopped at a single one. I've never even looked at what they sell." Being the Harwick heir meant constant attention to physique, presentation, and strictly controlled diet, maintaining appearances at all times. The Harwicks firmly believed that roadside food was beneath them, that eating it would damage the family image. Being seen as someone who ate indulgently was considered a stain on the Harwick name. During my years there, I had long since cut off any real appetite. The Harwick family noticed I barely ate, so they cycled through chef after chef trying to fix it. It wasn't until later that I understood. The problem was never the food. It was the cold, suffocating atmosphere of that house. Lyra thought for a moment. Back in middle school, there used to be someone selling rice balls outside the gates. They were actually pretty good. And right now, nobody seems to be selling them near the school gates. If we do rice balls, we'd have the market to ourselves. Ray and Helen exchanged a glance. They both seemed to think it was a solid idea. I'll get the ingredients tomorrow and try making a batch. Your job is to taste test. Helen had never felt this energized. The thought of actually contributing to the family's income filled her with a kind of drive she hadn't felt in years. Ray raised a practical question. If we're selling rice balls, wouldn't we need a proper custom food cart? I've seen other street vendors at work. Most of them use specially fitted carts with a designated spot for every ingredient. Very organized, Lyra suddenly remembered. The old stall used a steamer box to keep the rice balls warm, though I think a wooden barrel would work just as well. Cover it tightly with non-woven fabric and it should hold the heat just fine. Ray slapped his knee with excitement. I'll ask around with my driving buddies tomorrow, see where we can get one. For now, let's figure out what goes inside. We'll buy ingredients tomorrow and do a proper test run. Lyra immediately cleared the table. Everyone gathered and the conversation grew lively. Someone would toss in a funny line, and the whole family would burst out laughing. I was genuinely impressed by how fast they moved. This whole family operated at full speed, no hesitation. They had barely floated the idea of a stall, and already they were locking in a plan, debating ingredients and working out costs. The less people have, the more boldly they're willing to try, and to fail. And it's often exactly that kind of courage that carries people across to the other side. I found myself fully swept up in the energy around me. Since I was part of this family now, something came over me, and I raised my hand. The cart, let me handle that. The room went still. Every pair of eyes turned to me at once, and it made me feel slightly uneasy. Ray's brow furrowed slightly. I know you probably have some savings from the Harwick years, he said, but you're a Linden now. Family decisions we make together, but there's no way I'm letting a kid pay for any of this. Even with the renovation. Yes, we benefited from your connection with Sienna, but for any expensive furniture that goes in, I'll pay you back for it. Something about this felt strange inside me. Maybe it was because I'd never experienced this kind of family warmth before, and it left me not quite knowing what to do with it. Actually, I have a friend in the steel business. We might be able to get a second-hand cart at a low price. I quickly added that. Ray nodded at that and let it go. I took the chance to mention that Sienna was bringing a crew over to renovate, so Helen wouldn't be caught off guard in the morning. The family talked well past 1 in the morning. The three of us still had school the next day. We finally broke up for the night and took turns in the shower. After my shower, I went back to my room. I locked the door and checked my phone. Sienna had messaged. I could tell she'd pushed herself on this one. In the final breakdown of materials and furniture, she hadn't charged me for the labor at all. She probably used her own crew. Sienna had never trusted outside contractors. Some rushed through the work and cut corners, falling short of her standards. For high-end interior work, she kept her own team on retainer. The critical parts were always handled in-house. That labor cost was supposed to go on the client's bill, her way of recouping some of the overhead. Among friends, she didn't sweat the difference. I'd always thought of Sienna as someone with a terrible temper, but she was one of the most loyal people I knew. When she went off on someone, there was always a reason. A client with no taste. Someone who didn't know how to appreciate good work. You couldn't blame Sienna for that. The problem was always on the other end. I transferred the amount listed on her breakdown, and the next second she messaged back, Troy is out of his mind. You want to know what he said when he called? He actually called me beneath him. Where does he get the nerve? Slavery ended centuries ago, and this guy is still sorting people into high and low. And then he had the nerve to threaten me with the Harwick name. Said if I didn't do the design work, the Harwicks would blacklist me. Laughable. Who does he think they are? And Claire and Victor have completely lost it, turning me away for that guy's sake. Since they love to play games, right after Troy hung up on me, the Harwick invitation showed up in my hands. Should I go crash the party and embarrass him? I stopped at that last line and replied, go. The next day, I ran into Quinn in the classroom. She brought up the invitation she'd received, barely hiding her delight. I'm absolutely going to the Harwick homecoming banquet. This is too good to miss. I'm live streaming the whole thing for you. Quinn knew Rico well enough to ask, he's not planning to cause a scene, is he? They could say this kind of thing openly because they had already read the situation clearly. Crossing the Harwicks at this point, so be it. The Harwick family had been in business for generations. Their power was nothing to dismiss. Anyone who showed up to that banquet and humiliated them to their face would pay for it. Quinn continued, Rico, you probably haven't heard. There's no need for us to do a thing. Haven't you seen the news? The 2 Harwick daughters are coming back. They both instinctively looked at me, as if I'd have the answer. I raised an eyebrow. I'm a broke high schooler. Now, my intel can't exactly keep up with yours. Quinn raised an eyebrow, clearly amused. Broke or not, you're still the heir. When the 3 of us got back to the classroom, we caught the tail end of Troy's voice. My parents are hosting a homecoming banquet to introduce me as the Harwick heir. I don't have friends in this circle. I hope everyone can make it. He spotted me walking in from the doorway and smiled, that harmless-looking smile of his. There'll be great food at the banquet, and my parents bought me new clothes. You're welcome to come pick whatever you like. The clothes were bought for you. They're yours. Adrian doesn't do hand-me-downs. And the food? He's not interested. Quinn said it flatly. Every time I faced off with Troy, I could feel my friends close in around me. I wasn't the Harwick heir anymore, but I had no shortage of people in my corner. I didn't spare Troy another glance. I walked back to my seat. Without looking up, I said, the Harwick etiquette teacher needs some work. Invitations are supposed to be given in advance. This one doesn't count. I hung my bag on the side of the desk. Troy twisted his hands together, looking like someone who'd been wrongly accused. I just know your birth family doesn't have much. Going back there must be really hard for you. I wanted to invite you to the banquet. If you just apologize, I'm sure my parents would let you come back. Rico jabbed a finger at him. Apologize for what? What exactly did Adrian do wrong? Troy went quiet, tears welling up at the corners of his eyes. The innocent victim routine in full bloom. He started this, and now he's the one tearing up, like he's the one being bullied. Brad wasn't going to let the moment pass. He stepped forward to defend Troy right away. Troy is just too kind. He's worried about you. Why do you have to be so aggressive? Rico scoffed. I think he's genuinely not right in the head. Did he ever bother asking Adrian if he even wants to go back? Who gave him the right to play the concerned savior? Brad's lips moved but didn't form words. As someone in the same circle, he could see through Troy as clearly as anyone. But Brad was different from Rico. Rico was one of a kind in that class. Parents who adored each other. A home full of warmth. The family business was going to Rico, no question. Brad had brothers. Inheritance was far from guaranteed, and he knew it. So he was quietly shopping for a strategic marriage. If he could marry into the Harwick daughters, his future would be secure, and his family's ties to the Harwicks would give him real weight at home. And so he chose Troy's side. Troy was naive in this circle, but naive people are easy to manage. I had no interest in getting involved. Other people's agendas were their own business, as long as they stayed away from me. How complicated these circles could get. I knew better than anyone in that room. The less drama, the better. No point making enemies at every turn. Who's to say the outsider today won't be at the top tomorrow? With that in mind, I spoke up and broke the tension, before Rico burned any more bridges on my behalf. I looked at Troy. Two things. I have no intention of going back to the Harwick family, and I have no interest in competing with you for their favor. As long as you don't come looking for trouble, we can all coexist without a problem. But if you cross my line, let's see just how much the Harwick name can protect you. Troy, mid-sniffle, felt his chest tighten. He looked up at me, stunned. He met my eyes, steady, unshakable, completely sure of itself. He didn't understand it. There wasn't a trace of loss or defeat in me. Everyone in the class still had my back, same as always. They still called me by name, with that particular tone that meant something. And now, I was standing here making threats with a straight face. Who on earth had given me that kind of confidence? What would things look like if Celine weren't on my side? Troy kept staring at me, his eyes full of calculation. Quinn lounged beside him, drawling, with that brain of yours, you'll never figure it out. He had no idea how capable I was, but my classmates did. Whatever they couldn't get through begging or bargaining, I could always find a way. My connections may not rival the Harwick families, but add everything up, and even those at the very top of the capital circle can fall. Quinn smiled coolly, with just enough condescension in her voice. The first rule of surviving this circle is knowing how to read a room. Rico had no interest in educating Troy. He just didn't want the future headache. For once, he didn't push back against Quinn. Troy's back teeth were grinding. The redness crept into his eyes as he stared at me. He turned and stormed out. Brad called after him, ignored completely, then curved his lips and said lightly, if you want someone's trust, you find them when their defenses are lowest. He watched me with careful eyes. I met them evenly. I don't do things without a return. And you have nothing to offer me. Brad gave a dismissive shrug, then strolled out to go after Troy. With both of them gone, the whole room exhaled. Raised by the Harwicks. All business and leverage, no warmth or conscience to speak of. The reason Adrian gets along with us isn't the same. It's because we're the same age, we've known each other for years, and the trust was built slowly over time. The Linden family, to me, were still strangers who happened to share my blood. Rico was genuinely curious, knowing my personality and what I was capable of. Leaving the Harwick family probably meant going independent. Staying with the Linden family now, there had to be a reason. But forever? Not a chance. Being a minor came with real limitations. At 18, I could open my own accounts and stand on my own. For now, things were stable, and helping the Linden family wasn't entirely without purpose. The renovation speaks for itself. I just wanted somewhere comfortable to sleep. I'm not exactly built for roughing it. I can't spend a whole year sleeping badly. And honestly, I wanted to leave them a little less in debt to me when the time came. Brad stood on the 5th floor corridor and spotted Troy alone behind the decorative rocks, crying. He waited a solid 20 minutes before strolling down. Right before he reached the spot, he mussed up his hair and did 2 rounds of high-knee exercises. Then he jogged over, breathless, playing the part of someone who'd been searching desperately. There you are. I've been looking everywhere. Troy looked up, surprised. I'm in no state to go back to class. Feeling what he thought was genuine concern from Brad, Troy hadn't expected anyone to be in his corner, and every bit of hurt he'd been holding back came flooding out. Tears rolled down without stopping. I just wanted to connect with my classmates. I didn't expect everyone to be so set against me. Brad patted his back gently. That group has always been like that. They follow Adrian without question. I can't stand the way they operate. That's why I've never clicked with them. I can be your friend. Something lit up in Troy's tear-filled eyes. He nodded hard and let out a quiet, grateful sound. Since coming back to the Harwick family, Troy had no one to talk to. Victor and Claire were rarely home. Both sisters were still abroad. Around him were nothing but oblivious, mediocre people. No friends at school. Everyone fawning over Adrian. Nobody who understood his pain. It wasn't like he could talk to a dog about it. Brad took Troy's hand. I understand you. Going from an ordinary family to all this? There's so much to adjust to. You're under so much pressure. Whenever it gets to be too much, come find me. I may not be able to fix things, but having someone listen, that helps. Troy tightened his grip on Brad's hand. Is the reason everyone sides with Adrian because of Celine? Celine isn't even in our class, but everyone in the room treats her with this particular deference. That means she and Adrian have some kind of arrangement. He doesn't need the Harwick name because of his connection to Celine. Even bankrupt, he's untouchable, and Celine is part of why. But Brad didn't know the full picture, so he kept it vague. Adrian has known Celine and Quinn for years. What they have isn't built on deals. Especially Celine. They grew up side by side. Not officially a couple, but something close. And then there's Rico, the undisputed heir of the Linden family, completely in Adrian's corner. Their bond is closer than most brothers. With those two behind him, who would dare cross him? Brad had to admit it. Adrian was exceptional on his own. That last part he kept to himself. So Troy concluded that whatever pull I had came entirely from Celine and Rico. Is the Liu family really that powerful? He asked. Brad answered him. The Liu family is among the top tier of the capital circle. Assets and influence on par with the Harwicks, and the two families have deep business ties. But Celine's parents were in a car accident some time ago. They still haven't woken up. Celine had no choice but to take over early. It's no secret in the capital circle, and Celine is no small force herself. She had just graduated high school when it happened, gave up studying abroad and walked straight into running the entire Liu empire. Not a single major misstep in the past year, and she runs it with precision. The elders of the circle respect her deeply. They call her Director Liu. Listening to Brad's account, Troy absently smoothed the hem of his jacket, something turning over in his mind. The Harwick and Liu families were close. If Celine became his fiancée, Adrian would lose his biggest advantage. Back at the old residential complex, Helen was making rice balls today. There were a lot of ingredients to get through. Ray skipped his driving shift and stayed home to help her. When Ray opened the door to Sienna, he looked confused. He stepped aside quickly and ushered her in with a respectful gesture. Sienna walked in and greeted them politely. She glanced at the movement in the kitchen and raised her voice a little. I'm Adrian's friend. I brought a crew to work on the rooms. Hope that's all right. Helen quickly wiped her hands and came out. Please sit and have some tea. Sienna waved her off. No need for that. Adrian said to clear out all the old furniture. Pack up your clothes and personal things. If there's anything you want to keep, tell me where you'd like it moved. I'll have my guys take care of it. Helen and Ray looked at each other, both a little stunned. Ray asked carefully, what exactly do you mean? That stopped Sienna cold. Adrian didn't tell you? He asked me to redo the whole place. New furniture throughout. Ray's head nearly short-circuited. New furniture for the entire apartment. How much would that even cost? Helen grabbed Ray's arm, a quiet signal to stop spiraling. It's already done. Don't waste Sienna's time. She quickly untied her apron and set it on the side table. Helen smiled warmly at Sienna. Just leave the old furniture downstairs for now. No need for you to deal with the disposal. We have a truck that can take it away. Very convenient. Otherwise you'd have to hire extra people just to haul it out. Sienna normally talked fast and operated with zero hesitation, the kind of person who decided things once and didn't revisit them. Helen rubbed her hands together. I'll go clear out the main bedroom first. There isn't much in there. It'll be quick to sort. Sienna turned and called to the crew behind her. You three, get the furniture down to the ground floor. You two, go strip the wallpaper. Ray and Helen began clearing out their belongings from the rooms. Sienna stood watch over the work. Get those edges lined up properly. What are you looking at? Why is there a gap that big? Did you not see the wall was crumbling? You clean it before you paste, or are you planning to grow a garden in there? Handle the window corners carefully. If it goes on crooked, tear it all off and start over. Every worker who heard her felt the hairs on their arms stand up, and their hands move faster without being told. Sienna's reputation for being impossibly demanding was clearly well earned. With the renovation in full swing, Ray occasionally stepped in to lend a hand. Helen went back to the kitchen to keep working on the rice balls. Helen poured a cup of tea and brought it over. Miss Sienna, take a break and have some tea. Sienna was in the middle of tearing into someone, hands on her hips. At the sound of Helen's voice, the fire went out of her instantly. She turned and took the cup with both hands. Thank you. Really, no need to be so formal. Adrian and I go way back. Just call me Little Sue. Helen decided she wasn't nearly as difficult as expected. Quite polite, actually. I'm planning to sell rice balls at a stall. I'm testing a batch today, and I haven't made lunch. If you're hungry, would you like to try some? Sienna didn't waste a second on politeness. Actually, I'm a little hungry. Helen's face broke into a smile. She glanced over at the crew. Should we let them take a break too? There are so many of them. Are you sure it's not too much trouble? Not at all. I actually want more people to give me feedback. Since Helen had put it that way, Sienna called everyone to stop and eat before getting back to it. Helen went to the kitchen and brought out the rice balls. Several different flavors, each one cut in half, so everyone could try a bit and share their thoughts. Sienna hadn't even taken a bite yet, but the moment she saw the filling, she was already full of praise. Most rice balls out there use frozen ingredients. It's rare to find someone using fresh like this. After her first bite, she gave a thumbs up without hesitation. These are incredible. She heaped praise on Helen so generously that Helen practically glowed. The crew ate with obvious enjoyment and went straight back to work when they were done. Helen invited Sienna to sit and have some tea. Sienna could tell there was something on her mind, so she sat. How did you and Adrian meet? It's a long story. He's young, but we've known each other for about 10 years now. Helen gave a thoughtful hum. After a moment, she said, a little hesitantly, "Since Adrian came back, there's always been this distance between him and us. His life, the way he is. Could you tell me a little more about him?" Sienna understood now. Adrian was staying with the Linden family for reasons of his own, but this family genuinely cared about the boy. But he had grown up without any real warmth, and it had made him emotionally reserved. His manner was easy enough on the surface, but there was a real gap between him and what family was supposed to feel like. Helen wanted to reach him, and didn't know how. Sienna let out a quiet sigh. She could tell Ray and Helen were good people. She had worried at first that Adrian would struggle here. She didn't think that anymore. She began to share what she knew. When Adrian was with the Harwick family, Victor and Claire barely paid attention to him. He was mostly raised by the two Harwick daughters, but not with affection. It was more like a constant battle of wits, push and pull, love and friction, all tangled together. So he never really learned what warmth felt like. He became a little emotionally detached, not without friends, but friendship can't fill the hole where family was supposed to be. He grew composed over time, more polished and composed than anyone his age, but he lost the kind of openness that belongs to youth. The Harwick household was nothing like a home. No warmth, cold and mechanical, through and through. The 3 children it produced are each extraordinarily gifted, and not one of them is emotionally intact. Every one of them carries something broken. Hearing what her child's life had actually been like in that house, Helen felt a pain in her chest she couldn't quiet. She had assumed that, with food, clothes, and comfort provided, he must have been happy, and that the distance she felt now was just the difficulty of adjusting to a poorer home. Only now did she understand her son had never experienced warmth, and it had made him cold. "So what does Adrian usually like to eat?" she asked. "Honestly, I'm not sure. All I know is that the Harwick family went through chefs constantly. Not one of them lasted half a year. School was out. Lyra and I walked over to pick up B from elementary school. Several neighbors spotted Lyra and called out, 'Did your family come into money? Why did you replace all the furniture?' Lyra was caught completely off guard. She instinctively looked at me. "Wasn't it just a layout adjustment and adding a desk? Why is everything replaced?" I blinked. Sienna's idea. She knows people in the furniture industry. It didn't cost that much. I thought to myself, Sienna can take the blame on this one. Meanwhile, Sienna, currently in the middle of lecturing someone, suddenly sneezed. She shook it off. "So much dust in here. I should really wear a mask next time." When the 3 of us got home, the crew was clearing debris from the guest room. 2 workers were in the kitchen replacing the sink. Lyra and B were stunned. A compact shoe cabinet had appeared by the door. It looked far too narrow to fit a single pair, until you opened it. The shoes were stored at an angle. Close the door and the angle increased, maximizing every centimeter. Small as it was, it held the entire family's shoes. No more piling them under the bed. The cracked walls were covered in fresh wallpaper. The worn sofa had been replaced with a stain-resistant one, paired with a new glass coffee table. The little corner table had stayed, still holding its vase, now freshly filled with carnations. The living room window, which had had curtains before, was now fitted with clean white blinds, simple and bright. In the sunlight, the warm tones of the room felt like a different world. Sienna emerged from the guest room. She lit up the moment she saw me and pulled me over, practically glowing with pride. "Come see what we did with the guest room. You're going to love it." Lyra and B followed, eager to see what their room had become. The moment they saw it, both of them looked like their eyes were about to fall out of their heads. The whole room was done in a fresh ocean blue. The interior floor had been raised with wooden boards, creating a tatami-style storage platform. With the wardrobe gone, the space felt considerably larger. The bunk bed remained, a mattress laid directly on the raised platform. Beside it, a proper step-up staircase led to the upper bunk, far safer than the old vertical ladder. Each step concealed a drawer underneath, perfect for books and odds and ends. On the other side, a corner desk had been built in, one end for each sister, with room enough for both. A cramped little room transformed into something spacious and beautiful, and not a single practical function sacrificed. Every bit the renowned interior designer she was. "This drawer can be pulled out and used as a bookshelf," Sienna explained. She pulled one out from under the steps to demonstrate. Books could stand upright in the space below. She knocked on the raised platform and looked at B. "Your brother told me you like to draw. This surface is stain-resistant. Sit here and draw all you want, no worrying about making a mess." B's eyes sparkled like she had stars in them. She thanked them breathlessly. "Thank you, Sienna. Thank you, Adrian. I have my own space now. I can draw as much as I want." At the sight of that beaming smile, Sienna felt a swell of pride she hadn't expected. She ruffled B's hair, deeply satisfied. Sienna leaned toward me. "This whole place, not counting my design fee, the materials alone came to over 50,000. Without me talking everyone down, 20,000 wouldn't have come close. That's why you're the one I called. Nobody else could have pulled this off." Sienna's chin lifted with visible pride. "If your budget hadn't been so unreasonably tight, I would have ripped out the floor tiles and redone the walls too." I turned to her. "I'll take you out to dinner when you're free. And the Moonlight Edition series just dropped." I met her expectant eyes. I nodded. "I'll send it to you in a couple of days." I let my eyes drift half shut, taking in the warmth of the room. Once the finishing touches were done, Sienna packed up and left with her crew. Ray and Helen had tried to keep her for dinner, but once the last outsider was gone, the family started debating what to have for dinner. With the renovation going all day, neither Ray nor Helen had had time to cook. "Tonight, we're taking the kids out for a proper meal." Helen took my hand and held it gently in both of hers. She asked quietly, "Do you like hot pot, Xiao Chen?" I wasn't used to physical contact like this, especially with people I wasn't close to yet. I thought about pulling my hand away, and didn't. I answered her question with one of my own. "What made you ask?" The only time I'd ever had hot pot was a couple of years ago, a gathering at a hot pot restaurant I had a steak in. The food was quite good, actually. The price, though, not exactly accessible. Wealthy people rarely go out for hot pot, so it shut down after 2 months. I hadn't had it since, Lyra suggested. Then let's go get hot pot. The place at the corner is really good. Fresh ingredients. He had the whole place redone for us. We should treat him. The decision was made almost instantly. Everyone go get ready. We're heading out. All 5 of us walked to the restaurant. Helen held my hand the whole way, showing no sign of wanting to let go. I kept noticing she seemed warmer than usual. Maybe that's just how it is between a mother and her actual son. We got a big table at the restaurant. Once we sat down, Ray handed me the menu and told me to order whatever I liked. I passed it straight to Lyra. You do the ordering, I'll handle the eating. Everyone laughed. Lyra started going through the menu. After dinner, Ray and Helen took B home to rest. The evening streets were bright with neon and shop fronts, vendors calling out their pitches. Lyra and I walked home together. I brought up something I'd been sitting on. Why are you still in your final year of high school? The files the Harwick family gave me said you should have started university this year, but you never submitted applications. You repeated the year instead. Given the Linden family's financial situation, whatever the circumstances, the practical thing would have been to get through university as quickly as possible, not use connections to repeat a year. At the question, Lyra dropped her gaze. A small, self-deprecating laugh escaped her. You'd find out sooner or later, no point hiding it. Do you know why the Linden family went bankrupt? I shook my head. Is this connected to the bankruptcy? Lyra reached over and ruffled my hair. When Nora was working at the restaurant, someone came after our family, and that's what brought us down. At the time, the Linden family was fairly well off, but we'd only been building for a decade or so. No match for families who'd been in the game for generations. Nora had watched the family grow from nothing. She never took it for granted or acted like someone who could just sit back and let things come to her. She chose to improve herself instead. She wanted to be someone who could stand on her own, even without the family behind her, to build real value, and eventually help push the business even further. So from high school on, every long holiday she'd sign up for courses or pick up a part-time job to earn her own spending money. And one day, without meaning to, she crossed someone she shouldn't have. Troy always blamed Nora for the bankruptcy, said it was her fault for always going out and getting involved in things. Nora carried a lot of guilt over it, and Troy never let her forget it, constantly going after her with cruel words. Lyra let out a slow sigh, something heavy settling in her expression. Then his temper kept getting worse. One time he actually raised a hand to Nora. I stepped in to protect her. Troy shoved me, and my head hit the wardrobe. The doctor said it was a concussion. It was right before the college entrance exams. My body was mostly okay, but the nausea and dizziness kept coming. I didn't perform the way I should have in the exams. My parents and teachers all recommended I repeat the year. I pressed my lips together. When she finished, I asked, "Do you hate Troy?" Lyra's eyes fell, heavy with something quiet and lost. He was my little brother, someone I loved for 17 years. You don't hold grudges against family. I just never expected him to leave the way he did, so completely, so finally. I understood that quietly self-mocking laugh. 17 years of genuine love, and in the end, that's what it bought her. Being betrayed by someone you love hurts in a way that betrayal over money never could. Lyra suddenly looked over at me, her eyes soft with warmth. We're family. Some things don't need to be calculated. We care about you, Lyra continued, and we're not keeping score. Simply because you're our family. We just hope that someday, you'll fully see us that way too. Back in my room, I took the bed closest to the wall. I pulled the covers up. The new mattress made a real difference. Finally, no more sleeping on what felt like a plank. I turned on the little hanging fan, and sat up to call Celine. The moment it connected, a low laugh came through. What does the young master require? Don't tell me you actually missed me. Just bored, I said. Maybe it was a childhood without much warmth, but I'd never been able to say things like I miss you out loud. Sentiment didn't come easy to me. When there was real business, I said so directly. When I called her just to talk, that was its own kind of saying it. Celine laughed, the sound rippling, warmth touching the corners of her eyes. So, a 5-cent conversation, or the $5 kind? You're charging me now? I laughed. You called me. That means I'm already winning. I couldn't hold it in. Then I should be billing by the hour, $5 a session. No friends and family discount? Celine glanced at the time. 2 hours, 500. Deal? I laughed hard enough to feel it in my chest. You were born for business. Back to actual business. The documents are all signed. They go to the notary tomorrow. Should clear in 2 to 3 days. Celine set down whatever she'd been working on and leaned back in her chair to talk. I gave a distracted sound of acknowledgement, then told her about the evening. Celine found the whole Linden family thoroughly entertaining. Are you scared? It came out less like a question and more like a statement, as if she understood my feelings better than I did. You're afraid of family love. I thought back. There was a time I had wanted it, craved it, but Victor and Claire's attention was always on the daughters. Their education was what mattered. I was always the one left out. In the Harwick household, everything material was the finest, but I wanted to be seen. I pushed myself to top the year in every exam. I attended every training class they scheduled, all of it, just to hear them say something good about me. The hope never came back with anything. At 8 years old, I finally understood why the sisters were learning business, and I was learning etiquette. They studied financial reports. I was handed foreign language speeches to memorize. Commercial knowledge was simply never on the table for me, because I was a bargaining piece. My job was to behave, look the part, and eventually be traded in whatever deal required it. After that, I stopped expecting anything from family. And when the Linden family showed me kindness, when I kept searching for the angle, waiting for the catch, that was just me running from something I didn't know how to face. After a long silence from my end, Celine spoke. Some things don't need to be figured out. You have every right to accept love, and enough strength to face whatever comes. There's nothing to be afraid of. Celine steadied something in me. 2 years ago, I learned the Linden family had gone bankrupt, and found out at the same time that I wasn't a Harwick at all. After I told Celine, I started deliberately erasing my own name, distancing myself from who I had been told I was. Celine said it without hesitation. No matter what name you carry, no matter what happens, I'll be right here. She was the reason leaving the Harwick family hadn't felt like free-falling. Her voice came through the phone, low and steady. Adrian, just keep moving forward. I'll always be behind you. You're my trump card, even if I have to bet everything on you. I smiled, quietly, deeply. The next day, perhaps because the warning had landed, Troy kept to himself in class for a while. Before long, the homecoming banquet arrived. Ava spotted Rico at the venue and was visibly surprised. What are you doing here? Aren't you on Adrian's side? Are you here to spy? Rico, forever defending his loyalty, just said, just passing through. Then he actually answered Ava's question. The 2 Harwick daughters are back. I have to livestream this for Adrian. He pulled out his phone with barely concealed excitement, ready to document every second for his friend. Quinn entered and scanned the room. Her expression was flat and purposeful. She strode across the room about to say something, when the hall's speakers came to life. Victor's voice from the stage microphone filled the room. They all looked over. Troy stood in a white suit, radiating the easy, pampered pride of a favorite son. Rico immediately video-called Adrian, dropping his voice. The show's about to start. As the banquet got underway, he panned the camera in a full circle to capture the room. Guess what your hot-headed sister is going to bring to this? Whatever it is, it won't be anything nice. I was sitting at my desk, the lamp casting light across my face, a quiet brightness in my eyes. A faint smile tugged at my lips. I'll leave you to it. I'm going to eat. If anything good happens, film it and send it over. Consider it done. Rico gave an okay sign to the camera. He ended the call, switched to the camera, and hit record. He wasn't going to miss a single moment of this. Victor delivered his opening remarks from the stage. Claire stood beside him, her expressions perfectly calibrated, performing the image of devoted parents reunited with their beloved son. When Victor had said enough, he passed the microphone to Troy and invited him to say a few words. I'm Troy. When I found out that the parents who raised me for years weren't my birth parents, I was shocked too. He launched into what was meant to be a heartfelt speech, a polished, formal script, almost certainly written by someone else and memorized. Rico's lip curled with distaste. He rolled his eyes for good measure. Quinn wasn't listening to Troy at all. Hardly anyone in the room cared about those 17 years or how he'd been found. People were here because this was a Harwick event. Business ties or not. The Harwick sat at the top of the capital circle. You showed up. That was just how it worked. Rico held his phone up recording, switching hands whenever his arm got tired. Quinn drifted closer to Rico. She lowered her voice by his ear. Let me hold it for a bit. Rico instinctively turned to look at her, and suddenly registered just how close she was. He snapped his head back forward and passed over the phone. They were engaged, but both had only just come of age. The arrangement had been set, in childhood, a business alliance between families. They'd always treated each other like siblings. Nothing romantic had ever entered into it. At least, that's how Rico saw it. Quinn watched him press his lips together and edge sideways. A small smile touched her lips. Even the toughest one in the room has a shy side. Troy barely got through a few lines of his speech, when, right as Quinn took the phone, the roar of an engine erupted from outside. The banquet hall was on the ground floor, but it was deep inside the hotel. No vehicle noise should have been able to reach them. Troy's speech died on his lips. Everyone turned toward the main doors, confused. With a thunderous crash, a black Apollo supercar burst through the doors. Screams erupted across the room as guests scrambled out of the way. The long table stacked with pastries and champagne was hit. Bottles crashed to the floor. The room descended into chaos. Victor, who had just been performing the role of devoted father, went stone-faced, his eyes locked on the car. The car screeched to a stop in the middle of the hall. The passenger door flew open, and a border collie leaped out, charging straight for Troy on the stage. Troy screamed. He was terrified of dogs and stumbled backward. He tripped and went down head first. Get it away from me! Get away! He flailed his arms and legs wildly, but everyone else could see clearly. The border collie had stopped a full meter away and hadn't gone near him at all. The driver's door swung open. A tall girl stepped out. She wore a relaxed, oversized outfit. Long fingers hooked her sunglasses down from the bridge of her nose. She leaned against the car, every inch of her radiating defiance and didn't care energy. The banquet hall behind her was in ruins, and she looked completely unbothered. A lazy, sharp grin curved her lips. Little brother, that mouth of yours is something else. I brought you a dog as a welcome gift. Fine if you don't want it, but did you have to say something so ugly? There was nothing kind about any of this. It had the look of a deliberate takedown start to finish. She curled a finger toward the border collie. The dog trotted over obediently, sat at her feet and wagged its tail. Victor's face had gone a shade of pale green fury. Who gave you permission to drive in here? Have you lost your mind? Take your dog, get in your car, and get out. Now. Jade lifted the border collie back into the car and clicked her tongue twice. Why so upset, father? Your daughter's been abroad for 2 years. I suppose now that you have a new son, daughters don't matter anymore. Don't make me say it a third time. Victor's voice dropped lower, harder. Jade gave a long-suffering shrug, got back in the car and reversed out. Nadia, the eldest Harwick daughter, had slipped in at some point unnoticed. She began moving through the room, calming the guests. My sister acted out of turn. I apologize for the fright. I've had the adjacent hall prepared. Please, this way. With Nadia handling it, people were willing to go along. Nobody pushed to revisit what had just happened. Rico, sensing the excitement was over, took back the phone and stopped recording. He sent the footage over with one comment, absolutely spectacular. Troy was taken by his parents to a side room. The air in there felt like it had no oxygen. He twisted his hands together. His voice came out barely above a whisper, shaking. I was scared. I've been afraid of dogs since I was little. Victor stared him down with cold fury. Filthy language in front of all those people. You've humiliated this family. Troy's eyes went red with disbelief. He had been coddled and adored his whole life. No one had ever spoken to him like this. He looked up at his birth family with simmering resentment. It was Jade's fault, clearly. Before he could finish, Victor cut him off, cold as stone. If I'd known you'd be this useless, I never would have brought you back. Troy couldn't understand what he had done wrong. Jade was the one who had caused all of this, so why was he the one being torn apart? He turned to Claire with desperate eyes. They said a mother always knows. Surely she would be on his side, but Claire's face was just as frozen, her expression no kinder than Victor's. When she spoke, there was nothing warm in it. You made a spectacle of us in front of everyone. If there is a next time, I will send you away myself. Go home, now. Victor shot Troy one last look, sharp and cutting, then turned to deal with the aftermath alongside Claire. Every bit of strength drained out of Troy at once. He sank to the floor. He laughed, a hollow, self-mocking sound. No wonder Adrian left the way he did. Didn't even bother packing his clothes. Just a bag, his documents, and out the door in under an hour. No wonder Claire had to go get him. He never wanted to come back to this place. Troy took a slow, deep breath and pulled himself up, expressionless. He walked out like something hollow moving through a world it no longer belonged to. Just feelings. They don't matter. He had fine clothes, fine food, a life above everyone else. This was what he had wanted. Unlike the suffocating atmosphere of the Harwick banquet, the Linden home that evening was warm and full of noise. Dinner was pickled fish, my favorite. B ate and laughed at the same time. Lyra had something on her mind. A classmate's sister works at a production company. Short dramas adapted from novels are really trending right now. She said I have the look for it. If I wanted a side gig, she could recommend me as an actor for one of those productions. Sounds sketchy, Ray said. The industry's full of all kinds right now. A lot of it is just scams. They make you pay a training fee up front, promise you work afterward, and then you never hear from them again. Ray had spent years in business and had heard every version of this scheme. Easy-sounding jobs like fitting model always felt like a trap. Lyra herself wasn't entirely sure. There was no shortage of elaborate cons these days. I just wanted to ask what you all thought first. If you're okay with it, I'll go for the interview. And if they try to charge me for training, I walk. I think you should go for it, I said. With your face, there's a real chance you blow up and get scouted for something bigger. And if that doesn't happen on its own, I can always nudge things from behind the scenes. Same result either way. Try it. You might actually enjoy acting, and it's always good to have more options. I smiled to make it count. Lyra laughed. All right, I'll go with what you say. I'll try tomorrow. Do you want to come with me? No point sitting at home doing nothing. We can get out of the house. Let's go after lunch, I said. I want to sleep in tomorrow morning. Lyra gave my head an affectionate ruffle. After dinner, I grabbed the kitchen scraps and headed downstairs to throw them out. Lyra came along. She didn't like the idea of me going out alone at night. We took the rubbish down together. Then the two of us strolled out to grab some milk tea. We had barely reached the corner when a sleek supercar came tearing down the road and stopped smoothly right in front of us. I recognized the Apollo supercar. I stopped walking. My eyes narrowed, something quiet and sharp rising behind them. The easy expression on my face disappeared. Jade stepped out, both arms resting on the roof of the car, smirking at me. Her first words weren't exactly a greeting. Seriously, my silent little brother leaves the Harwick family for what, a few days, and this is how he shows up? I curved the corner of my mouth. The air at home not keeping you busy enough. So you came all the way out here to check on me. Since when do you talk like you're about to draw a weapon? I genuinely care about you. There wasn't a drop of sincerity in it. She walked around the hood of the car toward me, each step as unhurried and untamed as the rest of her. Haven't seen you in over a year. I even brought you a gift. She pulled open the passenger door. The border collie jumped out. It trotted to her side and sat. I hadn't watched Rico's footage yet, but I knew Jade treated that car like it was sacred. The limited edition supercar was covered in damage. Large patches of paint scraped away, dried streaks of what looked like spilled drinks across the body. Given the time and the state of the car, it didn't take much to figure out what she'd been up to. And since she hadn't stopped anywhere else, the dog had come straight from the homecoming banquet. Jade leaned back against the passenger door. Proud as ever, she said. Still won't touch anything secondhand, but this dog was bought for you. I just took it along for a little performance. You're not really going to petty about it, are you? I let out a cold sound that wasn't quite a laugh, and started walking toward her, until I was half a step away. I looked straight into her eyes, my voice flat with a cold edge beneath it. You have a real talent for getting under people's skin, and the thing I hate most is dogs. Whether that meant the border collie at her feet, or the person standing in front of me, hard to say. We held each other's gaze. Lyra stood nearby like a breath of calm air, unintimidated by the tension hanging between us. She said simply, the milk tea place is about to close. Let's head back. Jade seemed to notice Lyra for the first time. Her gaze swept over her with barely concealed contempt. A girl from a bankrupt family has no business talking here. Lyra's expression stayed completely calm, not a trace of hostility. Adrian is my brother. Whatever there is between the two of you, his business is my business. Jade laughed, all mockery. You're not fit to be his sister. I didn't hold back. She's not fit, are you? Jade didn't flinch. She leaned against the car, still smiling. 17 years at least. I rolled my eyes. Couldn't tell how much of it was real and how much was performance. It sounded like a punchline either way. What exactly are you here for? I live here. Go home. Jade shrugged. If you don't come with me tonight, the next one who comes looking for you will be Nadia. And you should know, she's not as easy to deal with as I am. I came back without missing a beat. She's not my sister. I looked down at the border collie, silky-coated, tail wagging at me. I bent down and took hold of its collar. I shoved Jade aside from where she was leaning against the car and stopped engaging with her. When I looked at Lyra, her expression was soft and easy. At that casual, familiar word, sis, Lyra draped her arm around my shoulder. Let's head home. Jade watched the two of us walk away until we disappeared. Then she fished out her phone and called. Your little brother has a new sister now. He doesn't even care about you anymore. Those were the first words out of her mouth the moment the call connected. On the other end, Nadia was quiet for a long moment, then said flatly, Go take him back yourself then. Jade felt a surge of irritation. She looked over at the old apartment complex. That place is run down and tiny. What is there to stay for? Is he out of his mind? The Harwick estate is plenty luxurious, and you barely go back yourself. Nadia stayed perfectly calm, ignoring her sister's irritation entirely. The fact that he's living in that place, that's partly your doing. If Jade hadn't pulled that stunt and engineered the Linden family's bankruptcy, even if he'd gone back to them, he'd still have been someone. Designer clothes, private cars, not a whole family squeezed into a tiny wreck of an apartment. Jade ground her back teeth. When it came to doing something reckless, she'd been happy to push things along, but the moment it blew up, she was left holding all the blame alone. Nadia was getting more calculating by the day. You'd better keep that energy, and don't even think about going to talk Adrian into coming back. He won't listen to you either, and I'll be watching with great enjoyment. She hung up without another word. Nadia set down her phone. Her fingertips tapped the desk surface in a slow, rhythmic pattern. When she thought, her face showed nothing, just the quiet, suffocating presence of someone who expected to be obeyed. The manager across the desk kept his head down, terrified of saying the wrong thing to this unpredictable boss. Lyra and I got our milk tea and walked home in the evening breeze. Jade hadn't managed to ruin the mood. Lyra studied my expression. After a moment, she said casually, The second Harwick daughter seems to care about you a lot. I understood what she was getting at. No need to test me, I said. I'm not going with her. I left the Harwick family. I'm not going back. It took a lot to get out of that cage. I'm not stupid enough to climb back in. As for whether Jade actually cares about me, maybe, in some capacity. But the kind of care that comes from someone like her, I can't survive it. When I was 5, I still didn't know any better. I craved the warmth and protection of family. I got pushed around by kids at kindergarten, so I went to Jade to tell on them. The normal response would have been to go to the school and sort out whoever was bullying me. But Jade dragged me off to Taekwondo training instead. She said if I was strong enough, nobody would touch me. Then she taught me herself, a 5-year-old beginner, and she showed absolutely no mercy. I ended up with broken ribs and spent 3 months in the hospital. For those 3 months, the only people who came were the household staff. Celine would visit after school to keep me company. The person responsible never showed her face. By the time I recovered and was discharged, when I finally saw Jade again, there was no remorse whatsoever. She told me straight-faced that I was too weak and suggested I try kickboxing next time. Who in their right mind would want a sister like that? Back at home, Helen's stall plan was coming together smoothly. Ray scrubbed the cart inside and out. The plan was to set up near home first, surrounded by familiar neighbors who could give honest feedback, then refine the product before going to the area near Central High on Monday for the real launch. Bea raised her milk teacup. Everyone clinked together. Here's to Mom's booming business. Ray smiled and said, Little Chen is our family's lucky star. Everything around us has been moving in a better direction. When Troy was here, every day was filled with complaints. The whole home felt flat and mechanical, everyone just going through the motions. Since I came back, I've helped in ways I didn't plan for, a kind of force that pushed everyone forward, made them think about what was possible. The renovation was thanks to me too. The marks of age and wear are gone now. Life has a new look, and everyone is full of energy. Each person is pushing in their own direction to make this family better, and at the same time, they're more tightly connected than ever. I looked down with a quiet smile. I hadn't expected that giving something would come back to me like this. If the coldness in the Harwick household could be explained away by the lack of blood ties, then look at Nadia and Jade. They share Harwick blood, and they're no closer to Victor and Claire than I ever was. Troy, the actual biological son, is back now. He won't be valued either. Blood doesn't excuse the Harwick family. Victor and Claire have no warmth in them. Two people who came together through a business arrangement and produced 3 cold machines. Children can't be happy when their parents aren't. Rico told me that once. We should video call Nora, Lyra said. We can't become a family of 4 and just forget she exists. She still doesn't know about the renovation. Let her be jealous through a screen. Lyra laughed as she made the call. It connected quickly. Nora had foundation on and was just starting to do her makeup before heading out. Lyra teased her, getting all dressed up. Where are you off to? She never wore makeup when she came home on breaks. This late? Could it be a date? Nora saw right through her. Tomorrow's the school anniversary showcase. My class put together a performance and I wanted to try the look in advance. Where are you all anyway? Lyra laughed and flipped the camera to show the rest of the family. Everyone took turns saying hello. Nora's voice came through, full of surprise. Is that our home? Ray always got especially animated when the renovation came up. Just happened a couple days ago. Big news. You used to love Sienna's work, right? She designed this place. Nora's voice went up a notch. Sienna made her name at 16, and even when the Linden family had money, we still couldn't have afforded her. After the family went bankrupt, she'd stopped dreaming about it. Stopped even thinking about it, yet here it was, quietly, impossibly real. I took a sip of milk tea, chewing on the tapioca pearls, something turning over in my mind. So Nora was a fan of Sienna's, practically had her as an idol. Why didn't she study interior design then? Why traditional medicine? I took the phone and stood up. Let me give you the tour. I walked her through the living room first, then into the bedroom. Through the phone came one gasp after another. As I talked her through each space, Nora's face was frozen in an enormous smile. She loved it completely. With Sienna's redesign, everything felt so much more open, and the soft blue tones, exactly her style. Nora turned into a completely starstruck fan, murmuring to herself, she's something else, that Sienna. If Sienna ever heard that, she'd be insufferable around me for months. Nora suddenly frowned. A full renovation like this, that has to be 80 or 90,000 at least. I said, Sienna's my friend. She probably didn't charge a design fee, but the materials weren't cheap. 20,000 is nothing to me. Less than a dinner. No point putting that weight on Nora, so I left it out. Nora let out a sigh. I cut her off before she could say it. Don't you dare feel guilty. Finish up graduation this month. Start the internship next month. When you're back, you're treating me to dinner. I smiled. Come back soon. See what your new room feels like. We exchanged a few more words and hung up. Nora was left slightly stunned. She'd only been back at university for a little over a week, and the family had transformed. She knew exactly where that luck had come from. Ever since the new mattress, my sleep had improved considerably. Then my phone rang. I glanced at the screen. My expression darkened. I hung up. They called again immediately. Lyra heard it and came over to ask what was going on. I waved her off. It was nothing. Then I picked up, irritated. What do you want? At that moment, a low-key dark green Mercedes was parked outside the complex. Nadia was looking out the window at Helen. I'm downstairs. Come down and talk, or I can invite Mrs. Linden into the car instead. Nadia's voice was cold, but what made my skin crawl was the implication. She must have run into Helen coming back from the stall. I grabbed my keys and ran. I knew Nadia too well. Her methods were sharp and ruthless. Helen was no match for her. If Helen actually got into that car, there was no telling what Nadia might say, and she'd almost certainly use it to pressure me into coming back. I shoved my feet into my shoes and bolted downstairs. I ran straight into Helen coming in. I exhaled and slowed my pace, pulling on an easy smile. You're back early. How was business this morning? Helen's face lit up when she saw me. You've got the stall tomorrow, I added. You prepped extra already. Go upstairs and rest for a bit. From a distance, Nadia watched the two of us. Then she saw me break into a stride toward her. She slowly pulled her gaze away and told the driver to leave. I reached the entrance and watched the Mercedes pull away. A question mark formed in my head. I pulled out my phone and called Nadia back, my tone anything but polite. You said you wanted to talk. I came down and you left. What's that about? Nadia's voice was calm. Changed my mind. Dinner tomorrow night, I'll pick you up. Then she hung up. No one with a Harwick name is normal, not a single one. After dinner I changed and threw on my small backpack, heading out with Lyra for her acting audition. On the bus I looked her over. When did you last buy something new to wear? Her white shirt had yellowed, the collar warped out of shape. She had maybe 3 or 4 casual outfits, all washed to the point of fading. Lyra gave a slightly awkward smile. I don't really pay attention to that kind of thing. These are the years you should look your best, I told her. She recalled quietly. Most of what I earned from working went to buying things for Troy. I never saved anything for myself. She'd once thought it was worth it. Working hard, saving carefully, buying him clothes and shoes. Now all she could say was that she had no regrets. Even if Troy had turned his back on her without a second thought, she could say she'd been decent. She'd never shortchanged him. The Linden family is honestly the strangest I've ever encountered. Did Troy save their lives in a past life or something? Going to an interview at a production company. You need to look the part. Show up in worn-out clothes and you'll feel it before they even say a word. When we arrived, I took her to a clothing store first to pick something out. We had barely stepped inside when a sharp, contemptuous voice cut through. Well, isn't it the Harwick heir? Used to wear custom-tailored everything. Now look at you. I almost didn't recognize you. I didn't bother responding. Zane's face went red with frustration. It happened every single time we crossed paths. The Joe family ran a few factories, wealthy, but nowhere near the level of an established dynasty. Zane had always resented my academic performance. We'd never gotten along. He'd always disliked me but had been careful not to push things because of my status. But that was then. Now I was just a former foster son, pushed out of the Harwick family. I had no Harwick name anymore. What grounds did I have to be arrogant? Since you're aware I left the Harwick family, you should also know I no longer carry that name. The real Harwick heir won't let you off, he said. I smiled, the kind that didn't reach anywhere near my eyes. I let his resentful glare wash over me. I pulled a new-style Chinese outfit from the rack and handed it to Lyra. This suits you. Lyra cast a cautious glance at Zane. I gave her a look. Don't worry about him. Zane scoffed and kept glaring. You're broke, reeking of poverty. That piece cost several thousand. Can you even afford it? Trying things on just to put them back. And if you damage something, what are you going to pay with? I kept my tone flat, making the insult land quietly. Whether I have money or not is none of your business. Stop polluting my field of vision. After years of going head-to-head with Nadia and Jade, my tongue was perfectly sharp. I used to hold back for the sake of the Harwick name. Now that name is gone. Whoever comes at me gets exactly what they deserve. Zane seethed. You just wait. He dropped the threat and walked out. Lyra came out in the new outfit. I looked her over, pleased. It suits you perfectly, just as I thought. We arrived at the production company. It was small, clearly hadn't been open long. Lyra followed the directions in and went for her audition. I waited outside, staring at the company logo. My eyes narrowed slightly. Something about it looked familiar. A receptionist showed me to the waiting area. With that outfit and her looks and presence, Lyra might actually land something good. After nearly half an hour, a familiar voice. You again. I set down my cup and turned. Zane. Again. His eyes were full of mockery. The beloved heir, reduced to auditioning. I'd suggest you leave while you still can. I propped my chin in my hand and looked at him with genuine amusement. This is my uncle's company. One word from me and neither of you gets anywhere near a role. I turned that over thoughtfully. So this company belongs to your uncle. Zane snorted. Now that you know, why are you still here? Beg me in person and I might consider getting you a part. Just as the words left his mouth, a tall, middle-aged man came out of the office. Zane ran over and said, he brought his sister to audition. I don't like him. Mr. Chen looked at his nephew with clear indulgence. He treated the boy like his own son. The moment he heard someone was causing trouble, he turned with a sharp look, and then his expression changed completely when he met my eyes. How did you end up here? The respectful way Mr. Chen addressed me made Zane's eyes go wide. Mr. Chen pushed past Zane and walked quickly toward me. Is there something you needed from me today? I took a calm sip of water. Just keeping my sister company for the audition. Mr. Chen smiled. You hold 50% of this company. Getting someone in is the easiest thing in the world. My gaze drifted meaningfully to Zane. Good thing your nephew reminded me. I'd almost forgotten I had a stake in this. All I had to do back then was handle whatever the Harwick family assigned me. I'd been learning investment from Celine since we were young. I honestly couldn't keep track of which companies I had shares in. Every owner who knew called me by my given name. Mr. Chen continued. Which role is your sister going for? I'll have it locked in immediately. I glanced at Zane. My sister prefers to earn things herself. She doesn't rely on other people's connections. Mr. Chen caught the meaning beneath that. He shot his nephew a look. Did you have some kind of misunderstanding with him? Apologize. Right now. I curved my lips. No misunderstanding. He just doesn't like me, and that's a personal matter. Mixing it with business would make it look like I'm using my position to settle scores. That's not who I am. Mr. Chen visibly relaxed. You're always the bigger person. This nephew of mine has been spoiled. I'll keep a tighter rein on him going forward. Zane clenched his teeth, but he didn't say a word. A group of about a dozen auditionees came out. Lyra was among them. I pulled back the energy immediately. Lyra smiled. I got a small role, not much screen time. I said a brief goodbye to Mr. Chen and we headed out. He watched the two of us go. At the mall, I picked up 2 outfits each for the whole family. Mid-autumn festival gifts. Watching me spend nearly 10,000 in one go. Lyra felt uneasy. That much money, Mom and Dad are definitely going to feel awkward accepting it. I said 1,000 for a piece that lasts, that's value. Cheap things that fall apart after a wash are pointless. My philosophy is simple, your wardrobe should have pieces that hold up when it counts. Honestly, spending a few thousand on clothes was partly just to annoy Jade. When the news reached Jade, she nearly lost her mind. Adrian took Lyra shopping and bought new clothes for the whole Linden family. 17 years as siblings, and he never once bought me anything to wear. And now he's taking that stand-in sister of his shopping. I need to go confront him about this. Jade grabbed her phone and car keys. I'm dragging him back today. The butler stepped smoothly in front of her, head slightly bowed. And what exactly would going accomplish? It was you who had the Linden family brought down. He's probably still angry with you over that. Jade stopped mid-step. Something flickered in her eyes, a trace of regret. She had engineered that bankruptcy deliberately, to keep me from leaving the Harwick family. Who could have predicted that even knowing the Linden family had fallen apart, I'd still walk out without a second thought? I had no trust in the Harwick family, not a drop. Jade's reputation in the capital circle wasn't exactly clean. Reckless, unruly, never serious about anything. So what had suddenly driven her to pull a stunt this big? The answer went back 2 years, to when Nora had an accidental run-in with Jade's boyfriend. Jade had been there. The moment she saw Nora's face, so similar to mine, she had someone look into it immediately. That was how she found out I wasn't her real brother. That I was the Linden family's biological son. I was probably the only person in that cold house who had ever genuinely interested her. She didn't want me to leave the Harwick family, so she arranged for the Linden family to go bankrupt. Even if the truth about the real and false heir came out, she figured I'd take one look at the broken-down Linden family and refuse to claim them. But at the same time, she was afraid that once everything was out in the open, I might not get a real choice, and she didn't want me to actually go back there and suffer. So after the Linden family went under, she came to find me and said it to my face. The Linden family is broke now. Stay put, be my good little brother, and I'll keep spoiling you just the same. She told me the truth early, so that before it became public I'd have time to prepare. Use the Harwick family's resources to make some investments, set aside some savings, so that whatever happened, my life wouldn't be too hard. She hadn't expected things to unravel so quickly. Just 2 years, and Troy showed up at the door. In her view, my leaving wasn't entirely the right move either. Better to leave and stand on my own than stay as a foster son. The one thing she hadn't anticipated was that I'd choose to go back to the Linden family. Jade propped her chin in her hand and let out a sullen sigh. To this day, she still doesn't know whether what she did was right or wrong. Troy came looking on his own, but how did he find out about the mix-up in the first place? That question had been nagging at me lately. I brought it up with Celine over lunch on Monday. I'd known the truth about my background for 2 years, so when Troy first showed up, I didn't immediately think something was off. but thinking it through these past few days, Victor and Claire never paid much attention to me. There's no way they suddenly decided to go looking for their biological son on their own, and the Linden family had already gone bankrupt. Troy had no way of contacting them. So how did he find out who he was? And where did he get the paternity test? Celine found it suspicious too. When I was born, the Harwick family was already at the top. Private hospital, private ward. How does a mix-up like that even happen? Someone arranged it. This was deliberate. Troy showed up with a paternity test in hand. If he actually is the biological son, fine. But where did that test come from? And if he isn't, then whoever is behind this has very deep motives. I don't care whose blood runs in me, and I don't particularly care whether Troy is real or not. But if someone engineered this, then I've been used as a piece in someone else's game. And I still don't know what they want, or who they're really targeting. I don't like the feeling of being maneuvered without knowing it. I'll have someone look into it quietly. You find an opportunity to feel out Troy. See what he lets slip. Celine poured me a glass of orange juice. She didn't look particularly worried. After all, I was just a child back then. Whoever was behind it, they weren't targeting me specifically. It didn't directly concern me now. So there was no real reason for her to be too worried. She wasn't wrong, but the feeling of being watched from the shadows was unsettling. Finding out the truth was the only safe move, and I trusted Celine completely. Celine narrowed her eyes. Since when do you talk to me like that? 17 years and we're starting to sound like strangers. I gave her a look. Can you dial it back a little? Celine put on a look of devastation. Used to call me by name, now it's all Director Lou. I reached over and gave her a light thwack on the back. She just laughed and didn't move. The research institute has genetic testing equipment. Whenever you get the chance, get a hair sample from Troy and run a match. I continued. After graduation, I don't need to be sent abroad, but I'm applying to graduate early on the domestic track. Everything at the company is on me right now. When are you coming to share the load? Celine laughed in disbelief. I'm not a workhorse. I put in the capital, you do the labor. What kind of arrangement is that? The next day when class was about to begin, the teacher walked in with the textbook. Troy turned to glance at my seat, and a small smile crept onto his lips, something calculating flickering in his eyes. Adrian got picked up at lunch and still hasn't come back. Class is about to start. Maybe he had something urgent. Should we just begin, teacher? Rico heard the snide remark and rolled his eyes. Thought he'd finally learned to behave, and here he is throwing shade at Adrian the moment he gets the chance. Rico raised his voice. Adrian is in a business meeting with Celine. Since Director Lou picked him up personally, I think we can all stop worrying about his well-being. The teacher gave a knowing nod, opened the textbook, and began the lesson. Troy's face went sour. What kind of school just lets students skip class without a word? Crestwood was full of heirs to powerful families. Most would go home to take over the family business, but a good number already had their own ventures running on the side. Teachers had long since stopped blinking at absences caused by business meetings. The school was deliberately loose on that front. After all, the point was real-world experience. You couldn't hold that back. Skip a class, fine. Pass the finals, and no one cared. Troy, newly arrived and still figuring things out, didn't understand any of that. All he was thinking was, how do I knock Adrian off his pedestal? First step, get rid of Celine. And if that wasn't possible, find a way to drive a wedge between us. By the time I got back to school, it was the third period of the afternoon, equestrian class. I changed in the locker room and headed to the riding field to join the class. Rico said to me, a meal with Celine that takes several hours. I glanced toward Troy and let that sit. Matters of blood and identity, those qualify as life-changing, don't they? Rico didn't catch what I meant. Did she confess to you? Did you two finally make it official? I gave him a look. We're close friends, that's all. Rico pulled a face. Close friends, sure. Everyone knows you two are basically already promised to each other. I gave him a flat look. You and Quinn are the ones who were meant to be. Meant to be? Please. My type is more like your sister. Who arranges marriages for their kids anymore? Quinn and I are just friends, pure and simple. If we actually ended up married, we'd probably cringe every time we looked at each other. I was simultaneously exasperated and amused. You're purely chasing looks. Lyra has a gentle personality. If you actually dated her, you'd find her boring within a week. She's perfect for me, Rico shot back. You're just being overprotective. He wrapped an arm around my waist and started tickling me until I laughed and begged for mercy. I twisted away from his attack. Out of the corner of my eye, I spotted Quinn approaching. Come control your future husband. Rico's ears went red. He stopped immediately. Quinn's ears flushed too. She looked down and touched her nose. The engagement between the Lin and Shen families was no secret, but shouting it out in front of everyone still made things awkward. A blood-curdling scream shattered the moment. Everyone turned. Troy was clinging to the reins for his life, face drained white, features twisted in terror. The equestrian instructor rode close behind, looking for the right moment to step in. Don't grip the reins so tight, relax your body, the teacher called out while riding. He was trying to coach Troy into regaining control, but all he got back was screaming. Troy couldn't loosen up for a second, his palms slick with sweat, his heart hammering like it was trying to break out of his chest. Rico stood there slack-jawed, slowly shaking his head. 2 equestrian classes a week. How does Troy manage to have a breakdown in every single one? Quinn shook her head too. How did he pass the entrance exam? Aren't you going to help? If he gets thrown off, he's going to dislocate something. Not my problem, I said. The teacher's handling it. What does it have to do with me? The words had barely left my mouth when the teacher's voice came from across the field. Adrian, come give me a hand. Rico and Quinn burst out laughing. I let out a long sigh, mounted up, and rode after them. Being good at things isn't always a blessing. I pulled Troy in front of me and rode him safely back. The instructor leaped onto the spooked horse and brought it under control. Troy passed out and was taken away by the school nurse. I reached down and stroked the horse I'd raised since it was a foal. A wordless well done. Rico came over and clapped me on the shoulder. Since when are you so generous, going out of your way to rescue him? Quinn gave a light snort and said lazily, he's not being kind, that's just what happens when you're the one everyone calls on. Can't help it. I pretended to be offended and gave them both a look. You two really are a team when it comes to calling me heartless. Rico laughed it off. Quinn looked calm and thoroughly amused. Who told you to top the year and show off on the field? If you weren't so good, they wouldn't have called your name today. Being too good has its costs. If I didn't pull out a trump card now and then, first place might not stay mine, and I might not even be at Crestwood anymore. Rico and Quinn said it without a trace of humor. There really is someone formidable in the year. Luna from Class 1, my toughest competitor at school. Our scores were neck and neck. In every exam I only edged her out by a few points. Last semester Luna pulled off a stunning score in the equestrian exam. If I hadn't read the situation and raised the difficulty of my own performance, she would have beaten me in the final rankings. I scraped through by 1 point, and without that, I might not have been at Crestwood this year at all. Luna was fine-featured and well-liked across the year, but something about her always gave me a creeping feeling. Rico thought about her smile and visibly shuddered. It wasn't an obviously sinister look. She smiled like warm sunlight, but those eyes of hers felt wrong somehow. There was always the sense that she was concealing something unfriendly. It gave people a chill. And the way she looked at me specifically, smiling on the surface but hiding something deep beneath. The hostility was there and not there at the same time. Impossible to read. Quinn nodded in agreement. She had dealt with Luna twice. She found her to be the smiling tiger type, barely a straight word from her mouth, and a cold, unsettling energy that seeped outward from somewhere deep inside. I thought it over. I'd never come face to face with Luna. Our rivalry had only ever existed on the rankings board. I'd never bothered to look into her background. Among the Capital Circle's elite families, I didn't recall ever hearing of a Liu family. Quinn actually had something. I heard she's not from the capital. She lives with her aunt. Her aunt is from the Eastport Circle. Nobody seems to know exactly who she is, and people don't ask. Luna herself comes from money. That much is clear. Rico was puzzled. So she's from Eastport, coming all the way to the capital just to study here. Quinn shrugged. Is that so unusual? It's a top private school. We have students from outside the capital too. Someone probably sent her here specifically for Crestwood's curriculum. Luna was strange, sure, but when it came down to it, she had nothing to do with me. I'd never even met her properly. There was no way she had anything against me specifically. I let it go. Don't overthink it, I said. I mounted up and rode a free, easy practice lap around the field. Then I went to change for the next class. I came out of the locker room and walked straight into the girl my friends had described. Luna, the unsettling one. Luna's lips curved into a smile, a brightness in her eyes, but the smile never reached beneath the surface. No warmth, no hostility either, apparently. Are you here to change, I said? Or were you waiting for me? Luna smiled openly. There's been a lot of talk around the year lately. Someone as sharp as you shouldn't be sacrificing long-term advantage for the sake of loyalty. My eyes narrowed, barely perceptibly, then returned to normal just as quickly. If you already know it's just talk, why bother coming to tell me any of this? What's the real reason you left the Harwick family? She asked. But what I noticed in her eyes was something dangerous. I met her gaze evenly. If I told you it was to find my birth family, would you believe me? I raised an eyebrow slightly. And if you don't, why ask? I was done talking. I stepped forward and brushed past her. Luna's expression stilled. The smile slipped away. What was left behind in her eyes was something cold and sharp, completely unguarded. I went back to the classroom, sat down, and took a sip from my water bottle. I replayed the conversation in my head. Rico and Quinn had been right. Luna's words were seamless, not a single crack to pick apart. She smiled all the way through, but her eyes were sharp and cold underneath. Hostility that appeared and disappeared. Mysterious and dangerous. Impossible to read. Other heirs in this school weren't blind. If Luna's strangeness was this obvious, she couldn't possibly have this many admirers. The only explanation was that she concealed it well, but couldn't quite hide it from me. And it seemed to extend to the people around me too. She was targeting me? I didn't understand it. Today was the first time we'd ever actually spoken. We had never crossed paths before. I was from the Capital Circle. Our worlds had no overlap outside of school. Had 2 years of losing to me on rankings been enough to build this kind of resentment? She seemed particularly interested in why I had left the Harwick family. Someone from the Eastport Circle, keeping close tabs on Capital Circle gossip, that was strange enough on its own. Could she have a grudge against the Harwick family? But if that were the case, why come to me? I decided to stop turning it over. What I needed to know would come to me eventually. Rico dropped himself onto my desk. Come to my winery tonight for a drink? I tapped his hand and started organizing the books on my desk. I frowned. Can you at least try to look presentable? I gave him a look. He tugged at his own collar, unbothered. The winery's been open this long and you've never once shown up. Quinn rolled her eyes. You really believe in yourself, don't you? Don't you know that winery is guaranteed to fail? Rico scoffed and smacked her on the arm. Mind your own business. You were supposed to bring me a bottle of new wine last time, and you ruined the whole thing. I still owe you for that. Quinn leaned against the desk across from him and said, the whole shipment got flagged in an inspection out of nowhere. The deal fell through. It wasn't like I did it on purpose. I'll make it up to you when I find a good bottle next time. I listened to the two of them bicker. Rico, still fired up, threatened to wrestle her jacket off her right there in front of everyone. Quinn found that mortifying. They descended into full chaos, the classroom filled with laughter. I ducked my head and covered my mouth, trying not to let mine show. Those two had been at each other's throats since they were kids. No wonder Rico treated her like one of the guys. Rico saw me actually laughing and poked my arm. Don't just sit there enjoying the show. You haven't answered me yet. I'll set aside a 1982 vintage grape juice for you. A 1982 vintage grape juice is just wine with a different name. You really want to let me near alcohol? Aren't you afraid of what Celine would do to you? Everyone knows I'm the person she holds closest. Anything that could do me even the slightest harm, she'd eliminate it without a second thought. If Rico dared give me alcohol, he'd be the next one she dealt with. I said, you two can stop fighting. I'm not coming tonight. Nadia asked me to dinner. Rico immediately jumped off the desk, like he'd just heard the sky was falling. His voice jumped up several notches. What is the eldest Harwick daughter getting involved for now? She's not planning to drag you off somewhere, is she? Quinn put a firm hand on my shoulder. She had the expression of someone sending a soldier off to war. I have a soft armor vest at home. I'll have someone bring it for you to wear tonight. Rico and Quinn's alarm wasn't unreasonable. They knew about my complicated history with the two Harwick daughters, and after more than a decade of knowing me, they had a very clear picture of those two. Jade used to have a large dog. At 17, furious at Nadia's attempts to control her, she had set the dog on 19-year-old Nadia. Nadia had the dog put down without a single word. The whole Harwick household was thrown into chaos. Victor and Claire interrogated both of them. Jade denied giving the order. Nadia pinned the blame directly on me. My parents knew perfectly well it couldn't have been me, and grounded me to my room for a month anyway. Jade, to get back at Nadia, snuck into the company where Nadia was working at the time and cut the main power. The outage wiped critical data, over $1 million in losses. Nadia, without a single word, had Jade's favorite car destroyed. Both sisters were deeply in the wrong, and Jade accused me of being the one who cut the power. My parents once again knew the truth, and once again let them get away with it. They put me right back under house arrest the moment my first sentence ended. Another month confined to my room. From that point on, I understood. I was nothing more than a piece to be traded in the right marriage deal. No matter how well behaved or capable I was, I would never be seen, never be praised. Instead, I absorbed whatever disaster came my way. Every mistake either sister made, I was the one who carried it, because I simply didn't matter enough for it to be otherwise. Through those two incidents, I saw both sisters clearly for what they were. A ruthless, cold eldest, a wild, reckless second. If I wanted to survive growing up in that house, I had to learn to fight both of them. My friends, when they heard any of this, said more than once, the fact that you made it out of there in one piece is nothing short of a miracle. Dinner alone with Nadia. Should we call the police in advance? Or at least bring a self-defense stick? You never know with her. I'm genuinely afraid that if you say something off, she'll just start physically disciplining you on the spot. Rico was genuinely worried. His best friend, unarmed and not exactly built for combat, going to a dinner date with Nadia. Anything could happen. I gave him an exasperated look. Then come with me. Didn't you promise Celine you'd be my bodyguard? Rico sucked in a sharp breath. I can't beat Nadia either. Everyone knows what she did at that banquet, dealt with the troublemakers on the spot. That's exactly why her father sent her abroad afterwards. Relax, both of you. She won't lay a hand on me. I don't like either of them, but I know I won't be in any actual danger. Rico pulled up a chair beside me. You can't be sure of that. When you're actually in danger, both sisters have always protected you. But when you're not, they are the danger. And that grounding was nothing compared to the time she got you put on restricted movement for half a year. I touched my nose and found I had nothing to say to that. To be fair about the half-year thing, that one wasn't really Nadia's fault. When I was 13, she took me out with her. We got ambushed by people from a rival family. She had no bodyguards with her. 2 fists can only do so much against a crowd. While she was shielding me, someone hit me across the leg with a wooden bat. Fortunately, my training let me dodge enough that it wasn't catastrophic. I recovered fully after 6 months. For those 6 months, Celine personally took me to and from wherever I needed to go. According to Celine, Nadia dealt with every single person who had been involved in that ambush, swiftly and without mercy. In her own way, she avenged me. Even so, thinking about her still makes me uneasy. That expressionless face, impossible to read, and underneath it something violent and sharp. Her methods are brutal. I smiled and reassured them both. I've been going head-to-head with those two for 17 years. I'll be fine. Rico sighed and ran a hand through his short hair. Celine is in the capital. Call her the second anything goes wrong. We'll mobilize immediately. As the sky dimmed and school let out, I packed my bag and took a slow breath, bracing myself. I wasn't exactly looking forward to dealing with Nadia, but I didn't have a choice. Avoid her today and she'd be back tomorrow. I couldn't dodge her forever. When I reached the school gate, that familiar dark green Mercedes was waiting. What I hadn't expected, Nadia had actually gotten out of the car to meet me. Unprecedented. The eldest daughter herself coming to pick me up in person. I'm flattered beyond words. I curved the corner of my lips and let the sarcasm come naturally. And where's that bargain bin sister of yours? Nadia fired back without missing a beat, scanning the area. No one in a central high uniform waiting around. She had someone look into it. Lyra came to pick me up every day after school. Today she wasn't here. I hooked my thumbs through my bag straps. You're the one who asked me to dinner. I told her to go on ahead. Nadia's expression darkened slightly, a quiet danger in her eyes. You're protective of her. I smiled, the kind with nothing behind it, and held her gaze, each word deliberate. I'm wary of you. We held each other's stare. Neither of us gave an inch. Rico and Quinn, watching from behind, felt the air between us ready to ignite. They might not even make it to the restaurant before it blew up. The tension was suffocating. She'd barely said 2 sentences and it had already come to this. I think we should follow them, just to be safe, before they could settle on how to intervene. A new arrival disrupted everything. Troy came running in his school uniform, the hem of his jacket catching the wind. He looked young and bright, his smile warm and open. He'd exchanged greetings with his sisters at the banquet but hadn't seen them since. When it came down to it, they were still blood. Nadia coming here meant she wanted to smooth things over. And given the tension between us, she clearly wasn't fond of me. The false heir. Troy put on a sweetened voice thinking it would charm her. Big sister, are you here for me? I'm your real brother. You'll look out for me from now on, right? He had absolutely no idea who he was dealing with. I scoffed and rolled my eyes. It stung on Lyra's behalf, as if she had ever done anything but pour herself out for him. Don't worry, I said. You have plenty coming your way. Troy shot me a smug look, then turned back to Nadia, composing himself into the picture of thoughtful, well-behaved sincerity. Even though he took 17 years of a life that should have been mine, I don't blame him. Don't be too hard on him either. Since you two still have things to discuss, I'll get in the car first. He reached for the rear car door and found it wouldn't move. He knocked on the driver's window. The driver didn't glance up. Troy turned, looking wounded. The driver won't open the door for me. I couldn't hold back the laugh. Your real brother is waiting. I'll leave you to it. I moved to make my exit. Troy stood frozen. He looked at me, then at Nadia. He couldn't believe she'd actually come for me. School had just let out. The gate was already packed, and even more people were now watching. With this many eyes on him, there was no way Troy could afford to look foolish. He forced a smile and pushed through it. Oh, I see. Big sister invited Adrian to dinner too. Well then, let's all head out together. Mom and Dad would be so pleased to hear we're all getting along. He was using the parents as leverage, implying that if Nadia didn't play along, it would embarrass the family and they'd hear about it. Nadia had no attachment to her parents. There was nothing for that threat to hook onto. She ignored Troy's move completely. She hadn't looked at him once this entire time. I stood where I was, holding Nadia's gaze without backing down. Nadia narrowed her eyes slightly. A few years apart, you've really grown into yourself. You flatter me. And this car, I wouldn't dare get in. I'm not getting in. We can stand here as long as you like. Do you need me to physically put you in? Nadia's patience had run out. I held my ground. Let's see what she actually does. In the Harwick household, it wasn't just me at war with them. The two sisters had been at each other's throats since childhood. Constant sabotage, constant blame shifting. Eventually I learned to use Jade to keep Nadia in check, and Nadia to keep Jade in line. Each one held the other back. Nadia bit down on her back teeth, let out a barely audible sigh of resignation and said, "Get in." Another round to me. I smiled and got in. I walked to the rear door. The driver, reading the room, immediately unlocked it. I pulled it open and folded myself inside. Finally, she said. Then she turned a cold, sweeping glance toward Troy. Every stray that crawls along thinks they can climb up here. Things that don't belong will only dirty my car. She wasn't talking about anyone else. She was looking straight at Troy and finding him beneath her. Nadia walked around to the other side and got in. I lowered the window, a quiet laugh. Work on your equestrian skills. If something like today happens again, I won't come for you. An ungrateful person is worse than a dog, don't you think? The window went up, the car pulled away. Troy was livid, hopping with rage. He hadn't expected Nadia to show him absolutely zero respect, taking Adrian and leaving him standing here. He was the real Harwick son. Why did Adrian, who didn't even carry the Harwick name anymore, still command this much respect, still have Nadia's protection? Why did Adrian always manage to linger everywhere like a ghost that wouldn't leave? Everyone around had seen it plainly. Troy was the real heir, and his sisters didn't think much of him at all. In Nadia's eyes, Troy wasn't worth 1,000th of what I was. Whatever Victor and Claire's stance, the Harwick estate would ultimately pass to Nadia, without her acknowledgement. The title of heir was hollow. Helen, who had seen everything, turned to Lyra, who had just arrived to help with the stall after school. Little Chen, he went with the Harwick people. It's all right. I know what you're worried about. Lyra said it with a slight furrow in her brow. Mom, trust him. He promised us he won't go back to the Harwick family. At that moment, Rico, still sulking about earlier, came bounding over. Hey, it's Lyra's mom! His eyes locked onto Lyra and refused to move. How is someone this beautiful even real? Like something out of a painting. Completely otherworldly. Quinn pressed her lips together, her eyes full of quiet grievance. She stepped sideways, cutting off his line of sight. Hi, we're friends of Adrian's. He mentioned you run a little stall here. We thought we'd come have a look. Helen beamed. Hello. Any friend of Adrian's, let me make you a deluxe rice ball, on the house. She put together a generously loaded rice ball, cut it in half, and handed one piece to each of them. Tell me what you think. Quinn accepted it politely with both hands. Rico ate with obvious relish. Did you make all the fillings yourself? He said through a mouthful. This is incredible. If you'd have me, I'd love to come mooch a proper meal at your place sometime. He ate with such uninhibited enjoyment that just watching him made you hungry. Helen laughed until her eyes were barely slits. Just give me a heads up whenever you want to come. I'll make a few extra dishes. You're welcome anytime. My son has so many good friends at school, and such kind ones at that. It says something about the kind of person he is. How could a mother not feel happy and relieved seeing that? With those two stirring things up, a few more of their classmates drifted over to see what was happening. When they found out the woman was my birth mother, they all pitched in and bought something. A busy stall attracts more customers. Within minutes the crowd had grown and Helen was swamped. Lyra jumped in to help. Rico stood nearby the entire time, watching her with an expression of pure, unfiltered admiration. Quinn rolled her eyes. Fine, she came after Adrian and Rico's priorities. Fine, she came after Celine. But now Lyra was ranking above her too? This was getting concerning. One day this guy was going to forget she existed entirely. Something had to be done. Quinn shifted position, casually, smoothly, and stepped into the line of sight between Rico and Lyra. Want to go see a movie this weekend? Rico asked, his eyes still trailing after Lyra. Lyra caught the starstruck look in his eyes and felt her face warm. She'd been quietly regarded as the most beautiful girl at Central High. People stared when she went out. She was used to being looked at, but when the person doing the looking was her brother's best friend, that was somehow different. Thank you both. You clearly have a really close friendship. Rico threw an arm grandly around Quinn's shoulder. If I weren't already spoken for, I'd carry her home in a bridal sedan chair with full ceremony. Quinn pressed her palm to her forehead. Saying something like that in front of someone's sister, and you're not afraid of being misunderstood? Over 10 years of knowing him, and she genuinely believed he was missing something upstairs. No wonder the only real friend he'd ever had was Adrian. Lyra, for her part, found his straightforwardness refreshing. You still haven't answered. Are you coming this weekend? Rico lit up immediately. Would you want to come with us? If he could get Lyra to come along, he'd get to spend more time around someone worth looking at. Lyra shook her head. I have a shift this weekend. You two go. Rico deflated. What's the great Adrian up to then? The first couple of weeks were busy with settling back into the Linden family. On weekends there were hospital visits to make, and Celine is back in town this week. There's probably a visit there too. Lyra didn't know the specifics of what kept me occupied, but after these weeks together, she understood well enough that my reach extended far beyond what was visible. Even without the Harwick name, there were enterprises most people knew nothing about. I was not an ordinary high school student, and it was my private business, so she left it alone. Then, whenever you're free, come visit. You're always welcome. When the rice balls were sold out, the stall wrapped up. Ray came to collect everyone. Quinn helped lift the cart into the vehicle. The car had been parked on the side of the road for a while. She pulled Rico in with her, apparently planning to take him home to help sort through some things. Quinn let out a helpless sigh. She and Celine were both, in their own ways, the reliable ones their childhood friends leaned on, and yet somehow that felt entirely different for each of them. Night fell. The car window reflected my expression back at me, thoroughly unenthused. This restaurant again. Maybe it was because the Harwick years held so few real memories, and this place had been one of the constants. Nadia had bought it at some point. After that, she always brought me here. But human warmth has its limits. Too many visits and you grow tired of even the things you once liked, the same way I eventually tired of the cold in the Harwick house. I went straight to the point. All this effort to drag me out to dinner. What do you actually want? You came yesterday and drove off without a word. Now a formal dinner. Whatever this is, it's clearly not something you can say in a few sentences. Nadia lifted her wineglass and took a slow sip. Are they good to you? All of this, and that's the question. No worse than being the Harwick heir. Nadia's expression shifted through something unreadable. She set down her glass without a word, neither agreeing nor pushing back. She had known for a long time that I planned to leave the Harwick family once I came of age. In the 2 years before that, she had quietly backed certain investments, making sure I'd have enough in my hands to stand on my own. What she hadn't predicted was that I'd go back to the Linden family and choose to live with people she considered to have nothing to offer. With what I currently had, a little attention to it would be enough to live comfortably for the rest of my life. Instead, I was getting involved in things that weren't my concern, spending time and resources on the Linden family. I looked out at the night beyond the window and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time, a stillness with nothing behind it. This was enough. Nadia was blunt and to the point. I bought an estate in Country A. If you won't go back to the Harwick family, come with me instead. I set down my knife and fork and looked up at her, coldly. You think it's just the house I hate? Nadia kept cutting her steak, something private moving behind her expression. After I left, the Harwick estate had become nothing but a cold mechanical operation. Neither she nor Jade wanted to go back. Even with the arrival of the real heir, it was no longer a place either of them could call home. Deep down, Nadia knew perfectly well. What I resented wasn't just that house, or just Victor and Claire. It included her and Jade too. So which is it? Do you like the Linden family itself? That cramped little apartment? The people in it? Do you like having Lyra as a sister? She fired the questions one after another. Her tone was calm, but I heard the anger underneath it and I went on guard immediately. If you touch anyone in the Linden family, this is the last time we meet. It wasn't that I cared so deeply about the Linden family. It was more that lately this had started to feel like a game to me. Seeing how long it would take to build something from nothing, I'd finally found something that held my interest, and I'd used my connections to give them a push. If Nadia went rogue now, everything I'd set in motion would be wasted. Nadia let out a cold, scoffing laugh. She always did know exactly how to handle me. She stared at me, the way a predator watches something it has already decided belongs to it. I don't make a habit of crushing things for sport, but the Baekuhan family project, forget it. I narrowed my eyes slightly. Same as always, pulling the same leash every time. She knew I cared about my work, so she used business leverage to make me fall in line. It wasn't that I couldn't find an alternative, it was that I'd spent over a year on that deal, pouring in time and effort. Walking away now meant writing off a significant investment, but the one thing I had never lacked was the courage to start over. If Nadia thought this move would work on me, it wouldn't. What exactly do you want? Take me with you. Then what? Lock me up in Country A? Have people watching me every day? It's been a while since you've been this extreme. Nadia curved her lips slightly. The Linden family can't give you anything. Come with me instead. We may not share blood, we can't be siblings, but I can marry you. I stared at her, completely stunned. Nadia, are you out of your mind? I looked at her, not bothering to hide the revulsion in my eyes. Nadia took a sip of wine. You think with your current standing, that girl from the Liu family would still choose you? Her parents are unconscious, in a hospital. How many pairs of eyes inside the Liu family are watching her right now? This will be a 5 or 6 year problem at minimum. Under Nadia's skeptical gaze, I spoke. I trust her. No time for you to sit on it. The Liu group has been in talks over a chip deal. If the deal goes through, the Liu group's valuation at least doubles. The condition is that Celine marries into the Jiang family. Engagement to Dorian Jiang. That's what Chairman Jiang is demanding. Everyone in the circle knows what you two are to each other. The moment Celine gets engaged to Dorian Jiang, you become the joke of the entire capital circle. I was quiet for a long moment. Then I laughed, quietly. Celine and I have no engagement. We're not a couple. Even if she gets engaged to Dorian Jiang, she's still my childhood friend, my business partner. It can hardly be called being abandoned. What exactly is there to laugh at? Nadia didn't look surprised. She said nothing more, set down her glass and stood up. I'll be right back. Take your time. I gave a quiet sound of acknowledgement and went on eating at my own pace. Before long, a server arrived with 3 desserts. With a respectful bow, sir, Director Harwick commissioned these new cake recipes in development. Please let us know what you think. I picked up the small fork and tried each one. The only one I went back to was the Black Forest cake. The durian crepe was far too rich, the matcha truffle too sweet. The Black Forest was passable, but the sponge had been overbaked. I pointed at the Black Forest with my fork. Take the others away. The server gave a small bow and removed the other 2. I poked at the cake on my plate and let out a quiet hum of amusement. Nadia had always paid close attention to what I ate. The Harwick family had cycled through chef after chef. Simply because I'd liked the mousse here, she bought the entire restaurant, and worried I'd eventually tire of it, she kept the kitchen working on new recipes. She really did put thought into things like this. Which is exactly why my feelings toward her had always been some impossible tangle of love and resentment. A grating voice cut in from nearby. Well, isn't it the Harwick heir? I almost forgot. You don't carry that name anymore. Just a broke nobody now. At the sound of that utterly shameless voice, I looked up. The face was familiar. Stella, the one who'd been chasing me for 3 years. I'd turned her down cold more times than I could count. In the end, it took Celine dealing with her directly before she finally stopped. There wasn't much genuine feeling in elite circles. Stella had pursued me for one reason, the Harwick name and what came with it. And I happened to be by any measure someone worth pursuing. Catching me would have been a clean win for her on every front. Instead, she got beaten by Celine and thrown out of the school gate. But things were different now. I had no Harwick title, no Harwick protection, and the Liu family had no reason to let me through their door. Stella had found her grounds to be arrogant again. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught Nadia coming back. I ignored Stella entirely and looked down at my cake. Stella glanced at the wine on the table. The half-eaten steak. She smiled, easy and loose. Don't be shy. Which rich woman did you latch onto? You'd be better off with me. Being with me is off the table for you. But looking at you, I suppose you still have enough going on to serve as arm candy for someone. The words had barely left her mouth, and with a thunderous slam, Nadia shoved her head straight into the table. Stella's face crumpled in pain. She fought to lift her head, but the force at the back of her skull kept her forehead pinned flat against the table. She struggled hard. Her eyes caught a glimpse of the high heels. Her pupils shook. The next second came a voice, cold and hard. Where did this stray come from? Bold enough to take my seat and to go after what's mine. Nadia held Stella down without letting up, and with every word she spoke, the pressure increased. Stella cried out in pain, pleading over and over. Nadia acted as though she heard nothing. Arm candy, was it? Rich woman, was it? Open your eyes and look. Stella's voice shredded itself, screaming for mercy, her head swimming, her face going whiter by the second. Tears of pain streamed down her face. Her voice gave out. Nobody came. The scene was getting ugly. Wasn't Nadia supposed to be at war with me? I ate my cake with perfect composure and let Nadia do as she pleased. Watching Stella reach her limit, I found I'd lost what little appetite I had left. The last bite sat untouched. I put down the fork, a small sigh. What a way to ruin an evening. I picked up the napkin and wiped my mouth. Seeing that Nadia had no intention of stopping. Nadia, that's enough. I have no interest in being dragged to a police station as a witness. That's the last thing I need. Nadia let go. Stella crumpled to the floor. The staff came and carried her out. Once the mess had been removed, Nadia tossed the towel onto the table. Her gaze drifted to my unfinished Black Forest cake. Let's go somewhere else. I'll take you somewhere better. No, I've lost my appetite. Nadia said nothing more. She drove me back. The Mercedes pulled smoothly to a stop outside the complex. From the back seat, we both spotted her at the same time, Lyra standing beneath the amber glow of the streetlight. Nadia pressed her lips together, something turning over in her expression. She glanced at me. Did you ask her to come down? I shook my head slightly. I had no idea why Lyra was there, standing at the entrance this late, looking like she'd been waiting a while. We got out of the car one after the other. Lyra came to meet us with a soft smile. She took my backpack from me, naturally, without making a thing of it. What are you doing out here this late? Lyra ruffled my hair. I came down to take out the trash, she said. It was about time for you to be back, so I waited a bit. The complex's security wasn't great. Even within the grounds, there were occasional incidents at night. Lyra had been worried about me coming home alone, but she didn't want to interrupt if I was in a meeting, so she stood at the gate and waited. I stilled for a moment. It was past 10. I hadn't sent a single message to let anyone know I was okay, and she'd stood out here this long, and yet she said nothing. Just the same quiet warmth, the same gentle indulgence. Something tightened in my chest, strange and unfamiliar, something I couldn't quite name. "Thank you for bringing him home," Lyra said to Nadia, soft-faced, unhurried, carrying the same quiet grace she always did, as if she had nothing against anyone. Something dimmed in Nadia's eyes. Seeing me with my head down, silent, she could read what I was thinking. She looked up at Lyra. "He's my brother." Her voice was flat, but her eyes were anything but. Lyra's expression didn't shift. She answered simply, "Knowing that so many people care about him makes me happy too." Something flickered in Nadia's eyes. She said nothing more, turned and got in the car. This time, she had lost. I found Nadia's behavior strange. I watched the Mercedes until it disappeared. Then I let it go, hooked my arm through Lyra's, and walked home. I spoke with a little guilt in my voice. "From now on, if I'm going to be late, I'll call. I'll message before I head back too. You don't need to wait at the gate. It's summer. The mosquitoes are out. Look at your arms." 5 or 6 swollen bites on her forearm. Something unsettled in my chest. Lyra didn't blame me for a second. She actually seemed happy, because her brother was worried about her, and because he'd offered, on his own, to check in from now on. I was slowly accepting her as my sister, slowly growing into this family. When we got home, Bea was already asleep. Ray and Helen were still up in the living room talking about the Mercedes they'd seen. Helen's eyes were cast down, her rims faintly red. She spoke, the loss barely concealed. "That car came by the day before yesterday. Today it took him away again. I recognized her, the eldest Harwick daughter. She clearly cares a great deal about him." Lyra waited downstairs for so long without coming up. "Is it possible he's not coming back?" "He will," Ray said, taking her hand. But his own expression carried its share of unease. "We should trust him." Helen let out a melancholy sigh. "It's not that I don't trust him, it's just, we can't compare to the Harwick family, not even close. If the Harwick family genuinely cares about him and wants him back, we have no right to stand in the way of him having a better life. Everyone knows where the Linden family stands. The day he arrived, his clothes alone were worth more than we could imagine. Their situation was so far behind, spending a few hundred on clothing was already stretching it. If Adrian truly wanted to go back to the Harwick family, to live that kind of life again, that would be understandable. What right did they have to say no, to keep him here struggling alongside them? If the Linden family could rise again, no father would ever want his own son living under someone else's roof. Standing just outside the door, I heard every word. To me, staying with the Linden family was just a kind of game, but to the Linden family, it was the return of something priceless, a real family member found again. I pushed the door open quietly. The conversation stopped instantly. Ray and Helen looked up at the same moment, the joy in their eyes unmistakably that of something recovered after being lost. Helen quietly brushed the corner of her eye and turned her worry into a smile. She was on her feet before I'd taken another step. "You're back. Did you eat enough? Let me make you something." I nodded, quietly obedient. "Sure. The food out there isn't as good as yours. I want egg noodles." Helen's joy was impossible to contain. She was in the kitchen in one step. I changed into clean slippers. Lyra locked the door behind us. The two of us settled onto the sofa. Ray kept sipping at his water, trying to mask the relief flooding through him, palms clearly damp with nerves, and yet putting on a performance of perfect calm. I smiled inwardly and spoke up. "Dad, let me run something by you." Ray's hand gave a sudden jolt. A little water sloshed out. He quickly set down the cup and dabbed at his trousers. Inside, the panic had started up again. From the kitchen came the clatter of dishes. Could he have been persuaded after all? Had he come back specifically to say goodbye? I fought to keep the corner of my mouth straight. Watching Ray and Helen fall apart like this was genuinely funny. At the Harwick household, having one more son was no different from having one more staff member. An outsider, regardless. But for the Linden family, it genuinely meant another family member. Someone to share every day with. Someone to lean on and be leaned on. The difference was unfamiliar to me. I'd never seen it before. And it made me curious. I wanted to know what kind of life this difference could produce. Suddenly, I wasn't in any hurry to leave. Ray had braced himself. Even if I said I was leaving tomorrow, he told himself he could handle it. It wasn't the end of the world. I pushed down the amusement and put on a straight face. What I actually wanted to say was this. The family situation is tight. Helen's stall won't bring in much. Your driving just barely covers expenses. If you want to start something again, the money isn't close to where it needs to be at this rate. Have you thought about finding a different kind of work? Ray blinked hard. So he wasn't leaving. That was all that mattered. Every taut nerve in him went loose at once. As long as Adrian stays, everything else is negotiable. Ray smiled, warmth reaching his eyes. Sounds like you have something in mind. I looked at him steadily. Get a job. Ray went blank. His eyes stayed fixed, unmoving for a long moment. Then quietly he looked down. Adrian, it's not that I can't bring myself to work for someone else. It's that I'm too old. Right after the bankruptcy, I went to interview after interview. Nobody would take me. We had nothing coming in. Couldn't put food on the table. That's why I took out a loan and started driving. At the mention of it, Lyra exhaled quietly. More than once during that period, she had come home from school to find her father sitting under a tree, briefcase in hand, face dark with worry, the shade pressing down on his shoulders, the harsh sunlight bleaching the hair at his temples. When he came home, he pretended everything was fine, swallowed every cold look and cruel word, and then had to face relatives calling him useless. The weight of it bent this man in the middle of his life into something small and cornered. It was Lyra who had suggested the loan, and the car, and the driving. Once there was some income to cover the basics, some of that pressure finally lifted from him. Ray managed a thin smile. I know you want things to get better. I'll take extra evening shifts, save up a bit more. We'll get a little shop going eventually. Things will keep getting better. Ray didn't want to dismiss what I'd said, but he'd tried. Nobody wanted to hire a man in his 50s. Reading their expressions, I understood. Finding work had been even harder than I'd imagined. I slouched back against the chair and pulled a cushion into my lap. Then I kept going. Dad, the market is flooded with young graduates. Go for an entry-level position and you'll be buried under competitors half your age. But you built something from nothing. The Linden family was established for over 20 years. Your real advantage is management experience. So why not go for a management role? Ray's dry lips pressed together. Nobody even wanted me for a junior position. Why would they take me for senior management? Helen came out of the kitchen with a bowl of noodles and set it gently in front of me, handing me a pair of chopsticks. Noodles are ready. Eat first, talk after. I tossed the cushion aside, took the chopsticks and stirred the egg noodles. Helen perched on the arm of Ray's sofa, watching her son eat with that unhurried, completely at ease air of his. Afraid he didn't understand how hard things were out there, she spoke up gently. Adrian, it's not that your father doesn't want to try. Finding work is just genuinely that difficult. In most companies these days, without connections or the right background, you can work 5 or 6 years and still never move up. They're not going to bring in someone out of nowhere and hand them a management position. I slurped a mouthful of noodles and tilted my head slightly toward her. Don't I count as a connection? Helen went blank. She and Ray exchanged a bewildered look. They had almost forgotten. This quiet, well-behaved son of theirs had connections that could make anyone's head spin. I continued, unhurried. The Linden family used to be in the automotive business, right? A friend of mine recently acquired a car company and is looking for someone to run things. Your background lines up pretty well. If you're interested, I can put in a word and get you an interview. Getting inside that world would give you a real read on the market. Useful, if you ever want to start something of your own again. I looked down at my noodles, my tone as casual as if I were mentioning picking up a shirt. Ray ventured carefully. What kind of company does your friend run? It's not going to be someone like, an extremely prominent figure again, is it? I blinked at him and replied, perfectly calm. You've probably heard of Jiling Motors? Ray's mouth fell open. He started stuttering. Jiling was a rising brand. They had just launched an off-road model priced at over $1 million. Their proprietary full rebound glass technology was what set them apart, known for exceptional safety. And Jiling fell under Liu Auto Group, one of the most recognized names in the country, with brands consistently ranking in the domestic top 10 for sales. The group had long since gone international, especially in Country A, where Liu vehicles were everywhere. Adrian, you actually have connections at Liu? I bit through a strand of noodles. Not exactly Liu directly. A friend of mine oversees production for the Jiling brand. Lots of components, lots of processes, naturally a lot of factories involved. He recently acquired a factory handling paint finishing and parts assembly. Ray was still wide-eyed after the explanation. These factories run entirely on robotic arms now. The technology is something else. He'd never been anywhere near that kind of operation. Getting a look inside, understanding where the market stood right now, would be invaluable. He wanted to say yes, but he was afraid of putting me in someone's debt on his behalf. I set down my chopsticks. I glanced over at Lyra. Family doesn't keep score, right? Lyra smiled, the quiet, knowing kind. She was the one who had told me that, and now her brother was starting to accept them. I said it plainly. Dad, all I can do is get you in the door. Whether you make it through is up to you. These are business people. If your qualifications don't hold up, I have no power to force anyone into a management seat at an operation that size. Ray's eyes steadied. Of course, I still have confidence in myself. I washed and dried my bowl and chopsticks, then headed to the bathroom. Ray took a long sip of strong tea and couldn't help but say it out loud. Our family is like a sailboat, and Adrian is the oar. Without that oar, the boat just drifts, at the mercy of every current, going wherever the water takes it. With it, they have a direction. The whole family is pulling together, every bit of strength aimed at the same shore. They'll get there. Summer storms come without warning. This one hammered the windows relentlessly and kept everyone awake through the night. It had been raining for 3 days and 3 nights without a break, the sky an unbroken gray. Without a single ray of sun, people's moods had gone gray along with it. Rico dropped into a seat and immediately kicked off his shoes. This rain is killing me. Every single day, my shoes are soaked through. His socks clung to his feet like they'd been submerged, and the discomfort was written all over his face. Quinn walked over with a bag and dropped it on his desk. That's what you get for being careless. 3 days of rain and it never occurred to you to bring a spare pair? Rico shot her a look. He rummaged through the bag. What's in here? Inside, a brand new pair of leather shoes, a clean towel in its own little bag, fresh socks, and a shoe-drying sponge. Rico's eyes flickered with something he couldn't quite control. He pressed his lips together. That was actually really thoughtful. He didn't rush to put them on. Instead, he looked over at me. Hey, Adrian, are your shoes wet? There are extras here if you need them. Quinn was speechless. I specifically prepared that for you, and your first instinct is to give it away? Truly hopeless. I laughed softly and pointed at the clear, waterproof shoe covers on my feet. I'm fine. I wore these. Shoes and socks completely dry. Lyra picked them up for me when she saw the forecast. Slip them on, pull the tie tight. Done. Better looking than rain boots, and easier to deal with. Rico grinned. Having a sister really is something. The old you would never have worn those. Way too concerned about appearances. I shrugged. Better than soaked through socks, isn't it? Rico's expression fell. He pressed his lips together in wordless protest. Rico is jealous. Rico is envious. Rico is not happy about this. Quinn nudged him. Come on, put them on. Wet feet in this weather and you'll be sick by tomorrow. It was still summer, but the rain had driven the temperature down sharply, and wet, cold feet were the fastest way to catch something. I know. When did you get so naggy? Rico grumbled all the way through drying his feet and putting on the fresh socks and shoes. Quinn rolled her eyes. She didn't want to nag. But if she didn't make herself a little more obvious, this fiancé of hers was going to drift right out the door. With the dry shoes on, Rico's whole body visibly relaxed. He immediately scooted over to me and dropped his voice. Word is that since Nadia came back, she still hasn't gone home. Troy is obviously not getting any of that affection, Quinn chimed in lazily. Do you have a spy in the Harwick house? How do you know all this? Ava told me. She said neither of the sisters' cars have been seen going in or out these past few days. Definitely not home. Not exactly breaking news. Sons in the Harwick family have never been treated well. Whether it was Troy or Adrian, neither of them ever belonged there. I wouldn't say that exactly, Rico said. The circle has always talked about Adrian and those two being at war, but we know better. Those two are intensely attached to Adrian. It's just the way they show it that's impossible to deal with. That was the truth of it. I smiled quietly and said nothing to contradict him. During the break, Troy, who had been keeping to himself for a while, made his move again. He was slumped face down on his desk, sobbing loudly enough to fill the room. A handful of classmates, out of consideration for his family name, felt obliged to go through the motions of concern. He slowly sat up, wiping at his face, eyes red and swollen, cheeks streaked with tears, the picture of fragile, wounded innocence, as if the whole world had wronged him, and he had never done a thing to deserve it. He choked out the words. The pen my mother brought back from abroad. It's worth tens of thousands. I never even used it. I was going to give it to Brad as a gift, but now I can't find it anywhere. Brad immediately came over, fussing with concern. Don't panic. Think it through. Where did you last have it? We'll look again. It was in my bag. I've checked several times. It's not there. Troy kept up the sobbing. He looked genuinely pitiful. Rico crossed his legs and rolled his eyes dramatically. Let's see whose drawer that pen mysteriously turns up in. His money was on mine. I thought the same. To confirm it, I cleared the books out of my drawer onto the desk. Sure enough, tucked at the very back was a box that had no business being there. I opened it. A luxury fountain pen. Give it a rest. Is this what you're looking for? Every head in the room turned. Troy stared at the box in my hand, his expression one of apparent astonishment. He jumped up and hurried over. He looked inside. That's the one. But why is it here? I looked at him sideways, a cold smile I couldn't quite suppress. Why it ended up in my drawer, don't you know better than I do? I'd been through this exact game countless times with Jade. Being framed was nothing new. I wasn't impressed, and I had no patience to keep playing along. Troy's pupils shook. He looked like a man falsely accused, desperate to clear his name. What are you implying? That pen was meant for Brad. Why would it end up in your drawer? I never accused you of stealing, but you jumped straight to pushing the blame onto me. I know you have it out for me, but you can't just make accusations like this. Neatly flipped. Now I was the guilty one in a panic, throwing blame to cover my tracks. His mind worked fast, I'd give him that. He'd managed to spin it. If you wanted one, Adrian, I could have my mother buy you one. Why go through all this? Troy looked genuinely offended, the magnanimous victim through and through. This model retails at $27,000. It's effectively unobtainable. Only 500 were ever produced. I unzipped my bag, pulled out my pencil case, and upended it onto the desk. 4 or 5 identical pens rolled out. I watched Troy's face go through several shades of wrong. I curved my lips and asked without any particular weight behind it. Before you run a play, shouldn't you do your research first? Go look at the shareholder list. My name is near the top, pretty hard to miss. This was one of my failed investments. 500 pens, price too high. Terrible sales. They write beautifully though, so I took a few for personal use. Who could have guessed they'd end up as props in this little production? Exposed completely, on the spot, with no way out, Troy pushed through anyway. I misunderstood. Someone must have taken the pen as a prank and put it in your drawer. Who on earth would bother taking your pen just to frame Adrian? Rico said flatly. This time, Troy genuinely panicked. He finally registered the looks his classmates were giving him. Even Brad was looking at him strangely and not stepping up. From the moment I'd pulled out that pen, Troy had been completely isolated. He stood there unable to settle on an expression. The emotions warred across his face until it drained of all color, and he passed out. Brad, the better actor by far, remembered at the last second to play the loyal friend. He caught Troy before he hit the floor. Once he confirmed Troy was genuinely out, he let the concern drain from his eyes. He glanced at the pen on the desk and gave a quiet, dismissive sound. I thought it was something rare. Turns out it's just merchandise nobody wanted. I turned the pen over in my fingers, thinking. After a while I spoke. He actually reminded me, I have a money-losing project sitting around. Everyone put together a pitch this month. If I sank money into it, I'm getting it back. If you're leading it, we'll definitely make it back. The pens really do write well, but the price point is brutal. Hard to see how you move them. Drop the price. Less margin is better than no sales. Drop it to where? The factory acquisition alone was a significant outlay, and the technology patents weren't cheap. The cost base is too high. Any further reduction and you're selling at a loss. At that point, you might as well just sit on it. I listened quietly to the back and forth, an idea slowly forming. Losing money is not happening. Scarcity creates value. Put one on the table when you're closing a deal. Say a few good words about it when the contract is being signed. And the remaining stock, give it away as gifts. I'm not lowering the price. I'm raising it. Everyone exchanged glances. then nodded, one after another. They trusted my ability to turn things around. Last year's project had been my initiative, and it was thriving now. A good portion of their personal assets had come from that venture. If I was committed to turning the pen project around, it wouldn't lose money. A crack of thunder split through the room. The conversation died on the spot. Everyone looked out at the sky, low and gray, the rain seeming to shift from steady to heavy. Rico muttered under his breath. This is unreal. It hasn't stopped once. Where is all this water even coming from? Quinn narrowed her eyes. I keep getting this feeling that something's about to happen. I smiled, easy and unbothered. I have a feeling something good is coming. By the weekend the rain still hadn't fully stopped, alternating between heavy downpours and fine needling drizzle, the kind that wore on your nerves. Inside the Liu Group's executive conference room, the argument was loud enough to drown out the rain entirely. This was Celine's third round of negotiations with the Jiang family over chip licensing rights. Faced with the Jiang family's insistence on a marriage arrangement, Celine said firmly, business partnerships are built on mutual benefit. Bringing marriage into this discussion makes no sense. She was willing to concede, on margin. On the question of who she married, not a single step. Celeste smiled lightly. Director Liu, chip technology is at the heart of what we do. A financial arrangement alone simply isn't enough to secure what we need. Two families becoming one, that's the real foundation. It's what my mother wants, and it's what I want. You keep refusing. Is there something you object to about my brother specifically? Celine's face was as overcast as the sky. She had already voluntarily conceded 2 points. It was the Jiang family that wasn't budging. They'd rather pressure her into an engagement with Dorian Jiang than accept a fair deal. 3 rounds of talks over more than 2 months, and she had never even met Dorian Jiang in person. He was probably just like the role Adrian had once been meant to fill, a rope used to tie two families' interests together. Celeste's smile held a knowing edge. As someone in the capital circle herself, she was well aware of who Adrian was. Director Liu is still holding on to her childhood sweetheart? He's no longer the Harwick heir. He doesn't match your standing anymore. He can't offer you anything, even if you're completely devoted to him. Will the Liu family allow it? Will the shareholders? And is he willing to bear that gap in status and stand by your side no matter what? Every word cut deep, and every word had a point. Celine knew how I felt, but I was still in school. Supporting each other seemed manageable enough for now. When the time for marriage actually came, would she be willing to face the outside world's judgment and choose him without hesitation? The future was something she'd never been willing to bet on, but she knew it was too early. This was not the moment to decide. And even if things did come apart, that choice should be in my hands, not hers to make unilaterally. So this unreasonable demand from the Jiang family? Absolutely not. She steadied herself. We're here to discuss a business deal. If either side has concerns about the terms, we continue negotiating. If we're talking about marriage, then there's nothing left to discuss. Celeste raised her brows with an air of amusement. Celine, you're still too young, not quite mature enough yet to grasp what's really at stake here. No need to rush your answer. Take all the time you need. When you've thought it through, we sign. The standoff had no end in sight when someone knocked and entered from outside. Celine's assistant Xiao crossed the room quickly and leaned close to her ear. Master Adrian is here. Celine's eyes lit up instantly. The overcast expression cleared in an instant. She turned to Celeste with a polite smile. Director Jiang, there's no need to continue these talks, and for the record, I choose Adrian. Not his name, not his status, just him. She said it like someone who had just won something. She nodded to Xiao, who immediately showed the guests out. Celine walked out of the conference room. The shift had been so sudden that Celeste hadn't fully caught up. It struck her as genuinely strange. She turned to Xiao. Why did she suddenly call it off? Xiao lowered her gaze with a small smile and answered politely. Compared to the Jiang family's chip technology, Master Adrian is worth more. In the executive office, I sat quietly on the sofa in a simple casual outfit that somehow made me look taller. Long legs crossed loosely, a teacup in hand, tasting the black tea, when out of the corner of my eye I caught someone come through the door. I set down the cup and stood, a warm smile rising naturally as I reached out my hand. Director Liu, I'm here on behalf of Rooming Technology to discuss a partnership. Celine looked at me, bright-faced, at ease, and the warmth rising in her eyes was the kind that could barely be contained. Even her voice came out softer than intended. You finished it? I smiled and nodded. Does this rain arrive in time to put the fire out? Celine took my hand and pulled me down onto the sofa beside her. She leaned into me with a dramatic put-upon pout. Putting out a fire? This is saving my life. They were trying to force me into an engagement with Dorian Jiang. If you'd been any later, you'd have lost your childhood friend. I pulled my hand back sharply and gave her a look. So if I hadn't shown up, you were going to give in? Celine choked on her words. She shot up 3 fingers in an oath. I swear on everything. That is absolutely not what I meant. I raised an eyebrow. Then what did you mean? Celine pressed her lips together pitifully. She took my hand and held it in both of hers. I just wanted to be a little dramatic with you. I narrowed my eyes slightly, giving her a look of mild exasperation. Celine, you've been getting increasingly unbearable lately. Celine laughed and made no effort to argue. What could she do? Her Adrian was almost done with school. Before anything changed between them, there had to be some kind of transition period for her to adjust. Stop playing around. I came here for business. I have the contract ready. Once we're done, I want to go to the hospital and check on your parents. Rooming Technology has been focused on chip development since its founding. Just 1 hour ago, the new chip cleared testing. It's fully capable of replacing what the Jiang family was offering. I had pushed to get here with that contract, specifically so Celine wouldn't be backed into a corner. The moment the conversation turned to business, both of us shifted, focused, serious. One representing the Lu group, the other rooming technology, neither giving an inch for their side. An hour of relentless back and forth before the terms were finally settled. A new contract drawn up and signed. Work over. She snapped back to her usual self. What do you want for lunch? She reached over and ruffled my hair with easy affection. I swatted her hand away. I gave her a wounded look and fixed my hair. Stop messing up my hair. I want beef brisket noodles. Celine laughed. All right, beef brisket noodles it is. We took the elevator down. Along the way, employees spotted me and bowed respectfully, calling out, Master Adrian. I couldn't help but sigh. Celine pinched my cheek. What's wrong? When do I get to be a CEO? I had stakes in plenty of companies. People flattered me with the title here and there, but I had no real position. No official standing. Celine had been forced into the president's seat by tragedy. That wasn't something I envied. I just wanted the day when I could stand in front of Nadia as someone, under my own name on my own terms, and not be treated like a toy to be collected with small favors. Celine laughed quietly. My ambitions were plain and uncomplicated. Money and building something. The more Nadia tried to hold me down, the harder I pushed upward. Studying, investing, building connections, failing and coming back stronger every time. This was the version of me she loved. Regardless of what name I carried, I was always the one she wanted. The strengthening rain didn't touch our mood. I climbed into the passenger seat and looked at her with equal parts suspicion and mild fear. How's your driving? You're not going to send me flying off somewhere mid-trip, are you? Celine stifled a laugh. Good or bad, you'll find out. I stared at her. That sentence has more than one meaning, you know. I'm still an innocent young man. Relax. I've been driving for over a year. Celine leaned across and buckled my seatbelt for me. She said lightly, I'm probably not as good as Jade, though. She drove a car through a banquet hall. I don't have that kind of nerve. I laughed. That kind of crazy is hard to find. Speaking of which, she hasn't come looking for me since that night. She went to Rongcheng for a race. Apparently she won something in Country R last year. She's built up a real following in the racing world. This time she was invited to make an appearance. Jade had been rebellious from the beginning. She refused to study finance like a proper heir. Whatever the family wanted, she did the opposite. The Harwick family cared deeply about their image and reputation. Jade went the other direction entirely. The moment she was of age and had her license, she bought a supercar. She drove through the city center at 90 miles an hour. The stack of fines she accumulated was thicker than a dictionary. After more lectures than she could count, she took to mountain roads, tearing through Akina Mountain with a group of wild second-generation heirs, and her name spread from there. The capital circle had nothing good to say about her. She was used as a cautionary tale. I had the misfortune of being dragged along once, physically pressed into the passenger seat. The mountain curves were dangerous enough on their own. She drove like they weren't. We nearly went off the cliff. I survived, but I spent the following month refusing to get into any vehicle. I'd always thought she was beyond reckless. Fine that she didn't fear death, but she had no right to take me with her. Later, against every objection her family raised, she became a professional racing driver. She won. A lot. But those victories weren't recognized by the old families. They were treated as further proof of her defiance and disgrace. She was a gambler who bet with her life, pushing back against everything the Harwick family had mapped out for her. One of these days she might not come back. But thinking about how I managed to survive her, I couldn't really worry too much. Celine curved her lips in quiet understanding. She knew I wasn't just pretending not to care. I genuinely couldn't stand Jade. If not for sheer luck, she would have killed me by now. Celine drove at a completely reasonable speed and pulled up smoothly outside a noodle shop near an elementary school. The shop was called NIU's. I loved their beef brisket noodles. After school, I never wanted to go back to that house, never wanted to deal with those two difficult sisters. I'd fill up here first before facing whatever waited for me. After I graduated from elementary school, I'd still miss this flavor sometimes, and I'd drag Celine along to come with me. Celine ordered the moment we walked in, completely at home. Uncle New, 2 bowls of beef brisket noodles. Uncle New called back with a smile. Coming right up. He slid the noodles into the pot and looked over. Haven't seen you two in a while. Where are you studying these days? Still in the city. After that, not sure yet. I smiled, openly, completely without pretense. The noodles cooked quickly. A ladle of braised brisket over the top and the bowls were ready. Uncle New carried both bowls over. He set the one without spring onions in front of me. Here you go. No green onions, you still remember that. I stirred the noodles to let the brisket broth work into the soup. Uncle New chuckled. How could I forget? You forgot once to ask for no green onions, and this one picked every single one out for you. A girl that considerate. I haven't forgotten it. I pressed my lips together and said nothing. The tips of my ears had gone quietly red. I had barely taken my first bite when my phone rang. Back at the Linden family home, things had taken an unwelcome turn. I had left early that morning for work. The moment I was out the door, an uninvited guest arrived. Helen stared at the tall, cold-faced woman in front of her for a long moment, more afraid than surprised. She was in an immaculate formal suit, her expression set and utterly emotionless, her eyes carrying a dangerous depth. She didn't have to do anything. Just standing there was enough to feel like a threat. Ray and Lyra, mid-breakfast, both went still the moment they saw who it was. Nadia showing up this early and specifically timing it to when I'd be gone. This wasn't a friendly visit. Are you looking for Adrian? He just left. Helen's voice was trembling. The presence this young woman carried was simply overwhelming. The kind that made it impossible to do anything but comply. Nadia's expression remained flat. I'm here for you. Lyra knew her mother couldn't handle this. She set down her chopsticks, gave Ray a look, and gestured for him to take the bowls to the kitchen. She stood and walked toward the entrance, giving her mother a reassuring pat on the shoulder. Helen turned and went to make tea. Lyra met Nadia with a gentle smile, composed, neither deferential nor defiant. "Please, come in. Whatever you have to say, let's say it sitting down." Nadia stepped inside, her face composed and coldly refined, eyes moving deliberately around the small apartment. It had been renovated, clean, tidy, even pleasant to look at, but for her it was still far too small. The dissatisfaction was internal but clear. It wasn't even as large as her walk-in wardrobe at the Harwick estate. No wonder Adrian, with money in his accounts, hadn't bought himself a proper wardrobe. There was no room for it here, and he wasn't even living alone. 5 people in a space this size. The air must barely circulate. Nadia settled onto the small sofa. Her long legs made the already cramped piece of furniture look even smaller. Helen brought out freshly brewed tea with a warm smile that couldn't quite hide her discomfort. Nadia glanced at the glass. Clean enough, she supposed, but the tea leaves were mediocre at best. Worse than what you'd find at a mid-range restaurant, and certainly not spring water. She stared at the cup, barely 2/3 full, and didn't touch it. Helen grew even more tense. Old money daughters were notoriously impossible to please. Lyra glanced at her parents and gestured for them to sit and stay calm. She'd handle this herself. She turned to Nadia and asked with measured politeness, "I doubt you came all the way here this early just to pay a visit. You waited until Adrian left before coming. Whatever you have to say, just say it." Nadia looked at her, sharp and direct. Since there was no point dancing around it, Nadia didn't bother. "Name your price. I'm taking Adrian with me." The room went still. "What exactly does that mean? You're trying to buy my brother?" The intimidation ray in Helen had been feeling evaporated instantly, replaced by something cold. "Just because you have money, you think you can walk in here and take their son? Do you think he's a product on a shelf with a price tag? Something you can just pick up and walk out with? I thought maybe you were here because you were worried about him. But the first thing out of your mouth is money. The Linden family does not sell its children." Helen's anger was impossible to miss. Nadia's words were an insult to the Linden family, and to Adrian himself. Faced with Helen's open fury, Nadia didn't so much as blink. She continued, unmoved. Adrian grew up with everything he needed. His bedroom alone was over 700 square feet, with its own dedicated walk-in wardrobe. 2 personal attendants, 3 meals a day prepared by a 5-star chef, a private car and driver for every trip. What can he get here? What exactly can you give him? Helen had no answer. Nadia went on, her tone unchanged. 50 million. Put it in the bank and live off the interest for the rest of your lives. We don't want your money. Not 50 million, not 500 million, nothing. This is not open for discussion. Adrian is our son. No amount of money compares to that. Ray's face had gone iron pale. He wasn't budging. They'd only just found their own flesh and blood. They weren't letting him go. "If you truly care about him, can you really stand watching him struggle here?" she pressed. "You're keeping him because you don't want to lose what he brings with him. He makes introductions, connects you to influential people, pays out of pocket for renovations, finds everyone jobs. He's given you plenty. People shouldn't be too greedy. I'll give you 50 million to buy out this worthless family bond of yours." Nadia's words had always been merciless. No softening, no courtesy. Ray slammed his hand on the table and stood. "I don't care who you are. This is my home. Get out. Taking Adrian over my dead body." Nadia didn't argue. She reached into her bag and produced a check for 50 million. She set it on the table with unhurried grace. Then she stood and walked toward the door. Ray was so furious he could barely see straight. He snatched up the check and tore it to pieces. He hurled the scraps at Nadia's retreating back. The shredded paper landed softly against her. Her steps paused, just for a moment. People who don't know what's good for them. Helen patted Ray's back to calm him, her eyes fixed on Nadia's retreating figure, clearly just as furious inside. Lyra stood where she was and thought for a moment. She picked the torn check off the floor, dropped it in the bin, and walked quickly out after her. Beneath the large tree outside the complex, Lyra called out and stopped Nadia mid-stride. "There's something I'd like to say to you." Nadia slowed to a stop and turned, that same composed, expressionless face. She watched Lyra jog over and spoke in a flat tone. "What else do you want?" Lyra caught her breath and let a composed smile settle back onto her face. Unlike Ray and Helen's open anger, Lyra was completely calm. No visible hostility, not even now. "I don't know how things were in your household, but Adrian is polite and reserved. There's always been a distance about him. Whether or not he ever fully accepts us, we're not the kind of people who sell their children for comfort. If he chooses to go with you of his own free will, we have nothing to say about it. But the fact that you came while he was out says everything. He doesn't want to go. You don't need to waste any more effort on us." Nadia's expression didn't shift. "Are you done?" Lyra let her lips curve slightly. "One last thing. Thank you for looking after him for 17 years, and thank you for still caring whether he's happy. From now on, I'll take care of my brother." Something shifted in Nadia's eyes, barely perceptible. When she spoke, her voice came out flat and quiet. "You had better mean that." She turned and walked away without looking back. Once she was in the back seat of the car, Jade's call came through immediately. Nadia swiped to answer. Jade's bright, gleeful voice came through. "Let me guess. The great eldest daughter got sent home empty-handed? No luck taking Adrian? Hey, wait, don't hang up. Calm down, Nadia. I know we can't stand each other, but when it comes to getting Adrian back, we're on the same side." Nadia ended the call without a word. Jade stared at her phone, momentarily blank. She scowled and threw her phone onto the sofa. That insufferable woman. I was in the middle of a mouthful of noodles when an unknown number came in. I picked up. Hello? Jade's furious voice exploded through the speaker. I am absolutely fuming. Nadia had the nerve to hang up on me. I couldn't help rolling my eyes. You called just to vent? Jade, clearly terrified I'd hang up too, rushed ahead. Nadia just went to your place. My brow furrowed immediately. Nadia going to find the Linden family. Nothing good comes from that. Who knows what she said in that state? How do you know? Jade scoffed. Have you gotten slower? Adrian, my life with Nadia is basically a spy drama. She plants informants around me. I plant informants around her. This isn't complicated. I kept my voice low. Do you know what she said to my family? Who knows? But whenever Nadia shows up in person, it's never good. Great spy work. Calling just to deliver bad news with no details. You have no conscience. Honestly, how long are you planning to keep playing house with ordinary people? If you don't want to go abroad with Nadia, come with me. Anything she can offer, I can match it, and then some. I raised an eyebrow and answered, letting the amusement show. She said she wants to marry me. What on earth? Jade shot up from her chair like something had launched her. She has lost her mind. Her most prized possession for over 20 years, and Nadia wanted to keep it all to herself. Absolutely not. I'm going to deal with her right now. The line went dead. I set my phone calmly back on the table and let those two chaos engines tear into each other. I was perfectly happy staying out of it. Celine was propping her chin in her hand, watching me with calm amusement. Nadia wants to marry you? I didn't deny it. The Jiang family tried to pressure you into an engagement with Dorian Jiang through a business deal. Nadia used that as leverage. Told me to give you up and go with her quietly. Thinking back on it carefully, I strongly suspect she was the one who fed the Jiang family that idea in the first place. Just picturing it, Celine laughed in spite of herself. Nadia had spent too long in the capital circle. The family's logic had completely absorbed her. Everything reduced to leverage, and marriage was just another transaction. Whatever she felt for me, as long as she could keep me close, the method didn't matter. Even after 17 years of being raised as siblings. Even though she was a full 10 years older than me. The most absurd part was that she genuinely did care. The kind of person whose words are hard but whose heart is soft. And yet she had never once respected what I wanted. Always acting in my name, forcing me into things I didn't want, all in the name of what was good for me, which is exactly why I couldn't stand her. Eat up, Celine said. It won't taste the same cold. She spooned a few pieces of brisket from her own bowl into mine. She was always like this, quietly attentive in ways that didn't ask for acknowledgement. It was the details that had slowly opened something in me, made me willing to let her in. Lunch ended on a warm note. Celine drove us forward again afterward. The car moved steadily toward the hospital. On the top floor of a private hospital in the capital, a corridor of rooms. Only the room at the very end was occupied. The entire floor was so quiet, you could hear a pin drop. Almost nobody ever came through. Mr. Liu and his wife lay in adjacent beds. Celine went to each of them in turn after we came in. She asked the attending nurse detailed questions. The nurse could only relay what the doctor had said. No improvement whatsoever. Celine let out a quiet, private sigh. I stood to the side and said nothing. Every time Celine came here, the weight on her was visible. A year ago, the Lias had driven in from out of province, just to celebrate Celine's coming of age. But at the intersection after they came off the highway, a freight truck lost control and hit them with full force. The car was launched by the impact, spinning through the air before slamming into the trunk of a large tree. The ambulance arrived in time. They were taken straight to emergency. Surgery stabilized their vital signs, but when they might wake was anyone's guess. And so they had lain there, unresponsive, for over a year. Not a single sign of waking. Celine asked the nurse to wait outside. She wanted a quiet moment alone with her parents, just to talk. The nurse nodded and left. The two of us did what we always did, gently massaged each patient's limbs. Both were still in a coma, kept alive by the drips. Their nutrition was nowhere near sufficient, and they hadn't moved in over a year. Their muscles had already begun to waste. Celine's mother's face had lost the smoothness and life it once had. I took it all in, and something inside me couldn't stop aching. Please wake up, I thought. How can you bear to leave her alone facing the wolves in that world out there? She just turned 19. She should be living freely. Instead, she's carrying an entire corporation on her back. How many eyes are watching her in the dark, waiting for the moment they can push her under? All of them circling to pick apart what she's built. The Jiang family had already gone after her marriage, dangling a business deal as bait to force her hand. If you don't wake up soon, how is she supposed to deal with every cunning old fox who comes at her? And how am I supposed to stand beside her without anything to stand on? Celine. I think her mother's finger just moved. I told her immediately. Whether I'd really seen it or not, for Celine it was something to hold on to. Celine dropped the towel she'd been holding and pulled back the curtain. She went straight in. She took her mother's cold hand in both of hers. She looked at her mother's sleeping face with everything she had, and called out in a voice that trembled. Can you hear me? Mom, please wake up, open your eyes and look at me. Celine's eyes went red almost instantly, and there was nothing. No answer. Watching her, I felt the sting rise in my own nose. I set down the warm towel I was holding. I turned and walked quickly out. I'll go get the doctor. Celine sat at the bedside, completely hollow. She held her mother's thin, dry hands and whispered, Mom, please. Please wake up. I'll never argue with you again. I'll never make you angry again. You said my handwriting was bad. I've been practicing every single day. Adrian says it's better than Dad's now. Please get up and see for yourself. I came rushing back with the on-duty doctor. Hearing those words from Celine, my eyes went hot before I could stop them. For all the force she carried in the business world, she was 19 years old, and inside she still desperately wanted her mother. One accident had left her carrying an entire corporation alone, facing every sharp edge of that world by herself, and all she wanted was a warm place to come home to, somewhere she could rest when the weight became too much. But the safest harbor she'd ever known had become a broken vessel drifting alone on the open sea. Her parents lay in their beds, still unreachable. Every day she lived with the fear that one great wave would come and capsize the only place left in the world she could call her own. The doctor examined Celine's mother carefully. Under both our desperate watching eyes, he could only shake his head, most likely just an involuntary nerve response. As for when she might regain consciousness, truly impossible to say. She could open her eyes tonight, or the next part of that sentence. The doctor didn't finish it. The implication was clear. Prepare for the worst. There was a very real chance she might never wake up at all. After seeing the doctor out politely, I walked back slowly and stood beside Celine. I let her lean her tired head against my chest. I could feel her trembling, the deep, bone-level fear of losing the people she loved most, permanently and forever. I pressed my lips together. I knew that nothing I could say would be enough. I reached out and gently wrapped my arms around her, patting her back softly, one slow rhythm at a time, trying to give her whatever small warmth I could. Celine's tears soaked into the shoulder of my shirt, and I felt the ache pull tight in my own chest. After a long silence, I pushed past the roughness in my throat. Celine, what if we asked Elder Silas to come? The arms around me slowly tightened, as if she were trying to press me into herself, but all I felt in it was the struggle inside her. I kept my voice soft. Don't worry about anything else, I'll find a way to bring Elder Silas here. That evening, the Liu family's driver came to collect us. Celine fell asleep with her head on my lap for the entire journey. I tried calling Elder Silas more than a dozen times. The line never connected. The car pulled smoothly into the Liu family's estate. I stayed quietly by Celine's side. Only once she was fully asleep did I slip away. I hailed a taxi back to the Linden family's home alone. The atmosphere at the Linden home wasn't good either. Lyra had already come back from a day of filming. Ray had shut himself in his room all day without coming out, still unsettled by Nadia's uninvited visit. The next morning, the rain was heavier than ever. The whole city seemed wrapped in a gray veil of mist. Everywhere you looked, white and gray, no sun anywhere. 7 in the morning looked like 4 in the pre-dawn dark. Lyra had tossed and turned all night and barely slept. When she heard faint movement in the living room, she got up immediately to check. She arrived just in time to see me pull the front door closed and turn to leave. She walked quickly to the living room and pushed open the window. Thunder roared outside. She stood at the window and waited quietly. Through the curtain of rain she made out my figure, umbrella raised, walking fast toward the complex entrance. I got into the same business car she'd ridden in before. This early, in rain like this, where could he possibly be rushing off to alone? Inside the car I set the umbrella aside. I brushed the droplets from my clothes. I turned to the driver. Silas Hall, now. The driver pulled away without a word. Celine's call came through. Did you sleep? I answered. I kept my voice warm and easy. I didn't want my own weight bleeding into her. Celine was quiet for a moment on the other end. When she spoke, her voice was muffled. I want my parents to wake up, but I don't want to put you in a difficult position, so if this trip doesn't work out, let it go. Please don't push yourself too hard. I kept my tone light. Don't worry. At the end of the day, he's my master. And even if he refuses to acknowledge me as his student anymore, a healer's heart doesn't turn people away. He has no grounds to refuse. Celine went quiet. She knew exactly how badly things had ended between me and Elder Silas. I had declared the severance publicly, to his face. I understand. Don't worry about the company. I'll handle everything. Stay safe on the road. And if Elder Silas won't see you, please don't put yourself through it. I'll find another way to bring him out. The call ended. I leaned back against the leather seat. I closed my eyes and let out a long, heavy breath. The doctors had said it plainly. The Lias were in a vegetative state. When or whether they'd wake was entirely unknown. At first I had thought it wouldn't get this bad. Maybe they'd sleep a few months and come around. But nearly a year had passed. Nothing had changed. Watching Celine carry that worry every day while still forcing herself to hold her ground against every shark in the room, I had started reaching out to Elder Silas. Every attempt had come to nothing. No matter how many times I showed up at his door swallowing my pride, no matter how many sincere apologies I sent, Elder Silas refused. Every time. Yesterday, seeing how much their condition had deteriorated, there were signs they could go at any time. And the doctor's assessment had been the same. Prepare for the worst. How could I stand by and watch Celine lose the people she loved most and do nothing? The rain outside looked ready to swallow the whole city. Visibility on the roads was almost zero. For safety, the driver kept a slow pace. It took nearly an hour and a half to reach Silas Hall. When the driver moved to get out with me, I told him, stay in the car. I took my umbrella, pushed the door open, and stepped out. The rain was so violent the umbrella was essentially useless. My shoes were submerged in cold water within seconds. My trousers soaked through to well above the knee. The wind-driven rain showed no mercy to the rest of me. The weather had emptied the streets entirely, not a soul in sight. Silas Hall's heavy doors were shut, no visitors. I stared at the imposing red-lacquered wooden doors, drew a slow breath, and steadied myself. I hammered the heavy bronze knocker and raised my voice above the rain. Your student Adrian requests an audience with Elder Silas. I beg Elder Silas to grant this student a moment of your time. The rain drowned out everything. I didn't stop. I kept knocking. Your student Adrian, requesting to see Elder Silas. I had no idea how long I stood there calling out into the rain. Then the heavy doors groaned and opened a crack. A woman stood in the gap, clean plain clothes, hair pinned up in a high ponytail. Her expression was cool and distant. Elder Silas will not see you. Please leave. She moved to close it again, without hesitation. I shoved the door hard and squeezed through sideways. You can't force your way in. Vera's composure cracked. She shut the door quickly and came after me. Elder Silas said he will not see you. Beyond Vera, 3 or 4 others in plain clothing came running out. They blocked my path. Students of Silas Hall. They held me firmly at the entrance, not letting me move an inch toward the main hall. It was clear. This time Elder Silas had made up his mind. Rain pattered against the umbrella in sharp, rapid bursts. I looked at the people standing in my way. I bit down hard on my lip. I closed the umbrella, and I dropped to my knees on the stone steps. The rain soaked through everything instantly. My hair pressed flat against my pale face, mixed with tears I hadn't even noticed falling. I raised my voice toward the main hall. Your student knows he was wrong. I beg my master, please give me just one moment. The students looked at each other, none of them knowing what to do. Vera looked at the slight figure kneeling in the downpour. Something in her couldn't hold out against it. She turned and hurried off to inform the Grand Master. Grand Master, Adrian has knelt outside. In rain like this, if he gets ill, please, won't you just see him? Silas had a brush in hand, practicing calligraphy. Each stroke landed with force, sharp, precise, unwavering, the work of someone who bowed to no one. He dipped the tip into the inkstone. He said, unhurried, let him kneel. Does he think Silas Hall is somewhere anyone can walk into whenever they please? When his legs go numb and his knees start aching, he'll leave on his own. Vera pressed her lips together, hesitated for a long moment, and then spoke carefully. Grandmaster, I think Adrian genuinely needs you this time. Whatever brings someone to kneel at your door, it's a matter of life. Please have mercy and go to him. People come to me for healing every day. I help those whose hearts are sincere. Someone who abandons loyalty the moment something better comes along. I don't help people like that. The brush was set firmly back on its rest. The residual ink spattered across the desk. Silas's eyes were full of anger. He looked at the scroll he had just finished. New bamboo grows taller than the old, all thanks to the elder branch that held it up. The rage drained away, replaced by something heavier, a deep, unresolved grievance that refused to leave. He rolled up the scroll. His hoarse voice produced 2 words, not seeing him. Beneath it all surged something he couldn't name. Reluctance, loneliness, and a disappointment in his student that had never fully faded. Vera understood exactly where the Grandmaster was. The one who tied the knot was the only one who could untie it. Her words wouldn't help. She could only respect the decision he had made. She came back out to deliver his answer. Please leave. The Grandmaster says he will not see you. Kneeling here won't change that. I was soaked through to my skin, water dripping steadily from every part of me. My body was shaking uncontrollably from the cold. My teeth had been chattering for a while now, but I kept my back straight. I didn't move. Whatever obstacles came today, I had to see Elder Silas. I had to ask him to come and treat the Lias. Please tell Elder Silas. If he won't see me, I will stay here on my knees until he does. Vera let out a heavy sigh. Why do this to yourself? You left Silas Hall for wealth and status. The Grandmaster tried to talk you out of it, again and again. You never looked back. You were the one who spoke the words severing the bond between master and student. That cut him deeply. Even if you kneel here until both your legs give out, the Grandmaster will not see you. I pressed together lips that had gone colorless with cold. There was nothing to argue with in what she'd said. I admit it. 5 years ago I was ruthless and cold. I severed the bond to his face and walked away from Silas Hall without hesitation. Whatever the reasons, there was no denying it. I had wronged him. I had wasted everything he had given me. Wrong is wrong. There are no excuses. Anything more I said would only sound like justification. What mattered now was sincerity, a genuine apology, and a genuine plea for forgiveness. I was weakening. Each shout took more out of me than the last. I had to gather myself before I could raise my voice again, before I could call out once more. I know I was wrong. Please, just see me. At the window on the 2nd floor, Silas had quietly opened it a crack. He looked down, cold-eyed, at the figure in the rain, shaking like a leaf in the wind. The rims of his aged, clouded eyes went faintly red. This was the first student he had ever taken in with his own hands. The child he had watched grow up before his eyes, and now that child was kneeling in the pouring rain, broken and drenched before him. How could he not ache? But this boy had always been proud, cold to the core, never once willing to bow to anyone, never truly understanding the warmth of human connection, always measuring the worth of others, always calculating the choice that would maximize his own gain, never truly receiving anyone's kindness, eyes always full of defense, always braced for the next threat. 5 years ago, Nadia had come personally, with people, to take me back, forbidding me to continue studying traditional medicine. Silas understood, deep down. Growing up in the Harwick household, I had never had much of a choice, but he had pleaded with me then, desperately, earnestly, begging me not to surrender again to the Harwick family's demands. I had left without a shred of hesitation or regret, declared the end of our bond to his face, went back to wealth and power, single-mindedly chasing status, the student he had loved like a grandson, saying those things. It had gone through him like a blade. Perhaps I had weighed my options and chosen accordingly. but in all my calculations, in all the factors I had weighed, his genuine care for me, his mentorship, had never been counted at all. And now the same proud, untouchable young man was kneeling, setting down every last bit of dignity to come before him. Perhaps he had finally found someone who could change him. Someone who had taught his cold heart what it felt like to receive another person's goodness. The driver had been waiting for a long time with no sign of me. Anxious, he called to report in. Director Liu, Adrian has been inside Silas Hall for an hour. He still hasn't come out. The pen fell from Celine's hand. A sharp, rhythmic pain pulled through her chest. Something is very wrong. Go inside and check on him immediately. I already knocked. They told me the hall isn't accepting visitors today. They won't let me in. I can hear Adrian inside calling out, asking Elder Silas for forgiveness. But it sounds like Elder Silas still won't see him. In rain like this, is he still out there in the courtyard getting soaked? Celine's breath caught. She steadied herself. She took a moment to think, then gave her order. The moment anything changes, tell me immediately. I'm on my way now. Before she'd even finished speaking, Xiao pushed the door open in a rush. Director Liu, the board members have all arrived. They're waiting for you to open the meeting. Celine bit down hard on her back teeth. Of all the moments for this, I had been kneeling outside Silas Hall for over 2 hours. The cold had burrowed into my bones. Just as my consciousness began to slip from me, I finally made out a familiar blurred figure. Master, your student knows he was wrong. My voice had become barely a breath. Silas closed his eyes and let out a long, slow sigh. His resolve at last gave way. Get up. My eyes filled with emotions I couldn't name. The ache in my throat was the kind that makes you want to cry. Thank you, Master. I pressed both hands against the wet ground and struggled to push myself up. Vera was already coming with an umbrella, reaching out to help, but my body gave out without warning. A sudden sway, a flash of white, and every last bit of strength left me. I collapsed into the rain. The last thing I heard before losing consciousness was Silas's urgent voice. This foolish child. Get him into the East Wing. Now. In the Liu Group's executive conference room, the shareholders watched the door open, and only Xiao walked in. Their expressions darkened immediately. Where is Director Liu? Xiao maintained her composed, professional smile and addressed the room politely. Director Liu has an urgent matter that requires her immediate attention. The meeting will be rescheduled. Thank you all for making the trip. She's got a lot of nerve. One call and we all drop everything to come here. We've been sitting here this whole time, and she just sends word she's not coming? A young girl who thinks sitting in the president's chair means she can do whatever she wants. Does she have any respect left for those of us who built this thing? The Liu Group's success today wouldn't exist without the support we've provided from the beginning, and now she stands us up. Who knows what she'll pull next? The shareholders went back and forth, grievance piling on grievance, until the room was saturated with discontent. Xiao looked as though she'd seen this performance many times before. She kept her polite professional smile in place. Ladies and gentlemen, Director Liu had intended today to share some very good news with the shareholders. The Liu Group has secured the latest chip technology. Development of the new flagship device can begin immediately. She also wanted me to convey this clearly. Any shareholder who has reservations and wishes to withdraw their investment, please feel free. Xiao had been personally cultivated by Mr. Liu as his most trusted aide. In her early 30s, she already operated with the seasoned precision of someone decades older. Over the past year, it was largely thanks to her guidance that Celine had managed to navigate the Liu Group's complex operations at all, and to hold her ground in a capital circle that would devour the unprepared. A handful of shareholders making noise. Xiao could silence them in a few sentences. The Liu Group's partnership with rooming technology was in place. The most advanced chip on the market was now theirs. Not only could the new flagship device go into production immediately, every smart home product and vehicle under the Liu Group's umbrella would soon be powered by this chip, positioning them at the front of their respective industries. When that happened, the Liu Group's valuation would surge, potentially surpassing the Harwick family, who had been in commerce for 6 generations. Anyone who chose to pull out at this moment would be the biggest fool in the room. And so, the moment Xiao finished, the room went quiet. Silence settled over the conference room. After a long beat, one voice drifted out. If Director Liu has something urgent to attend to, let's reschedule the meeting. Whenever she's free, let us know and we'll come back. The others followed, pulling on their most obliging smiles as they filed out one by one. Outside, the rain had started to ease. Celine pressed the accelerator without hesitation. She drove at full speed towards Silas Hall. The driver had just called to report. Silas Hall was in disarray. Something about me collapsing in the rain. She had no patience left for those shareholders. Nothing was more important than Adrian. When I finally pried my eyes open, the first thing I saw was Celine's face, pale and perfect, with a jawline so sharp it could probably set off a metal detector. Wait, why was Celine here? I forced my dry eyes to move. And there was Silas, sitting at the bedside, staring at me with an expression that clearly wanted to be stern, and couldn't quite manage it. My voice came out barely above a whisper. Master, don't call me that. I have no student like you. Silas gave a cold huff and turned away. He clearly ached for his student, and was working hard to keep the active anger going. I pressed my colorless lips together and looked down quietly. Grandmaster, Silas thought. I tell him not to call me master and he actually doesn't. What a heartless little wretch. Silas shot to his feet, hands behind his back, and walked briskly toward the door. I'll go check on the medicine, drink it, and then get out. Vera watched the Grandmaster say one thing mean another performance. She hid to the side and covered her mouth to keep from laughing. Once his figure had fully disappeared through the door, she walked over to the table and poured a cup of warm water. Miss Celine has already told the Grandmaster everything about Mr. and Mrs. Liu's condition. Celine's expression showed no obvious relief. What filled her eyes instead was worry, entirely for me. If she'd known I'd do this to myself, she would never have let me come, no matter what. The Grandmaster has always been like that. Hard words, soft heart, and you are the student he values most. After you knelt in that freezing rain for over 2 hours, how could he possibly hold on to his resentment? Vera passed the cup to Celine. Celine thanked her quietly and took it. I sipped slowly at the warm water Celine held to my lips. The heavy weight that had sat in my chest for so long felt like the rain had finally washed it away. A joy I couldn't suppress crept into the corner of my pale lips. Elder Silas had finally agreed to come. Mr. and Mrs. Liu had a real chance now. Celine wouldn't have to lose them. About half an hour later, Vera brought back my dried clothes. I changed back into the fitted outfit I'd arrived in. I looked at the simple, plain clothes I was leaving behind. I probably wouldn't have occasion to wear something like that again. In the world of money and influence, everything about you, how you dress, what you eat, where you live, could be used against you at any moment. The quiet, unhurried atmosphere of Silas Hall, the simple life. It genuinely wasn't for me. There was a hunger inside me that wouldn't go away. For power, for wealth, for standing. I wanted to reach the highest point. I wanted to climb that ladder steadily and stand, unshakable, at the very top of it. Not to quietly disappear here, nameless, removed from the world, as a humble healer. Thinking back carefully, perhaps Nadia hadn't been entirely wrong to take me away by force. Brutal as her methods were, forcing me to sever all ties with this place. At least she put me back on the path that was actually mine. Vera brought in a bowl of thick, dark herbal medicine. She let out a quiet sigh. Drink this and go. I've prepared 2 doses from the prescription. Miss Celine already has them. I looked at her puzzled. Where's my master? He treated me. That has to mean he stopped being angry, right? Vera set the medicine down gently on the table. The Grandmaster's words were, those on different paths cannot walk together. He forgives you, and with that forgiveness, he lets go of having ever taken you as his student. I looked down and went quiet. Understood. I tilted my head back and drank the bitter medicine to the last drop. I thanked Vera genuinely. Then Celine and I left together. Silas stood alone at the upstairs window and watched the car slowly disappear. He turned over in his mind what Celine had told him. 5 years ago, Nadia had come in person to bring me back and put me under her direction in business management. She had threatened that if I continued wasting time here, Silas Hall would cease to exist in the capital. I knew exactly what Nadia was capable of. Erasing Silas Hall was the least of it. She could have made Silas himself disappear. So I had swallowed it and made the choice, forcing myself to say those cold, unforgivable words, severing years of mentorship with my own hand, vowing never to set foot in Silas Hall again. Celine had also told Silas in detail about everything I had gone through in the years since. Without enough strength of your own, you are controlled at every turn. Every day going head-to-head with those 2 difficult sisters. After discovering I wasn't a Harwick by blood, I pushed even harder to build my own foundation. Nothing I had came as easily as it appeared from the outside. I had grown up carrying immense weight, trapped inside a stone and still fighting my way out. Silas had originally been a Taoist at a mountain temple, teaching himself a mastery of traditional medicine that rivaled any formal training. 1 year, a violent storm flooded the village below. He came down without hesitation, to heal, to help, to save whoever he could, and that was how he met a small boy named Adrian, who had come with the relief effort. He saw something remarkable in that child, and took him on as his final and most prized student. The flood had made his name known across the land. The people he had helped pooled their gratitude and built him this quiet refuge, Silas Hall. Unbothered by the world's demands, he lived as he pleased within these walls. He had no patience for the arrogance of the wealthy, and stubbornly refused to treat those he found distasteful, never caring whose feathers he ruffled. But Celine's words had made him understand. The world I had grown up in allowed me no freedom at all. He had never liked my emotional coldness, but that coldness had been the tool that kept me alive for over a decade. Different roads lead different people. Let his student walk the one that was meant for him. Adrian, are you out of your mind? 2 hours on your knees in rain like that? Celine's brow was furrowed tight. She reached up and pressed the back of her hand to my forehead. Then she pulled me close into her arms. Slight fever. Are you cold? I shook my head slightly and let myself settle into her arms, the faint citrus scent on her. A real quiet smile reached the corner of my pale lips. I feel much better after the medicine. I've been training in judo for years. A little thing like this won't slow me down. Celine's brow didn't ease. She pinched my cheek with a gentle kind of grievance, careful not to actually hurt. Didn't I tell you not to push yourself? My hand settled naturally around her waist, the ease in my posture, a deepening trust that had been building for a long time. Celine, I never had much of that warmth growing up. I don't want you to lose yours. Something shook in Celine's eyes. She had come to Silas Hall herself before, pleading with him. But Silas had deep contempt for wealthy elites, and once he found out she was connected to me, his wayward student, he'd refused to engage with any of her requests. He had said, cold-faced, they're in a hospital, only unconscious, no immediate threat to their lives. A vegetative patient is still alive. They're not dying today. I'm of limited use here. Let the hospital doctors handle it. On the subsequent visits Celine made, she couldn't even get through the doors. She had known. Only I could bring Elder Silas out. And I had known it too. Back at the Linden home, a single dim lamp still burned in the living room. Helen was still up on the sofa waiting for Lyra. Helen got up and brought a glass of warm water from the kitchen. She asked casually with concern. You're back. What kept you so late tonight? Lyra dropped onto the sofa, exhaustion written all over her face. She took the cup her mother handed over, and drank the whole thing down in one go. I had 2 night scenes in the drama. We just went ahead and shot both tonight. Helen looked at her closely for a long moment. When Lyra finally set down the cup, Helen reached up and gently touched her left cheek. Her brow furrowed sharply. What happened to your face? Why is it red? And are those fingerprints? Look closely, the outline was unmistakable. Someone had slapped her. Hard. Lyra gently moved her mother's hand away, keeping her voice easy. It's nothing. The scene called for it. Looks worse than it is, it doesn't hurt. But no matter how firmly she said it didn't hurt, a mother who saw it knew better. Helen rushed to rummage through the cabinet until she found the ointment. Put this on and it'll heal faster. Otherwise you'll walk into school tomorrow and people will talk. The cool ointment was dabbed gently onto her cheek. The burning eased almost immediately. Lyra sat there quietly, letting herself be looked after. A thought surfaced. Adrian had gone out in the rain first thing this morning. Her eyes shifted. She couldn't help asking, has he come back? Helen sighed quietly and said, he came back a while ago, went straight to his room and slept. Didn't even come out for dinner. His color wasn't good. He might be coming down with something. I didn't want to knock and disturb him. Lyra fell quietly into her thoughts. She genuinely wanted to know where he'd rushed off to in the rain. But she also understood. There was a dimension to him that wasn't hers to probe. There were things it wasn't her place to ask about. He probably got drenched and caught a chill. I'll pick up some cold medicine for him tomorrow, just to have it on hand. Lyra looked up again. What about Dad? How did the interview go today? Helen explained. The rain was too heavy. They pushed it to tomorrow morning. So he'll drive you both to school in the morning. Works out nicely. And if Adrian still isn't feeling well, stop by his school and let them know. Come to think of it, it's embarrassing. He's been in school for over 2 weeks and we still don't have his teacher's contact information. We wouldn't even know who to call. We really need to sort that out tomorrow. If something happens at school, they have no way to reach us. I slept deeply and without interruption. When I woke the next morning, I felt considerably better. Just a slightly hoarse throat. No weakness in my hands or legs, nothing serious. I changed into my Crestwood uniform, went to the bathroom, and was in the middle of brushing my teeth in front of the mirror. When Lyra came in, feeling better? She reached up and pressed her palm to my forehead. No fever. She exhaled fully. Any dizziness? You could stay home and rest today if you need to. My mouth is full of toothpaste foam, so my words come out a little muffled. No need. You look fine to me. Those bright eyes of his catch the light like scattered stars. Genuinely striking. Lyra finally lets herself relax. She lifts her lips into a warm smile. As long as you're feeling okay, that's all that matters. Dad has a job interview today. He'll drop us off at school on his way. She hesitates for a long moment, then finally can't help herself. Where did you go yesterday? You left so early. Just ran an errand for a friend, I say, keeping it casual. Lyra reads the room and doesn't push further. Helen has made ham-fried rice for breakfast. She figures that just because she sells black rice balls at her stall doesn't mean the kids should be eating them every single morning. Too much of anything gets old, so she goes back to what she's always done, cooking something different for the kids every day. The sun still hasn't shown its face today, but at least the rain has finally stopped. This weekend, I've dealt with the forced engagement situation threatening Celine, and smoothed over the tension between me and Silas. On top of that, I've managed to bring Silas in to treat Celine's parents. There's a lightness in my chest I can't quite put into words. Even the plain fried rice tastes good enough that I go back for more. Shoes on, ready to head out. Ray's in noticeably good spirits too. The rain stops right on the day of my interview. Now that's a sign. B is the first one to dash to the entryway cabinet. She claims the little stool as her own and moves fast, pulling her socks on with impressive efficiency. But the laces are a mess. The moment B tries to bolt for the door, Lyra strides over and presses her back down onto the stool. She crouches down and ties B's laces without a word of complaint. I watch the two of them. It's a quietly perfect moment. I drop onto the sofa and start venting about Jade. Neither she nor Nadia are exactly good people, and who comes out on top between those two is anyone's guess. If I knew what was actually going through Jade's head right now, I'd slap some sense into her. Every single one of them has completely lost the plot, treating my future like it's some kind of game. What I don't know yet is just how far off the rails those two have actually gone. My informant calls in with a report. According to Joe, Jade stormed straight into the executive office and landed a full-force punch on Nadia, without a single word of warning. Then the two of them went at each other like it was a back-alley brawl, all dignity gone. Now they're both flat on their backs in the hospital. A scuffle bad enough to hospitalize both of them? I frown hard. I'm starting to wonder if Joe has been flipped, putting on a show of how bad things are to earn my sympathy for those two. Joe looks deeply uncomfortable. The corner of his mouth twitches in a way that doesn't look voluntary. Sir, here's what actually happened. It started with Jade bursting into the executive office and grabbing Nadia by the collar. She pulled back and drove a punch straight into Nadia's right cheek, full force. You insufferable woman, she spat. You actually think you can marry Adrian? Keep dreaming. Take a good look at yourself. You think he'd ever want someone as dull as you? That would be the day. Nadia didn't see it coming. She touches her tongue to the blood seeping from the corner of her lip. The metallic taste seems to unlock something inside her, something violent she's been keeping tightly leashed. Something dangerous flashes in her eyes. She snatches a glass ornament off the desk and hurls it at Jade. You want to talk about nerve? You couldn't even get him to leave with you. Lucky for Jade, her reflexes are fast. The ornament catches her shoulder instead of her head. Half a second slower and it would have been a very different story. And you're one to talk. You couldn't convince him either, so now you want to marry him instead. What a shameless, underhanded move. Have you lost all self-respect? Whether I marry him or not is none of your business. Unless, Jade, you have feelings for him yourself. Get out of here. Don't lump me in with you. But if you think you're marrying, I'm telling you right now, that is never happening. He'd sooner marry me than you. They fight and scream at each other simultaneously, neither willing to stop doing either. One moment Jade has Nadia pinned to the floor, the next Nadia has the upper hand. Everything in the office that can be thrown gets thrown. Everything that can be picked up becomes a weapon. A crowd of staff gathers outside, watching, but not one of them dares step in. Help either side and you're finished either way. It only ends when both of them are flat on the floor, too exhausted to get back up. That's when someone finally works up the nerve to call an ambulance. Both of them are rushed to the hospital. When the damage is tallied, Jade's right arm is badly dislocated, and there's a gash on her forehead. Looks like it came from an ashtray. Nadia has a fractured left leg and a deep cut along her right cheekbone, not to mention the bruises and scrapes from the rest of it. The damage is roughly equal. Both of them are a mess. After hearing the whole story from beginning to end, I pressed my hand to my forehead and let out a long, tired sigh. I almost forgot. These two are both out of their minds. One has no sense of self-preservation. The other has no fear of consequences. Of course, when they fight, it doesn't end with a few scratches like normal people. The most absurd part of all this, even while beating each other senseless, they still manage to drag me into it, throwing punches and screaming at each other, and the whole argument is about who gets to marry me. With that many staff watching the entire thing unfold, God only knows what the clickbait accounts are going to do with this. I realize I've been silent on the line for a while. Joe's voice goes cautious, clearly nervous about how I'm taking this. Sir, are you going to come visit them? Visit them? Haven't they given people enough to talk about already? I hang up. No ceremony. I take a moment to think it through properly. It occurs to me that this fight between Nadia and Jade might not have been entirely spontaneous. Nadia knows better than anyone what it means for the Harwick name to have a brawl like this play out inside the company. Jade never thinks about consequences, but Nadia, she doesn't do anything without calculating the cost. And yet here we are. And somehow it's landed me at the center of the story. These two are playing me, together. The news spreads faster than I expected. Within 2 or 3 hours it's everywhere. The top 5 spots on the trending list. All of them burning with the same story. Not by blood, bound by heart. Harwick sisters come to blows over a man. From fake heir to most wanted bachelor, just how much pull does the Harwick imposter have? It tears through the capital, circle like lightning, and from there, across the entire city. It all falls into place a little too neatly, like someone had this board set up long before the pieces started moving. Lyra carries her tray to the return counter, then she slips into a quiet corner and calls me. I pick up almost immediately. I'm already dealing with it. My voice comes out a little sharp. What's up? Lyra doesn't take the edge personally. Her voice stays easy. Adrian, I heard about the trending stuff. Are you okay at school? Something shifts in my expression. I didn't expect that. I didn't think she'd call just to check on me. I pause for half a second, and when I answer, the edge is gone. I'm fine. The others won't take rumors like this seriously. Don't worry about it. Good. The relief in Lyra's voice is audible. And if things get messy at school, just take a day off and come home. Don't let yourself be put through anything. I hesitate for a moment, then ask carefully. You saw the trending list, and that's all you wanted to say? Like, why Nadia and Jade were fighting over me? Whether any of it is real? Whether I planned any of this? Lyra laughs softly on the other end. Of course I believe you. You're okay. That's all that matters to me. Besides, didn't you say it yourself? Those two are out of their minds. Whatever they say isn't worth listening to. A laugh escapes me before I can stop it. We haven't known each other long. There's still so much we don't know about each other, but Lyra's trust in me is completely unreasonable. Blind, total, and without condition. Go ahead after school. I'll head back later on my own. Don't wait up for dinner. Okay, stay safe. Message me when you're almost home. I'll meet you at the gate. I scroll through the comments. In the capital circle, cheap moves like this are nothing new. People on the inside are barely surprised. But outsiders? They live for this kind of elite family gossip. I curve my lips slightly. I don't bother debating the irrelevant stuff with Rico. I glance down and check my messages. There are new messages in the family group chat. Ray and Helen have seen the trending topics. They're worried about whether anyone at school is giving me a hard time. Helen chimes in with her own round of concern. Not a single word of blame from either of them. I type a few lines to reassure them and put my phone away. I turn to Rico. Can I borrow your car after school? I want to go by the hospital. Rico stares at me. Wait, what? The timing couldn't be worse. There are going to be paparazzi staked out at that hospital. If you show up right now, you're basically confirming that you still have ties to those two, even after leaving the Harwick family. I give a calm smile. That's exactly why I'm going. I want to see the paparazzi. Rico doesn't understand it, but he respects the call. When school lets out, Rico walks out with me. Celine is already there to pick me up. She gives a casual shrug and raises an eyebrow at Rico with quiet satisfaction. Nobody knows Adrian better than I do. Rico's fist closes. He looks like he's considering doing something about that face of hers. Instead, he throws an arm around mine. No way. Adrian and I already have plans. I'm taking him. A guy doesn't let his best friend walk into that kind of scene alone, and he is absolutely not missing whatever's about to go down. Celine doesn't argue. They've all known each other since they were kids. There's no point in competing over something like this, and she knows that Rico looks out for me at every turn. She has no reason to push back against someone who's on my side. Then it's settled. Rico grabs my arm and pulls me into the car before anyone can say otherwise. The two of us settle into the back seat, leaving Selena to drive. As the car heads smoothly toward Renhe Medical Center, I lean forward. How are your parents doing? Celine glances at me through the rearview mirror. Silas says that after more than a year in a coma, not once opening their eyes, all we can do now is try our best and leave the rest to fate. Rico blinks. You actually got Silas to come out? That man is next to impossible to reach. Powerful people have been trying to get an audience with him for years. After Rico's grandfather passed away, his grandmother's grief made her seriously ill. The family had gone to Silas Hall multiple times and been turned away every time. In the end, I went with his grandmother myself, and only then did Silas agree to treat her. 2 weeks later, when I brought her back, she was completely recovered. The Linden family never met Silas once through all of it. They just had me deliver their gifts of gratitude on their behalf. And now Silas has agreed to personally travel to a hospital to treat the Lias, breaking his own rules to do it. The weight of that favor is hard to overstate. I don't answer Rico's question directly. I just say quietly, Silas's acupuncture has pulled people back from the edge before. Things will turn around. Celine gives a quiet sound of agreement. She hopes for the same thing every day. Even if they can't get out of bed. Even just waking up enough to hear her voice would be enough. The sun is sinking low. Dusk settles in, and half the sky burns with color. The car eases to a stop outside Renhe Medical Center. I scan the area through the window. I spot them immediately. A handful of paparazzi doing a poor job of looking like ordinary pedestrians, cameras in hand. They're not here for news about the Harwick sisters. They're here for me, the man who somehow ended up at the center of all this. I'll wait in the car, Celine says, something light in her voice. Things are already big enough as it is. If his childhood sweetheart shows up alongside him, she'll be written into the story as the other woman. Rico understands why Celine is staying back. He hooks an arm around my shoulder. I'm going in with Adrian. Don't worry. Your guy comes back in one piece, guaranteed. I look down, holding back a laugh. Who said anything about going inside? I told you from the start. I came here to see the paparazzi. Whether Nadia and Jade are dead or alive has nothing to do with me. We push the doors open and get out. Celine leans against the inside of the window. Adrian, I'll be right here watching the show. The paparazzi disguised as pedestrians spot me the second I step out. Their eyes light up like they've struck gold. Cameras appear from everywhere, all of them angling for the shot that's going to make their night. But I stop at the foot of the hospital steps and sweep a cold, unhurried look across the area. By the time they think to hide, it's already too late. Drop the act. You want the story? Sneaking around for a stolen shot is a waste of everyone's time. I'm right here, come say hello. The smile on my face is light and perfectly composed. The presence behind it leaves no room for anyone to push. He carries himself like exactly who he's always been. Paparazzi work in the shadows by nature. They're nothing like proper reporters. Not one of them wants to step forward and be seen. The silence goes cold. Rico lets out a sharp, deliberate laugh and raises his voice. I have contacts at every outlet here. You want to stay hidden? Fine. I'll go have a word with your editors instead. Rico, sole heir to Lingsing Entertainment, one of the top names in the industry. Not one of them dares cross him. They step out one by one and gather in front of me. One of them pulls a pained expression. Mr. Rico, sir, we're just doing our jobs. Please go easy on us. Hey, don't look at me. Rico waves off the pleading. He glances sidelong at me, calm, unbothered, and says, I'm just here to back up my friend. Every head turns to me. I curve my lips slightly. You want a story, don't you? That lands instantly. They catch on without another word. Some pull out their phones and hit record. Others lift their cameras and start filming. The questions start coming. Every one of them suddenly a proper journalist. Mr. Har, one of them starts with the wrong name and gets stopped cold by a single ice-cold glare. They correct themselves. Mr. Linden, the trending topics today have been quite something. Any thoughts? Are you considering either of the Harwick sisters as a potential match? I let out a quiet laugh and make no effort to warm it. You've all been working in the city for years. You've covered enough elite family gossip to fill a library. So you're telling me you don't know that those two and I have never been anything other than at each other's throats? But they've now publicly expressed a desire to marry you, even after you've left the family. So what you're suggesting is, I walked away from one powerful family, and now I'm supposed to find my way back in through the back door? Even if that door means marrying someone I can't stand? I've been in business for over a decade. I have never once heard a more ridiculous strategy for getting ahead. But you did come to the hospital. Isn't that itself a sign of concern? Oh? Would you like to come up with me and watch me slap some sense into them? The room goes dead silent. My tone is hard and leaves no room for softness. Not a trace of concern for their injuries. If anything, I sound like I'd happily make things worse. The crowd starts to reconsider. So the rumors that have circulated through the capital circle were true all along. He and the Harwick sisters genuinely cannot stand each other. Now that he's no longer part of that family, the quiet war has become an open one. These three are clearly done with each other for good. And yet, even the paparazzi are finding it a little strange. They've seen all three of them in the same frame before, and every time the tension could have powered a city. But hearing that the Harwick sisters threw out every shred of dignity to fight over the real and fake heir situation, that's still hard to wrap your head around. Looking at it now, this stunt has all the marks of those two making life difficult for me. On purpose. I've left the Harwick world completely. Different circles, different lives. We may never cross paths again. And yet they still come for me like this. I suppose that's what it looks like when people with absolute power decide to go for the kill. The moment the interview clip goes up, it hits the trending list. Public opinion does a complete 180. Rico twirls pasta on his fork while scrolling through the trending list on his phone. He cannot figure out what his best friend could possibly have done to deserve this, or whose ancestral graves he accidentally dug up. Why do Nadia and Jade keep coming at him, and now they're talking about marriage? As if Adrian is just something up for grabs. The more Rico thinks about it, the more irritated he gets. He clicks his tongue in disgust. No amount of digging could find their common sense. After a full dinner, Rico is dropped off first. He gets out of the car cleanly. Celine moves quickly into the back seat. Between classes and work, the time she gets to spend with me keeps shrinking. She holds onto it more tightly than she lets on. She wants to be beside him as much as possible. And with her parents still unconscious, I'm the only person she trusts completely, the only one she can lean on. Being with me is the one thing that lets her loosen the tension she carries everywhere else. The light in the cabin is dim, just enough to fall across her face where the shadow meets the glow. It makes every feature sharper. The clean line of her lips, the strong bridge of her nose, the depth in her eyes, a jawline that cuts like a blade. I take it in for a moment, and underneath all of it, I don't miss the exhaustion behind her eyes. My voice comes out soft, but the concern behind it is real. You've been busy lately? Celine presses her fingers to the bridge of her nose. It's fine. The chip deal came through at the right moment. The board has finally backed off a little, but the Liu group keeps me stretched thin, and I can't let my university coursework slip, so it never really ends. Despite everything that happened to her family, dropping out was never an option. A degree gives her armor, one less angle for people to use against her. With Xiao handling Liu group operations, Celine is able to carve out just enough time to keep up with her coursework. It helps that she chose economics at Crestwood, and that she grew up surrounded by business from the time she could walk. That combination is the only reason she can hold everything together without her grades collapsing. The Liu group is your family's legacy, I say. Your parents gave half their lives to build it. I'm an outsider. It's not my place to step in. But stop running yourself into the ground. You have to actually rest. Your parents still haven't woken up. If you burn out, who's left to hold the Liu group together? In circles like these, the people who smile to your face and stab you the moment you're down are never in short supply. I've seen enough of those moves to last a lifetime. The Liu group was founded by Mr. Liu and his wife, built at exactly the right moment to ride the wave of the technology boom. In just a few years, a small company became a major group, and the Liu family stepped firmly into the upper tier. The minor investors who put in a little money back then are now sitting on the board. They've grown bold, using a small favor from years ago as leverage to reach for a share of everything. Every one of them wants the chairman's seat. They want real control, and the kind of name that comes with it in the capital circle. When Mr. Liu and his wife went down, Celine was all that was left standing. Half the room wants to pull her off the ledge, and the competition in the industry doesn't help. Plenty of rivals are quietly waiting for the Liu group to fall. She's surrounded on all sides. Holding it alone is almost impossible. Celine had never touched the Liu group's operations before all this. If Mr. Liu hadn't had the foresight to groom Xiao as her right hand, the Liu group would have been picked clean long before now. 2 years ago, when I found out I wasn't a Harwick by blood, I brought Celine in, and we founded rooming technology together. I hold 70% of the shares. Celine invested for 30%. It was my safety net, and a foothold I built for her at the same time. Technology moves fast. The Liu group can't afford to stand still if it wants to last, so I poured serious money into research and development, all of it directed at chip technology. Once we had real results, rooming technology would give me a standing in the capital circle that didn't depend on the Harwick name, and the partnership with the Liu group would give Celine the ground she needed to hold her position. But things moved faster than either of us expected. Kanglin Group developed a competing chip first, and then the accident happened. Celine had to take over the Liu group before she was ready, and Kanglin had leverage over her at every turn. But we had laid the groundwork. Rooming was already in place. Our new chip came through. The partnership with the Liu group held, and Celine found her footing inside the political storm of her own company. Thank you, Celine says quietly. She leans, gently, against my shoulder, a rare moment where she doesn't have to hold everything upright. I reach over and touch her hair gently. I'm the one who should be thanking you. Victor and Claire never paid any attention to me. I had no resources, no real connections. Nothing to build on inside the capital circle. Even with the Harwick name, I was never anything more than a puppet. I never had a real choice about my own life. It was Nadia and Celine who carried me, one openly, one quietly, that let me build the relationships I needed in this world. Learn how to invest, how to run something of my own. Without that, when the truth about the real and fake heir came out, I wouldn't have been able to face it without flinching. I would have just been carried along by whatever happened next. By the way, I'm going to visit Master Z this weekend. He said he wants to cook himself. He's asking if you'd like to come. Master Z spent years living in the mountains. It's rare that he's moved back into the city. As someone he's taken under his wing, I should go. I have to go back to campus this weekend, though. Probably won't make it until evening. That's fine. He's inviting you for a meal after all. As long as you make it in time to eat. The thought of seeing Master Z puts a smile on Celine's face. Every time we see him, he pulls us both into this long conversation. Like he's testing us, trying to provoke something, but he never quite gets the reaction he's looking for. Back at the hospital, Jade is far from recovered. Her arm is wrapped in bandages and held in a sling. She also has a concussion from the blow to her head. The moment the dizziness clears enough for her to move, she immediately goes next door to find Nadia. Nadia is in no better shape. She's lying quietly in her bed, resting. Her left leg is in a cast, elevated. Even so, she hasn't stopped working. The bedside table is pulled out, and she's bent over a stack of company documents. Jade storms in with all the energy of someone looking for round two. Everyone in the room goes rigid. They surge forward to intercept her. Jade, Nadia is badly hurt. Whatever anger you're still carrying, please, let it go. The entire group is waiting for her to come back. She's needed. If you absolutely need to take it out on someone, hit me instead. Jade shoves the human wall aside. She points at her own bandaged head. She really went for it. She almost knocked me senseless for good. The room erupts into overlapping voices, all trying to talk Jade down. Nadia closes the document in front of her. Her voice is perfectly flat. And, if you had, so what? You weren't using it anyway. Nadia. Jade ignites on the spot. She moves like she's going in for another round. The staff throw themselves into a human wall. Your injuries haven't healed. Please, don't do something you'll regret. After several rounds of desperate pleading, Jade barely manages to pull herself back. She fixes Nadia with a hard stare. For the sake of the Harwick group, I'll let this go, but you owe me. That's non-negotiable. To everyone's surprise, Nadia agrees without hesitation. She sweeps a cold look across the staff. All of you, out. I'll discuss the terms with her privately. The staff exchange uncertain looks. They're not comfortable with it, but they follow the order and file out. The door clicks shut. The anger drains out of Jade immediately. She strolls over to the bedside, pulls up a chair, and drops into it. Troy showing up the way he did. Have you found anything? She had flagged this before. Troy somehow obtaining a paternity report linking him to Victor and then showing up to claim his place. The whole thing had felt wrong from the start, so she told Nadia, and Nadia had people looking into it quietly. Adrian grew up in front of us. No matter how much we've fought among ourselves over the years, we don't let outsiders use him. We know exactly who he is, how he thinks, how he moves. Having someone we know nothing about walk into the family, that could compromise everything. I've had people dig into it thoroughly. We still can't trace who provided the paternity report. Nadia's expression stays completely neutral, almost indifferent, but Jade knows better. Even if the sky fell, Nadia would look like she'd been expecting it. She's troubled by this. She just doesn't show it. We've never seen the actual report. If we could find out which medical facility issued it, we might be able to trace it from there. A glint of cunning crosses Jade's eyes. The implication couldn't be clearer. They need to go home and find it. Nadia pushes the documents aside and folds away the table, her voice cool. Whoever tried to use Adrian, they didn't succeed. Time to find someone to make an example of. Get the doctor. I'm checking out. Jade gives a quick okay gesture and casually scoops up the documents from the table. She raises her voice deliberately. You're in this bad a shape and you're still worrying about company business? You're not the only daughter in this family. Why should everything run through you? Your leg is done for. Stay in bed where you belong. I'll take over as president of the Harwick group from here. Outside in the hallway, the staff collectively stop breathing. Letting Jade run the Harwick group? That's not a plan. That's a countdown to bankruptcy. 2 months maybe. They watch Jade stroll out of the ward, documents in hand, looking thoroughly pleased with herself. The staff surge back into the room. You cannot let her do this. There are thousands of people in this company counting on you. Please, think of something. Nadia presses her lips together lightly. Go handle my discharge, right away. I'll get the wheelchair. I'll arrange the car. Meanwhile, Troy has been driving himself crazy trying to understand something. Why had his sisters been back in the country for this long without once coming home? And then, after that fight, they suddenly reappear. Whatever the reason, this is a perfect opening for him. Win their genuine approval. And the title of Harwick heir becomes real. No room for Adrian after that. He puts on his most composed smile, though his eyes can't quite hide the eagerness underneath. He steps forward. How are you both feeling? Are you recovering well? Nadia gives him a single cold glance, says nothing. Her assistant reads the room instantly and wheels her straight back to her own room. Troy's smile freezes. This is exactly what happened at the school gate. Nadia acts as if Adrian is the only person worth seeing, and looks straight through her actual blood brother. Well, long time no see. Jade hooks a crooked smile, hands shoved in her pockets, every inch of her radiating effortless defiance. Troy recovers fast, snapping back into his warm, bright smile. About the homecoming banquet. I'm sorry, I've been terrified of dogs since I was little. I wasn't rejecting your gift on purpose. Don't worry about it. I've already given the dog to someone else. There's always something a little wicked in Jade's eyes, paired with a face that was born looking innocent. It makes it genuinely hard to stay mad at her. Troy loses himself for a second, staring. He drops his gaze, a little self-conscious. As long as you're not upset with me. I'm new to all of this. I haven't found my footing yet. I've made a lot of mistakes. She looks rough around the edges, he thinks, but probably easier to get along with than she appears. Better to start here than try to crack Nadia's stone wall. He presses on carefully. Mom and Dad are barely ever home. My classmates don't seem to like me much. Even Nadia. He trails off. You don't hate me, do you? Jade's expression lands somewhere between a smile and something harder to read. Of course not. You're our brother. Nadia's just single-minded to a fault. Adrian was with her for 17 years. Of course she's more attached. But you're her actual blood. Learn what she responds to, and she'll come around eventually. Troy's eyes light up. He looks at Jade like she's just handed him something. Really? Can you help me? My relationship with Nadia has never been good. If I step in, it'll only make things worse for you. Jade pauses, deliberately, a flicker of amusement crossing her eyes. She takes her time. That said, you are my brother. I do want you to settle in. Nadia collects fine art. calligraphy, paintings, the kind done by real masters. I've heard that Master Z, who's been living off the grid for years, has recently moved back to the city. If you can get a piece of his work and give it to her, she'll see you differently, guaranteed. Master Z is considered one of the finest traditional painters in the country. His reputation in the art world is unmatched. Word that he's moved back to the city has spread like wildfire. Everyone in the capital circle is scrambling to track down his new address. After years of living in the mountains, his return is an event. The elite are practically beating down his door, declaring their love of art and reverence for the old master. And maybe, just maybe, walking away with a few precious pieces. The harder something is to get, the more they want it. Money is the one thing they've never run out of. It stopped being satisfying a long time ago. Hanging a painting that money alone can't buy, that signals taste and influence. But Master Z, as it happens, has a close friendship across generations with Adrian. If Troy goes through all the trouble of tracking down that address, only to get thrown out the door without ceremony, that would be something worth watching. Jade's suggestion is not a suggestion, it's a setup. She's playing him for a fool. But this is only the third time they've met. Troy has no idea what kind of person Jade actually is, or what she's really thinking. He genuinely believes she's trying to help him. He nods, eager and grateful. He's practically glowing. Thank you. I'll go find Master Z right away. Jade watches Troy's retreating figure, all bounce and excitement. The expression on her face goes cold the moment he's out of sight. She literally just told him her relationship with Nadia is terrible. Did he really think she was going to hand him a genuine strategy? What a waste. Not even a flicker of suspicion. His mind doesn't come close to Adrian's, and fooling someone sharp is the only kind worth doing. Jade turns to the attendant waiting nearby. They step forward immediately. She drops her voice. The paternity report Troy had when he arrived. Where is it now? Troy rushes back to his room, riding the high, and grabs his phone. He sends a message to the contacts saved as Clearwater. Hey, I heard Nadia likes fine art and calligraphy. I'm thinking of getting a piece from Master Z to give to her. Does that sound like a good idea? Clearwater replies quickly. You do need to get on Nadia's good side. Otherwise, Adrian could come back to the Harwick family at any time and take the place that belongs to you. I'll look into Master Z's new address for you. Good luck. Saturday morning. I pull on something casual and get ready to head out. Everything's in order. Time to visit Master Z. The Linden family is already moving. Lyra needs to get to Singlen's studio for filming. Ray left early for work. Helen is already at the market running her stall. Since I came back to the Linden family, Ray, Helen, and Lyra have all been quietly generous with me. Considerate but careful. A small distance they keep, not wanting to crowd me or ask too much. I grab the keys and step out of my room. Stay safe out there. Lyra is at the entryway changing her shoes. She's in a hurry. The short drama has 5 scenes left, and it should wrap up within the next day or two. I smile. You too. Make sure you get some rest between takes. Ray's factory is far out, but he's already parked downstairs waiting to drop Lyra off at Singlen's studio on his way. Helen needs no prompting. Since the stall started getting good responses, she's been running on pure adrenaline every single day. Up before dawn to prep ingredients, long gone by the time anyone else is awake. The moment they leave, the apartment goes completely still. I take a slow breath, pull on my sneakers, grab my jacket, and head out. On my way to Master Z's new place. The villa I arranged for him is nearby. A 2-story house, elegantly furnished, nothing excessive. The courtyard is full of green, lush and thriving. 2 osmanthus trees grow there, which is how the place got its name, Osmanthus Court, and his favorite armchair is there too. The old one had long since seen better days. I drafted the design myself and had one made for him. Brand new, placed in the back garden, perfect for sitting in the sun. Out front, the household staff are dealing with a stream of unwelcome visitors, loud newly minted money with no manners. He's retreated to the 3rd floor for peace and quiet. How dare you stop me? Do you have any idea who I am? I'm the heir of the Harwick group. Cross the Harwick family and you think you can handle what comes next? That voice. Master Z pauses his show on his phone. He gets up and crosses to the window. He opens it a crack and looks down into the courtyard. What he sees, a young man draped head to toe in expensive labels, without a shred of grace to show for any of it. Master Z's brow pulls into a sharp frown. Dressed in royalty but born without an ounce of grace. So this is the real heir, the one whose return pushed Adrian out, traded away a pearl for a piece of broken glass. Victor and Claire have well and truly lost the plot. Downstairs, the staff maintains its composure. Sir, Master Xi has an important guest today. He's not receiving visitors. What, you're turning away money? Show a little respect and he thinks he runs the place. Get him out here, now. His voice goes up and his face twists. One of the staff is knocked, off balance and falls. No time to even register the scrape on their palm. They scramble back up and block Troy before he can force his way through. Quite the reception for a move-in. What's all the excitement about? A familiar voice, calm and carrying a faint chill. Troy spins around. The crowd of would-be visitors has already parted, stepping back on their own. I'm standing at the gate, alone. Troy stops dead. He fixes me with the look of someone bracing for a fight. What are you doing here? I smile. Easy, completely unbothered. Visiting Master Z, obviously. Troy reacts like that's the funniest thing he's heard all week. He crosses his arms and looks down at me. You? Trying to get close to Master Z? You must be desperate. What, is the whole Linden family leeching off you now? The words are barely out of his mouth when Master Z appears, face dark. You arrogant little fool. Who are you to say a word about anything here? He points directly at Troy. Adrian is my close friend across generations. I will not have you speak that way in front of my door. Get out. Troy stumbles backward, completely caught off guard. The onlookers cover their mouths. A few can't quite hide the laughter. Troy shoots me a look of pure hatred, completely humiliated. You're nothing. A broke nobody. A fake heir. And you have the nerve to team up with someone and embarrass me in public. You'll pay for this. He hasn't even finished the threat before Master Z cuts back in, cold and final. So that's the kind of person you are. Get as far from my gate as possible. I won't have you dirtying the place. Troy has had enough humiliation for one day. He stands there grinding his teeth, something vicious rising in his eyes. He points at me and shouts himself hoarse. Adrian is the real snake here. He stole 17 years of my life, and now he's getting his classmates to freeze me out. Anyone who runs with him is no better. I raise an eyebrow. Genuinely, I walk toward him at my own pace. That's quite a story you've got there. What? You think I was smart enough at birth to crawl into your crib, kick you out and get myself carried home to the Harwick family instead? And my classmates have nothing to do with you. You were the one who treated them like idiots and tried to throw dirt on me. Is it really a surprise that people don't want to spend time around someone who plays those kinds of games? Troy glares at me with everything he has, sputtering with rage, and not a single word of rebuttal comes out. And one more thing, I continue. Master Z and I are old friends. If you want to come at me, fine. But Master Z is one of the most respected artists in the country. Everyone here today came to pay their respects. When you publicly attack his character, you're insulting every single person standing here. The crowd flips in an instant, from spectators to a full-throated chorus of outrage. That's right, a word from Master Z is worth more than money can buy. We came here to pay our respects. How could we stand here and watch someone speak about him that way? Troy is suddenly the target of everyone. The crowd turns on him, voices rising, demanding he be thrown out. In the middle of the chaos, it finally comes back to him, why he came here in the first place. He needs a piece of Master Z's work to win over Nadia. He forces down the towering fury. His voice drops. His posture softens, because it has to. Master Z, my sister is a great admirer of your work. I'm asking you sincerely to sell me one piece. Name any price. Master Z doesn't waste a single word on him. He simply has him removed. The remaining visitors see that Master Z is still in no mood for company, and quietly take their leave. Polite farewells all around, and then they're gone. The staff close the courtyard gate, a long exhale. What a nightmare of a young master. Back with Jade, she's actually a little curious now. Troy has the Harwick title and nothing else. No real power, no connections in the capital circle. So how did he locate Master Z's address this quickly? Whoever is helping him from the shadows, they're not a small player. Master Z turns back around. His whole face opens up and he takes me inside for tea. Adrian, you've finally made time for this old man. Master Z, I know you've just moved. Things must be hectic. I brought some tea I thought you might enjoy. I smile and hold it out to him. Master Z's eyes crinkle into near slits with a smile. He calls to the staff to get the water on immediately. The two of us, one old, one young, settle into the tea room to catch up. One of the staff can't help but notice. It's been a long time since Master Z looked this happy. I let out a quiet laugh and glance over at the staff member standing nearby. You scraped your hand just now, didn't you? Go get the first aid kit. I'll put something on it for you. The staff member is caught completely off guard, waving their hands. Please don't trouble yourself. It's just a small scrape. I can manage. I tilt my head slightly, a light smile on my face. If it's not cleaned properly, it can get infected. And if it does, how are you going to take care of Master Z? I'm not that scary, am I? Adrian stands straight and unhurried, his features clean and sharp, like something carved with careful precision. When he smiles, those eyes curve at the corners, warm like sunlight breaking through. There's a natural ease in him, a quiet presence that doesn't demand anything, and yet somehow makes the people around him feel better just by being there. The staff member finds themselves staring without meaning to. They stand there for a beat too long before finally going to get the kit. The staff member, Summer Shen, is barely in her 20s. Even though she's seen him before, standing this close to someone like him, she can't help feeling flustered. His hands are cool and steady as he works the cotton swab carefully over the scrape. Her face has gone the color of a boiled shrimp. She thinks he carries himself with such care, such composure. And then there's that face. Someone raised with every privilege, and not a trace of arrogance. Approachable, genuinely kind. The kind of person who becomes the center of any room without trying. She lets herself think, if she ever builds something of her own someday, would there be a chance he might actually notice her? Master Z mentioned you're really into music. I worked the swab carefully over Summer's hand, my expression and voice both kept light. A casual topic. Not too close, not too distant. He always keeps that measured space between himself and anyone he doesn't know well, but it's calibrated perfectly, just enough to ease the tension and keep the silence from becoming uncomfortable. The same instinct that carried him through those first days with the Linden family. With something to hold on to, Summer visibly relaxes, she answers. Summer visibly relaxes and answers. I do love it, genuinely, but I'm probably just a little short on raw talent. I've written a few original songs of my own. I've taken them to record labels multiple times for auditions, and still haven't made it through. Just having the nerve to try already takes real courage. Nothing worth having happens overnight. I secure the bandage and tuck the supplies neatly back into the kit. When I look up, there's a soft curve to my lips. When I was first learning how business worked, I put money into plenty of money-losing ventures. I've still got one sitting in my hands right now. Life is long. As long as you keep believing without giving up, you'll get there. Summer stares at me, her eyes bright and full of something. She believes it too, that her day will come. I get up and drape my jacket over my arm. Alright, Master Z probably needs to rest for a bit. I have things to handle at the office. I'll come back when I have more time. Summer walks me to the door respectfully. The Liu Group has officially signed its partnership agreement with Roaming Technology. Not only has the entire Liu Group swung into motion integrating the new chip into product development, Roaming itself has a full backlog of internal matters that need handling. Most of it had been left to Celine to manage. 2 days ago I saw the dark circles under her eyes. I have no choice but to step up and take on my responsibilities as the one in charge. Master Z watches the car carry me away, and lets out a long, quiet sigh deep inside. Those eyes of his have read more people than he can count, and what they see in this boy is someone smooth in every direction, never missing a beat, flawless to the point where there isn't a single crack to find. But sometimes, being too perfect is itself a flaw that's hard to put into words. Take Nadia, polished and refined on the surface, and underneath it something obsessive and completely unhinged. Once you get to know them, you see where it comes from. The Harwick family. All 3 of those children, each one more extreme than the last. Master Z has always worried about Adrian, that the crack in him would take root as he grew, and eventually lead him somewhere impossible to come back from. But fortunately, before that happened, he found the Linden family. Good people, real ones, nourished by that kind of warmth. Master Z believes the boy will change, that he'll come to love the world a little more than he did before. At the studio, Lyra has changed into her period costume, hair and makeup done, sitting quietly to the side as she waits for her scenes. Today's schedule has 2 fight scenes, not staged sword duels, but scenes where she actually takes real hits for the story. She looks down at the script in her hands and lets out a quiet sigh. If she ends up with visible bruises, Helen is going to worry herself sick the moment she sees them tonight. Lyra! Someone calls out. At the sound of the familiar voice, Lyra looks up with a slightly dazed expression. There's Rico. Short hair, radiating energy. 2 warm cups of milk tea in hand. Lyra tucks away the quiet sadness in her eyes and lets a warm smile take its place. Rico, what are you doing here? Rico answers with his usual easy confidence. My wine shop is right nearby. I spotted you heading into this compound today. Figured you must be filming here. Thought I'd stop by. Even though he's only met Lyra twice, there isn't a trace of awkwardness about him. He holds out a cup with a grin. I brought this specifically for you. Does that count as a ticket in? Lyra takes it with a soft laugh. If you want to stay and watch, you're welcome to. Fair warning though, my scenes today aren't pretty. Pretty much the whole time I'm just on the receiving end. Rico looks at her with complete openness, his eyes full of a smile he isn't trying to hide. Doesn't matter. You're that beautiful. Even taking a hit, you'd still be stunning. That unguarded gaze makes Lyra look away, a little flustered. She drops her eyes with a helpless smile and lets the comment go unanswered. The director's voice booms across the set. Everyone to positions, next scene starting now. Rico settles into a seat beside the set, sipping his milk tea, watching Lyra with a face that's basically one big smile. But that smile doesn't last long. Lyra is playing the 3rd female lead, the one who exists to suffer. The male lead puts her through every kind of pain, and she responds with nothing but devotion. She even takes beatings from the female rival without fighting back, and the wooden rods coming down on her are solid hardwood. Rico's brow pulls into a hard frown. He's out of his seat in an instant. What kind of production is this? It's a short drama, not an actual fight. Lyra has already taken the hits. She doesn't dare call a stop mid-scene. If they reshoot, she'll have to go through it all over again. Rico is practically jumping out of his skin. He quickly records a clip and sends it to me. He remembers I have a stake in this company. Even if my bond with Lyra isn't deep yet, he knows I won't stand by while family gets hurt. I've just stepped out of the office, about to go find Rico for lunch. I'm about to ask if he's at the wine shop, and before I even send it, his message hits first. Adrian, look at this. Now, this isn't filming. Someone is coming after your sister. He watches the rod in someone's hands, about to come down hard on her knee. Rico's heart stops. He doesn't think. He just moves, lunging forward and grabbing the rod with both hands. He fixes the person with a hard glare. Is this a production or an assault? The director sees someone who has no business being on set storm into the shot and explodes. We're in the middle of a scene. Who let an outsider in here? Rico wrenches the rod out of Regina's hands and hurls it to the ground. Let's see exactly what kind of production this is. The dull, heavy thud of solid wood hitting the floor stops the director cold. He rushes over and picks it up to examine it. Then he whips around and roars at the crew. What is the props team doing? Why is there a solid hardwood rod on this set? The crew freezes. Not one of them makes a sound. Regina gives a careless shrug. Director, isn't authenticity the whole point of acting? This may be a short drama, but serious money has gone into it. Aren't you counting on this project to build your reputation so you can move up to bigger productions? The director presses his lips together. He can't find a single thing to say back, and it isn't because he cares that much about his reputation. It's that Regina has connections he can't touch. 3rd-generation money, a daddy's girl with a pretty face who's using short dramas as a launchpad before going for the big screen. This is a small operation. Cross Regina, and they won't just lose their shot at bigger productions, they'll be finished in the short drama world entirely. Sensing the shift in the air, the male lead Dorian comes over. His eyes are faintly red. Maybe he hasn't fully come out of character yet, but the look he gives Regina is full of grievance. You slapped Lyra last week. This week you switched to solid rods. You are clearly targeting her, Regina scoffs. So what if I am? The look she gives him is layered with something, My father is the investor behind this production. I perform however I want. Rico carefully helps Lyra to her feet. He shoots Regina a withering look. Big words for someone who thinks money gives them the right to do whatever they like. Lucky Rico moved when he did. If he hadn't, Lyra's knee might have been done for. Worse than the injury he took years ago, the kind you never fully walk off. Regina lets out a cold sound. Her eyes fix on Lyra, who is bent over in pain, with something genuinely ugly in them. Lucky with men, I'll give you that, she says with a sneer. Too bad all that beauty can't cover up how poor you are. The words have barely landed when a figure cuts through like a gust of wind. I stride forward and rip the rod out of her hands in one motion. I look at Regina, cold. The force of it pushes Regina back 2 steps. She rubs her wrist where it stung. Her brow pulls tight. Who do you think you are? Laying hands on me. Do you have any idea who I am? Cross me and my father will make sure you regret it. My expression doesn't move. My voice comes out cold and flat. Let's see exactly how much your family can actually back up. Everyone on set is staring. Even Rico and Lyra are frozen, both of them looking at me like they can't quite believe what they're seeing. The situation is about to spiral. The director scrambles out to step in and smooth things over. Regina isn't someone he can afford to cross. If the funding gets pulled, the people above him will come straight for him. The smart play when you run into someone like this is to know when to quit while you're ahead. He'd assumed Lyra was just a part-timer, someone who wouldn't dare pick a fight with an investor-backed cast member. But before Lyra can say a word, I go first. My voice is cold enough to make people flinch. My sister has been deliberately targeted on this set. If I don't get answers, your career as a director is finished. He has no idea who I am, but the weight of my presence has him sweating. He thinks, which titan did I accidentally offend this time? He pastes on an awkward apologetic smile and lowers his voice to something conciliatory. Sir, please, don't get upset. This young lady is the daughter of Mr. Fang from Morning Wind magazine. Her family is backing this production. We're caught in the middle here. How about we get Lyra to a hospital first? All medical costs will be covered by the production. Morning Wind magazine. I raise an eyebrow slightly and glance at Rico with a look that asks the question. Rico shakes his head, just as blank as I am. He fires off a message to the group chat. Anyone know a Mr. Fang from Morning Wind magazine? Replies come back fast. A few have vaguely heard of it, but nobody thought twice about it. Others haven't heard of it at all. Good. Nobody knows them, which means they don't register. Rico shakes his head at me again. I pull out my phone and call Mr. Chen directly. He picks up almost immediately. I don't have the patience for pleasantries. My sister is being targeted by the production's backer. Send me Mr. Fang's number. Now. Before he can say anything else, I hang up. I meet the director's stunned look. Let me introduce myself properly. I'm Adrian, lead shareholder of Yunlan Pictures, and Lyra is my sister. The director's eyes go wide, then his legs give out. He sits down hard on the floor. This young man? This is the owner everyone talks about? Before filming started, he'd caught a rumor. The lead shareholder of Yunlan's sister had joined the cast, but nobody that matched fit anywhere in the crew list. He figured it was just backstage gossip. It never occurred to him that the owner had the last name Linden. Regina still hasn't grasped the gravity of this. She keeps her chin up and her tone challenging. So what if you own a share of Yunlan Pictures? This production is funded by my family. In this production, my family calls the shots. Yunlan is just the hired help. She's refusing to back down even when cornered. I toss the rod to the side without looking at it. A cold smile. I move toward her, one step at a time, and the pressure of it keeps pushing her back. I'll handle this. I turn and go to Lyra. Rico isn't letting this go easily. Lyra has always been warm and thoughtful with him, the kind of person who takes care of the people around her. Now she's been hurt for no reason, and he is not standing down. Both sides are people he can't afford to cross. The director stands there like a piece of furniture, not daring to breathe. I glance at him. Cold. Go get a chair. The director bows and nods frantically. He runs off and comes back with his own director's chair, the most comfortable one on set. I help Lyra lower herself into it carefully. She looks up at her brother, decisive, no hesitation. Her body still aches, but something warm is spreading through her chest. She's never seen him lose his composure like this before. The fact that he went this hard, just to stand up for her, tells her something she hadn't been certain of until now. He cares. Mr. Chen's efficiency is as sharp as ever. The number arrives on my phone almost instantly. On one side, his superior. On the other, the money. The director is caught between them and doesn't dare open his mouth, quietly resigning himself to covering whatever damage comes out of his own pocket. The moment the number comes through, I dial. It rings and rings, until the system cuts it off automatically. I call again, patiently. Still nothing. Fine. Not picking up. Looks like the Fang family has already decided to let her sink, which means I have no reason to hold back. Rico, make sure he remembers this. Just don't make it a scene. Regina shrinks back, but her mouth still won't give. Touch me and see what happens. I'm Morning Wind magazine's daughter. Rico crosses his arms. The laugh he gives is sharp and completely unrestrained. A small magazine's daughter, acting like a big shot. What does that make me, the king of heaven? You're a frog at the bottom of a well. The Fang family has money by ordinary standards, and Regina is exactly the kind of brainless third-generation heir that comes with it. But inside the real capital circles, Morning Wind magazine is a nobody, nowhere near the threshold of the elite. Even if Regina gets blacklisted today, Morning Wind magazine won't make a ripple. Adrian, maybe we should just let this go. Lyra sees that Rico and I look like we're serious about this. She looks at me with worry in her eyes, afraid that if this escalates too far, there'll be no clean way out. I tilt my head slightly and raise an eyebrow. The weight in my voice leaves no room for doubt. Regina, come and apologize to my sister right now and today is over. I was never planning to get physical. Rico gets it. We're law-abiding business people. We were just making a point. Regina has been spoiled from the day she was born. She has never once had to swallow her pride like this. A public apology, that kind of humiliation, is something she absolutely refuses to accept. Go ahead and blacklist me then. You two don't know what you're walking into. Wait until my father gets here. Even Dorian can see it now. These two men are not what they appear. He genuinely cannot understand how Regina is still refusing to back down even when it's this obvious. But none of it is his problem. He couldn't care less what happens to Regina. If she gets thrown off set, she brought it on herself. Dorian comes over with a first aid kit. He crouches gently beside Lyra, his eyes full of urgency and concern. Where does it hurt? Let me at least do something for it. Lyra declines with a polite smile. I glance at Regina, still fuming, then at Dorian, playing the eager gentleman. The picture assembles itself in my head. I have zero interest in this kind of melodramatic love triangle. What I know is that my sister has been hurt, and that is not something I let go of easily. Since Regina won't apologize properly, I have more than enough ways to make her. Mr. Fang won't pick up, then I'll make him call me back in tears. I pull out my phone, reach out to a few people, and say exactly what needs to be said. Nothing more. Less than a minute after I hang up, Mr. Fang's number appears on my screen. I put it on speaker without ceremony. Mr. Fang's voice comes through, all flattery and nerves. Mr. Linden, my deepest apologies. I was in a meeting and only just saw your missed call. The moment Regina hears her father's voice, that tone, she goes completely still. She stares at me like she can't compute what she's hearing. How is this possible? Her father, who has always been the authority in every room, talking to a young man like that. I answer with something between a smile and something colder. No trouble at all. If you'd waited any longer to pick up though, you might not have had many meetings left to attend. Regina immediately raises her voice. Dad, this person is bullying me. She's convinced that no matter who this person is, her father will take her side. What she gets instead is her father's voice, explosive, shaking the phone speaker nearly to its limit, in a tone that doesn't leave room for a single question. You reckless, ungrateful girl, I have spoiled you beyond all reason. Apologize to Mr. Linden. Right now, Regina can't believe what she's hearing. Not only is her father not standing up for her, he hasn't even asked if she's okay. He's only focused on making her bow. This man who has never once raised his voice at her, who bought her every designer bag she ever pointed at, is screaming at her for a stranger. When no response comes, Mr. Fang forces down his fury and delivers his warning through gritted teeth. If you want to keep living the life you have, you will apologize. Right now. And you will keep apologizing until Mr. Linden accepts it. Even Regina understands now. The words couldn't be clearer. This young man standing in front of her has the power to end everything her family has. If she walks away today without his forgiveness, the Fang family might not survive the week. The humiliation is almost suffocating. But the moment she pictures a life without money and privilege, swallowing her pride suddenly doesn't seem like such a big deal. She takes a breath, walks to Lyra, drops her head, and wears the expression of someone holding something back. I'm sorry, what I did was wrong, please. Be the bigger person and forgive me. The words come out barely louder than a whisper. Lyra hears every word perfectly, but she's not the kind of person who wants to push someone to the absolute edge. She's about to say it's fine, and then my hand lands on her shoulder. I'm clearly not satisfied. My voice is exactly what it always is, clear and cold. Where did all that attitude go? Suddenly you've gone quiet. My hearing isn't great. I didn't catch that. Regina's face flushes deep red. She grinds her back teeth for a long moment, then decides she doesn't care about her dignity anymore. She raises her voice and says it again loud and clear. I'm sorry, I know I was wrong. Please forgive me. The faintest curve touches my lips. And what exactly were you wrong about? She squeezes her fists and answers. I shouldn't have switched out the props without permission and kept filming. I was deliberately making things difficult for you. I'm asking you to forgive my recklessness. That's what I was waiting for. I bend down and lean close to Lyra's ear. Does that feel like enough? A small smile settles on Lyra's lips. She gives a gentle nod. She knows when to show mercy, and she knows that push a cornered dog and it bites back. Let it go, she says softly. This is enough. I don't even notice it happening, but something in my chest quietly softens at the sound of her voice. I straighten up and look at Regina. Since my sister has chosen to let it go, so will I. But you used your position to settle a personal score. An actress was seriously hurt because of it. Production has been delayed. I'm notifying you now in my capacity as lead shareholder. You are officially removed from this Yunlan production. Any future Yunlan project? Don't bother showing up. Regina doesn't have an ounce of attitude left. Fine, she won't film. She'll call it a break. As long as the Fang family's assets survive, she's still the carefree heiress she's always been. There'll be other ways forward. Hearing that things have settled, Mr. Fang ventures carefully from the other end of the line. Mr. Linden, regarding Morning Wind's investment in the production. Since my sister has decided not to pursue this further, I answer, my tone flat. I have no reason to cut off your livelihood either. The call ends. Regina makes her exit from the set. Head low, all the swagger gone. With the mess cleared, I finally have a moment to check on my sister. Go change out of the costume first. I want to check whether anything's been hit deep. The director, ever the reader of rooms, quickly calls over 2 female assistants to help. He gets one ice-cold look from me. Everyone back away from my sister. That one sentence freezes every person on set. Not one of them steps closer. Rico dusts himself off and jogs over to help. The two of us flank Lyra on either side and walk her toward the makeup room. Dorian follows behind with the first aid kit. Once Lyra is settled in the chair, Dorian sets down the kit and, reading the room, steps outside with Rico. I lock the makeup room door, help Lyra out of the layered period costume, just the outer robe. Lyra doesn't make it awkward. She cooperates and shrugs it off. Seeing the increasingly dark expression on my face, Lyra reaches up and squeezes my cheek. You already cleared them all out. Why are you still making that face? You're surprisingly unbothered, I say flatly. How are you smiling right now? You knew Regina was out to get you. Why didn't you say something to the director sooner? You're here for a part-time gig. Is it really worth putting yourself through this? I genuinely wonder sometimes. All of this, for a few hundred in background actor pay. You suffered through all of that without saying a word, absolutely clueless. Lyra is honest about it. She came in as an investor-backed cast member. The whole set treated her like royalty. I didn't want to poke at that. I was afraid it would cause trouble for you. She had no idea what I was holding. If today hadn't happened the way it did, she still wouldn't have known I was the owner behind the scenes. If I'd pushed her and she'd taken it out on your business, everything you've worked for, that would have been far worse. I touched the tip of my nose, a little caught off guard. That's on me. I should have been more open with the family. I never mentioned the companies I'm involved in, never talked about my connections. A short pause. Even so, you don't stand there and take it. Worst case, you just don't do the show, Lyra explains carefully. I heard this production has real traction. I wanted to use it as a chance to build some experience, get my face known in the short drama space. Even if I don't end up in the entertainment industry long term, I want more ways to earn. I looked into the rates. Regular part-time work pays a couple $100 a day, but if you have a name, it's counted in the tens of thousands. I'm not hoping to blow up overnight. I just want to raise my value bit by bit, save more, take some weight off the family, and make the effort you put into coming to that audition with me worth something. That pulls a long, helpless sigh out of me. I drag a chair over and sit beside her. I look her in the eyes. Money is not something you trade your body for. You need to keep things in order. Your first priority is university. Side work is just for the experience. The only thing worth pouring everything into is work you actually love. When I was learning through investment, winning or losing money, I didn't care, which is why I never interfere with the smaller ventures. But the core company is different. That's the foundation I've carefully built, the one that's had real people and real effort poured into it. That is where my real ambition lives. You can't let petty short-term gains trip you up. Narrow thinking keeps you locked in a small circle, and once you're in it, moving up becomes nearly impossible. Lyra sits with the words for a moment, chewing them over carefully. A soft smile touches the corner of her lips. Duly noted, lesson received. I've caused you so much trouble today, and you came all this way just to back me up. Something flickers in my eyes. My lips press together, a little uneasy. I can't even sort out what I was feeling. All I know is that the moment Rico's message came through, something in me wouldn't settle, and I came. When I heard what she'd said, those ugly words, my mind went hot. I almost reached out. That's not who I used to be, but watching someone go after my sister, I couldn't hold it down. A smile spreads across Lyra's face. Her brother, tough on the outside, soft on the inside, is, in her eyes, the most endearing thing she's seen. She understands. He's been through a lot. This kind of straightforward family love, it's still new territory for him. So when he acts on instinct to protect her and care for her, there's always this awkward stiffness around the edges, like he doesn't quite know how to carry it. She doesn't want to push him. She shifts the subject with easy naturalness. How did you get Mr. Fang to fold that fast? I answer like it's nothing. You grab hold of his funding pipeline, that's all it takes, as if this is something anyone could do before lunch. I work the antiseptic swab over her injuries and explain, without much fuss. Business is ultimately a system of exchanged interests. Capital across every sector is interconnected, each one held in check by the others. I don't have reach into every corner, but that doesn't stop me from weaving the web. When ordinary people hit trouble, they spend months begging around, throwing money at gifts, and still end up at someone else's mercy. In the circles I move in, most of the time it's one phone call. That's why building connections has always mattered to me. If I happen not to know anyone in a given space, I don't mind casting a wide net and investing in rising players, cultivating a few pieces I can call on when I need them. I'm 17, I'm willing to spend 10 years setting the board. By the time I hit my peak at 27, every one of those connections will be the sharpest blade I have. No matter how you calculate it, that investment will never lose. I ask out of nowhere, do you actually like acting? Answer me honestly. The entire script is just different ways of making your character suffer, and then you've got Regina using it as cover for a personal vendetta. You'd have to be out of your mind to actually enjoy this. A laugh escapes me before I can stop it. Outside the makeup room door, Rico leans against the wall, working through the tapioca pearls in his cup. He listens to the exchange between the two of them inside, and the grin on his face refuses to go away. God, watching Adrian lose his cool back there was something. Dorian, beside him, looks deeply troubled, and completely unable to figure out what Rico finds so enjoyable about any of this. Lyra went through all of that, and this guy is taking it all in stride with his milk tea. The makeup room door opens a crack, and Dorian moves toward it before it's even fully open. His eyes are faintly red, his expression all wounded conscience. I'm so sorry. Today is my fault. I didn't handle it, and you ended up suffering for no reason at all. Lyra blinks at him, faintly puzzled. I roll my eyes without bothering to hide it. This male lead, has the drama gotten to his head? He started to believe he's the romantic hero. Dorian bows his head, guilt all over his face. There's an unmistakable sadness in his eyes that he can't quite conceal. Regina has always been fixated on me. She must have seen something between us and let jealousy drive her to it. This is because of me. I'm the one who hurt you. Dorian has the face for this kind of moment. Idol-level features, bright eyes that carry weight when they look at you. When he apologizes with that faint redness in his eyes, it's the kind of thing that makes people want to comfort him. In a novel, this would be the devoted second male lead script, word for word. Unfortunately, life isn't a novel. I don't buy this kind of performance. And honestly, this particular character type makes me mildly nauseous. Eyes going red at the drop of a hat. Sorry, always ready to go. Like the whole world owes him something. I cut through without mercy. Stop making yourself sound more important than you are. My sister didn't endure any of that for your sake. When I strip it all down, here's what this actually was. Whatever Regina's reasons were, Lyra was there to work, to earn her own money. That's it. From beginning to end, this was nothing more than someone hurting someone else. Dorian has nothing to do with it. Dorian opens his mouth, desperate to say something, terrified I'll walk away with a bad impression of him. I don't give him the opening. I shut it before it starts. Stop. Save it. My sister and you aren't even ordinary friends. This has nothing to do with you. I genuinely don't understand why you're inserting yourself into this. My sister won't be coming back to this set anyway. If all you need is absolution to feel better, fine. On my sister's behalf, you're forgiven. Now please stop bothering us. Dorian stands there completely stunned. A storm of emotions hits him all at once. His hands twist together. He can't get a single word past the blockage in his throat. Everything he wanted to say, I've sealed it off completely. He doesn't have bad intentions, really. He just genuinely feels bad about his conscience. After all, if Regina hadn't had it out for him, Lyra wouldn't have gone through any of this for nothing. Unlike my sharp edges, Lyra's temperament is consistently soft and gentle. Seeing how badly Dorian is floundering, she speaks up, gently, without any edge. My brother is direct. Please don't take it personally. None of this is your fault. Go on. Get back to what you need to do. Even knowing Dorian means well. Rico has had enough of the performance. He pushes his milk tea into Lyra's hands. Come on, let's go to the wine shop and sit for a bit. I've already had lunch arranged. The three of us share a look and turn to go, leaving Dorian standing there completely lost. The director spots Lyra coming out in her regular clothes, and immediately rushes over with a face full of smiles. Lyra, is there anywhere that's still bothering you? Whatever medical costs you have, take them to finance. Lyra keeps a polite, measured smile, perfectly clear on why he's saying any of this. It's entirely for her brother's sake. I lightly take her arm and lower my voice. Are you actually planning to keep filming this? Lyra nods seriously. I took the job. I'll see it through. Call it a proper ending to my first production. I nod. I respect the answer. Then my gaze moves to the director and the temperature drops immediately. Today's incident was a serious production failure. The props team is entirely responsible. Replace every single person involved. If something like this happens again, your time as director is over. The director throws up 3 fingers and swears on them, his voice so firm he nearly bites his own tongue. You have my word. Absolutely, completely. 100%. Never again. The 3 of us walk out of the set side by side. We make our way at a comfortable pace to Rico's wine shop. The shop has a tasteful name. The space itself is a decent size, nothing extravagant. Inside, 6 temperature-controlled wine cabinets line the walls. At the back sits a rosewood reception table. The table is already loaded with food, the colors and presentation. I recognize it, Capital Grand Hotel's signature dishes. Rico ushers Lyra to a seat with warm enthusiasm. He props his chin in both hands and beams at her. Lyra, what would you like to drink? I've got fresh pressed grape juice, chilled watermelon juice, rich mango juice, fresh orange juice, and sweet sugarcane juice. Lyra blinks at the list, a smile tugging at her lips. This place has such elegant decor. Why does the menu sound like the fruit stall downstairs? Rico grins until his eyes disappear. Whatever you want, I'll make it happen. All natural, all freshly pressed. If it weren't for Lyra's injuries, and the fact that this is her first time here, he would absolutely be opening a bottle of something far more expensive to mark the occasion. Since Lyra doesn't follow the business world, Rico and I silently agree to keep the conversation around the shop itself. The meal is warm, easy, and genuinely enjoyable. Lyra looks around with curiosity. Is the business doing well? Rico swallows and explains. Honestly, it runs on support from friends in the circle, but I've got a few solid sourcing connections. When someone wants something specific, they come to me. When you strip it down, this business is all about who you know. Whenever someone in the circle is hosting a banquet, an engagement, or needs gifts for a holiday, they come to him and take a few cases home. The demand for wine in elite circles is enormous. The shop's revenue is quite respectable. At least better than Adrian's little hot pot restaurant experiment. Lyra's curiosity flickers. What's the most expensive bottle you have? Rico tilts his head and thinks about it carefully. The most expensive one currently on display is $390,000. If someone needs something even further up the scale, they put down a deposit and I go source it from abroad. Tens of millions going into a single bottle. That's not unusual. Lyra's eyes go wide. Even during the Linden family's best years, she never encountered wine at that price, let alone the kind worth tens of millions. I laugh softly. Don't let the number scare you. We actually just drink whatever's been sitting around. The million yuan bottles are investments. No matter how wealthy someone is, nobody cracks something like that open just to have with dinner. Lyra sits with that for a few seconds. Then she catches herself and laughs at her own reaction. After a satisfying meal, I help Lyra up and say our goodbyes. Lyra, tonight I'm taking B to see Master Z. There'll be a few business contacts there too. I don't want to put you in an uncomfortable situation. Let me take you home to rest first. Of course, go ahead. Lyra is someone who always knows where the line is. Master Z is her brother's close friend across generations, and also the mentor who first opened B's eyes to art. But for someone of Master Z's standing, you don't just show up. You ask first, make sure it's welcome, then confirm the visit. The car stops smoothly outside the complex. I carefully help Lyra up the stairs. Don't say a word to Mom and Dad about the injuries, Lyra says. I don't want them worrying over nothing. I nod. Understood. Then be careful when you shower tonight. Keep those wounds away from the water. I'll redress them when I'm back tonight. Lyra gives my shoulder an affectionate pat, the warmth radiating off her quietly. I watch her for a brief moment, caught off guard by it. Then I let out a quiet, soundless sigh inside. No wonder Rico spends every waking hour staring at her. He can't help himself. After leaving Lyra, I stop by the mall on the way and pick out a few quality gifts. Then I drive to Master Z's. He's in the living room quietly enjoying his tea. I set everything I brought down on the rosewood table. Master Z chuckles at the sight of it. Well now, you actually brought things, all for this old man, I presume? I settle into the leather sofa and accept the warm cup of tea Summer hands me. Can't exactly show up empty-handed and expect a meal. I picked out some good quality cordyceps and fish maw. Have the housekeeper make you soup with these regularly. And since tomorrow is the Mid-Autumn Festival, I brought a box of mooncakes to go with it. At the mention of good mooncakes, Master Z's eyes light up. He leans in immediately. Is it the double yolk lotus paste? My favorite? I look at him flatly. Your blood sugar still hasn't come down. You really should be cutting back on the sweet, high-sugar ones. That said, I bought exactly the ones he wanted. Master Z cheerfully opens the box and produces the pastries inside. Every single one of them hand-selected to match what he loves. These aren't for unlimited consumption. Summer is watching. 2 pieces a day. That's it. Master Z pouts a little and concedes with mild indignation. Yes, I know. Young as you are, you run a very tight operation, always forcing me to drink those bitter concoctions. They haven't been chatting long. When Celine arrives, a little breathless, arms full of beautifully wrapped boxes. Master Z, it's been too long. Celine greets him with an easy, familiar smile. Master Z puts on the air of a put-upon elder and gives a theatrical huff. Well, Director Liu actually remembered this old man still exists. Celine laughs at that. I'm here to make it up to you. In person. Master Z takes the gifts. Heavier than he expected. A tailored premium suit, a pair of handcrafted leather shoes with soft soles, wild ginseng, dried deer antler. Why does everything smell like medicine? Celine laughs outright. Drink more tonic soup. It's good for you. B has her wide, round eyes fixed on Celine, absolutely unwilling to look anywhere else. This lady is so beautiful. Even more beautiful than the stars she's seen on TV. She edges over to me and drops her voice to a whisper. Who is she? Master Z's sharp ears catch it before anyone else can respond. That is your brother's future wife. Call her sister-in-law. Celine's composed face goes red. I shoot Master Z a glare, visibly done with him. Then I turn to B with complete seriousness. Don't listen to him. This is a close friend I've known since we were little. Just call her Celine. B nods, polite and attentive. She stands up from her chair properly and greets her. Hi Celine, I'm B, Adrian's little sister. Celine crouches down to eye level and holds out a small gift bag. Hi B, this is a little something I brought for you. B glances at me with a question in her eyes. I give the smallest nod. She accepts it with both hands, her voice bright and sweet. Thank you, Celine. Celine reaches out and gently touches her hair. You're welcome. Next time, bring me one of your drawings as a gift in return. Master Z ties on his apron with obvious delight and disappears into the kitchen. Summer follows to help with the washing and cutting. B settles quietly on the sofa, turning through the art book she brought with both hands. Celine settles naturally into the seat beside me. Right now, she's like a small, exhausted cat. She lets her head fall gently onto my shoulder. I reach back and take her hand. It's a little cold. Tomorrow, hospital first to see your parents, or straight to the airport for Country K. Her eyes stay closed. The fatigue in her voice is unmistakable. Hospital in the morning to see Mom and Dad. Book the afternoon flight out. This isn't performance. She's genuinely hollow from overwork. Her voice carrying a rawness she can't hide these past few days she's been in the office around the clock, just to clear enough space to be here for the Mid-Autumn Festival. All of it just to spend the holiday with the people she cares about. She mentions she's going to Country K to visit family, and that something has come up in Yunling that needs handling. This trip will likely keep her away for over a month. I lower my eyes, say nothing. I turn something over in my fingers and answer quietly. Work comes first. I'll keep an eye on the hospital for you. She follows up without a pause. There may be things that need your attention too. The new product is still in development. We just signed the contract. This is exactly the kind of moment when things can go wrong. Understood, I say. Have Xiao reach out whenever I'm needed. With the work arrangements settled, Celine sits up. Something important surfaces in her expression. That thing you brought up before. There's been some movement. I pause, then it clicks. She means Troy's unexplained appearance at the Harwick family's door. I saw the paternity report Troy brought with him. I know which medical facility issued it, so this isn't completely blind searching. Celine had people look into it. She pulled the surveillance footage from the hospital. It confirmed that Troy personally delivered the sample and personally collected the results. But when Xiao was at the hospital, she ran into someone working for Nadia. Nadia and Jade are apparently suspicious of Troy's real intentions as well. I touch my chin, thinking, Troy couldn't have obtained a sample from Victor on his own, so there's definitely someone helping him. But that's what makes this strange. If whoever is behind this genuinely wanted to help Troy, why not just hand him the results directly? Why make him personally take the sample in? Why let him show up on surveillance footage? That leaves tracks, obvious ones. If Troy is genuinely the Harwick family's biological son, his return is entirely justified. Whoever helped him did something enormous. They could easily use that to get close to the Harwick family. So why stay hidden? Celine takes a sip of her tea. The earlier suspicion was that what happened back then wasn't a simple mix-up at birth, that someone did it on purpose. But I had people check the hospital where you were born. Something that happened over a decade ago. There's nothing left to find. A strong unease moves through me. My instinct says this goes much further than anyone has seen yet. Because infants born in the standard ward and infants born in the private very important person ward, they're not kept on the same floor. Not ever. Whoever arranged the switch went to extraordinary lengths. They moved me, someone who should have been in a standard ward, into the top floor private suite. What was the point? What real benefit could anyone get from swapping two newborns? This is too complex. I feel like my head is about to give out. Untangling this is harder than any investment analysis I've ever done. I let it go. Since Nadia and Jade are looking into it too, the truth will surface eventually. Things I can't figure out, I don't spend energy on. Brain cells are better conserved for figuring out how to make money. Money is the only thing that's truly yours. Celine can't hold back a laugh. You don't need to worry about this. I'll be by your side every step of the way. I put on a look of exaggerated indignation. Someone is about to disappear for over a month. Who exactly is being there for whom? Celine reaches over and hooks her arm around my shoulder. She gives my ear a gentle squeeze. The warmth in her eyes is the kind that doesn't dissolve. It really is hard on you. I'll bring back something worth it when I come home. And if you miss me, call anytime. I give her a flat look. Who has time to think about you? Don't flatter yourself. Celine laughs quietly. Still the same, saying one thing and meaning another. The food comes to the table before long. It's rare for all of them to sit down like this, and rare that Celine is here today. Master Z opens a good bottle to mark the occasion. Summer and Celine have a little with him. B and I are stuck with chilled orange juice. Over at the Harwick side of things, it's a rare gathering. The penthouse is Nadia's private residence. Normally it's just her. Right now, Jade is lounging cross-legged, swirling a wine glass with easy elegance. She's sprawled in the chair across from Nadia, unhurried. You're really not going to bring Adrian back? Nadia looks down and takes a slow sip. When she answers, it's only a few words, but the meaning couldn't be clearer. He has the Linden name now. Jade's brow pulls together. She sets down her glass. Linden name or not, you're just going to stop caring? Just leave him in that rundown place? Sharing a tiny room with everyone else? Taking the bus to school every morning? He was our brother for 17 years, even if he never got the full weight of that love. He grew up with everything. Fine clothes, good food, all of it. How can you just watch him struggle out there? Someone like him, he can't take hardship. In Nadia's mind, without warning, comes the memory of seeing Helen from a distance, looking at Adrian with eyes full of pure, open adoration. Something flickers in Nadia's eyes. She pulls herself back and speaks without inflection. He has at least 3 properties under his name, liquid assets over 5 million. Staying with the Linden family is his own choice. If he didn't want to be there, he has everything he needs to live completely on his own. Since he chose to stay, whatever his reasons, at the very least he's decided those people are worth being around. He knows he won't allow himself to be mistreated. If he did, he wouldn't need anyone to talk him into leaving. He would have already cut ties and gone his own way. Jade drags a hand through her hair, restless. Then she closes her eyes, worn out. A sigh. Fine, I'm too tired to care. He's grown his own wings, it's not our place anymore. Celine drives B and me home. Just thinking about the way Summer looked at me. She feels it already. A sourness she can't quite talk herself out of. When she speaks, the jealousy is right there in her voice. Could you maybe stop radiating at people? My sense of threat is very real right now. I blink at that, then burst out laughing. That jealousy comes completely out of nowhere. I barely know Summer. The only reason I paid her any attention is business. She keeps her eyes on the road. Are you thinking about helping her? First, I need to hear what she's actually written. After that, I'll decide whether it's worth doing anything. I have zero personal interest in Summer. Listening to her work is about measuring her value, assessing whether she's worth investing in. I know most of the people who matter in the capital circle. My holdings already span almost every sector. But for what I'm actually trying to build, it's not enough yet. I want to move into the entertainment industry. Summer is my first candidate to evaluate. Celine lets out a quiet, helpless sigh, and finds she still can't quite settle. Adrian, I've always been waiting for you. Will you wait for me too? A wide, unhurried curve pulls at my lips. I'm never waiting for anyone. I move forward, constantly, without stopping. Nothing stops me. The only thing that gives you the right to speak in any room is having money and power firmly in your hands. That's the truth I learned inside the Harwick family.